Hey everyone. Hope you're all doing well. We're all about bringing high-quality web novel audiobooks to life, and most of our content is completely free to enjoy. Just a quick note, web novels and web novel audiobooks aren't the same thing. Simply reading a novel out loud doesn't always make for a great listening experience. That's why I go through multiple rounds of rewriting and careful editing for every chapter to make sure the narration flows naturally and immerses you in the story, just like reading it yourself. These audiobooks are not just direct copies of the original novels. I've adapted them for a smoother, more engaging experience. And to be fully transparent, these adaptations are made for commercial purposes, so some chapters are paid content. But don't worry, this process is fully copyright compliant. I do all of this because I truly love web novels and audiobooks. I'm a huge fan, and this story is one of my personal favorites. YouTube update: recently, YouTube flagged some of our content for including mature themes, realistic violence, and darker story elements. As a result, we've decided to stop uploading anything that violates YouTube's guidelines. If you'd like access to the full, uncut versions including the more intense or mature content, you can find them on our Patreon page, where we upload everything first. Available now on Patreon: I Am a Legendary Boss audiobook, Versatile Mage starting with the White Tiger Pendant, Naruto the Wind Calamity, the Necromancer is amassing troops like crazy in the apocalypse, the mighty dragons are dead, Naruto, leader of Hidden Grass Village, Naruto Uchiha's Unserious Saga, your lord has a screw loose, Apocalypse I can see the health point bar, killing monsters drops loot, Starsea Fleet Age of the Lord, my monster fuses everything, Naruto, I traveled with a max level account, Fate in Bleach Unlimited Blade Works, killed for 100 years in Hueco Mundo, Aizen invited me to Soul Society, the world conquest giving birth to become a god, my master only breaks through on the edge of death, Bleach the Invincible Slacker from Rukongai, Naruto's Special Shop, One Piece the strongest female pirate cruise, Reborn as Danzō's grandson, must I offend the entire ninja world, Naruto starting with snatching the Mangekyo Sharingan, Naruto Card King, in Hueco Mundo with Shindu template, Naruto the Hidden Danzō, my journey as fourth Kusagakure, Naruto Troublesome Ninja Haruto, Naruto the Hyuga Mastermind, Bleach the strongest Shinigami, Bleach the 5th Division Captain, Fate Ultimate Antagonist, Fate of DXD, Fate I Heard After Death, you can ascend to the throne of heroes, Fate DXD Archer Reborn, Fate beginning with Type Moon, a Berserk Heart, Fate Grand Order Insert, One Piece take the Uchiha clan to the Grand Line, One Piece don't worry, I'm a doctor, building harem and dungeon with monster girls, DXD, Multiverse the day-to-day life of the Sephiroth hero, I'm the bad guy but heroines are obsessed with me, in Naruto, I have an affair with Mikoto and Kushina, many children bring happiness, a shameless start, Naruto Reborn with a Tenseigan, Naruto sleeping Invincible, One Piece, life choice ask me to kiss marine goddess Hina, reborn as the genius son of the richest family, start by eating jacket fruit model, jacket human devil fruit, the days of being the richest man in the ninja world, the Witcher and Madara Uchiha, villain I possess the dragon Yang Dao physique, all saintesses turns into villainesses, all beautiful girls want to stick with me, interdimensional farming in another world, Naruto from Hidden Leaf Village to One Piece, and more. Most of our content there is free, and it's the best place to follow and support our work. The default audio speed is set to 3x, but if that's too fast for you, just let me know, I'm happy to adjust it. Got a favorite web novel you'd love to hear as an audiobook? Drop a suggestion. I'm always open to new ideas. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, X for the latest updates, new releases, and behind-the-scenes content. Thanks so much for your continued support and happy listening. Chapter 1, This Immortal Has a Filthy Mouth. Fufeng City, under the setting sun. Chen Kaiyu, dressed in hemp garments, was staring blankly toward the nearby city gate, where a sect called Skybursting Gang was recruiting disciples en masse. A chubby man, who claimed to be an elder of the outer sect, was enthusiastically shouting through a wooden megaphone. The annual disciple recruitment event of the Skybursting Gang has begun. Don't miss out as you pass by. The day of becoming an immortal is today. Just by joining the sect, you'll instantly receive 100 coins. His name was Chen Kaiyu, and he had transmigrated not long ago. Today was his 31st day since arriving, and after 30 days of hard labor chopping wood, he had finally saved up over 2,000 coins, allowing him to rent a small house for himself in this unfamiliar city. Chopping wood was a physically demanding job. The employer specifically requested ironwood, a type of tree extremely hard to chop, and the areas where these trees grew were monopolized by local tyrants, charging an entrance fee for anyone wishing to chop wood on their land. He spent 29 days only managing to scrape together scraps of ironwood that the local tyrants neglected, competing with villagers for the sparse growth and earning barely enough daily to make ends meet. He was somewhat clumsy and really couldn't master the skill of chopping wood. Fortunately, on the 30th day, he learned how to chop people. That's how he made a small fortune. Since he had a good day starting his work yesterday, he took a day off for himself today, spending 300 coins to rent a small house, wandered around during the day, and spent a few more coins on pork head meat, peanuts, and a half gin of liquor to celebrate in his house. He took a break for the day and would chop wood again tomorrow. He was looking forward to this feast, the most sumptuous dinner since his transmigration. It seemed a small step, but it represented a significant step in establishing himself in this strange world. His mood was quite good all the way, even excited to hear that a theatrical troupe from the capital would soon enter the city. He went specifically to join the crowd. Before this, his mood had been very good, until he heard the 3 words sky-bursting gang. He began to feel a bit dazed. This oddly familiar unfamiliarity almost made him wonder if he hadn't transmigrated but had fallen asleep instead. This world had immortals, he knew. But he rarely entertained the thought of pursuing cultivation. He just wanted to survive, and if he could be slightly extravagant, to have pork head meat at every meal and to never get caught for chopping people, because even securing food and warmth was hard, let alone dare to think about cultivation. And this sky-bursting gang sect felt tacky to him. Even a mere external elder was an immortal, but why was he shouting so vulgarly like a peddler? Most of the people around merely glanced and passed by. For so long, not a single one paused. Maybe this world's longing for cultivation was really that low? Chen Kaiyu shook his head and did not linger much longer. Perhaps it was just a coincidence in name. At that moment, the theatrical troupe also made a grand entry into the city surrounded by a bustling crowd. The status of performers in this world was not high. But it couldn't hold back the fact that this troupe had a famous capital singer, who performed without selling her body. It was said that a high-ranking official from the capital once offered 3 spirit stones for a night of romance but was tactfully refused. Naturally, many wanted to see what this woman worth 3 spirit stones looked like. He tiptoed for a glance and thought she was all right. It seemed like people in this world hadn't seen much luxury. After watching the spectacle, Chen Kaiyu didn't linger and directly turned and walked towards the inner city. Just then, perhaps he had stood still for too long, or maybe because he was moving against the flow in the crowd. In any case, the shouting elder of the sky-bursting gang noticed him, bellowed, and quickly ran toward him. "Fellow Taoist, halt." Chen Kaiyu's mouth twitched slightly, holding the oil-paper-wrapped pork head and the porcelain bottle of liquor. Without any hesitation, he turned and walked away. "Fellow Taoist, please halt." The voice behind him grew louder. His stride also increased. But after all, being an immortal, the elder was faster and quickly caught up, panting and angrily accosting him with hands on his hips. "What the hell are you running for?" This immortal really had a foul mouth. Since he couldn't outrun him, Chen Kaiyu no longer struggled. Instead, he changed his expression to one of sincere dread, bowed deeply, and carefully said, "Forgive me, immortal. I didn't realize the immortal was calling out to me. May I know what commands you have?" But unbeknownst to the man, Chen Kaiyu's eyebrows furrowed slightly. An immortal? An immortal who could barely run a few steps without gasping for breath. That was a pretty lame immortal. "Don't play dumb." The chubby man, irate, pointed at Chen Kaiyu's nose and scolded, "I am the outer sect elder of the sky-bursting gang, responsible for recruiting disciples in Fufeng City. To cultivate or not, just say the word." A vulgar and physically weak immortal. Seemed like he could be killed with just a couple of swings. Chen Kaiyu unconsciously felt for his wood-chopping knife, yet his expression remained respectful as he straightened up and explained, "Respectfully, immortal, I was born without any cultivation talent, so I never thought about stepping onto the path of seeking immortality. Forget it, never mind." After the man took a few deep breaths, just as he was about to speak, his expression suddenly turned peculiar. "Dude, what did you just say? Cultivation talent?" Chen Kaiyu was slightly startled, at a loss for words for a moment. Were the immortals in this world so down to earth? To use the word dude when talking to mortals? Although slightly perplexed, he still instinctively responded, "Yes." "Ha ha ha ha." Upon hearing this, the plump man drenched in cold sweat wiped his forehead, snatched the pig's head meat from Chen Kaiyu's hand without caring about his image, tore open the oil paper, and began chewing vigorously, noticeably excited. "Very good, very good." What the man didn't see, however, was that Chen Kaiyu's expression had visibly cooled. This pig's head meat was something he had been looking forward to for a month, possibly the happiest event since he had traveled through time. Everything he had done today was in preparation for enjoying this meal. And now, his cherished pig's head meat had just been snatched away by this pig-headed man in front of him, inspiring a hatred far surpassing that of a cuckolded husband. Chen Kaiyu scanned the surroundings. Since a troop had entered the city today, the city gate was crowded with onlookers. The place was bustling, and quite a few soldiers were maintaining order, making it inconvenient to start a fight here. There was a bamboo grove not far away, which might suffice for a chopping spree. Just as he was calculating where to strike, the man finally wiped the grease from his mouth corners. Big hammer 80, how much for the small one? Chen Qiu was stunned, a trace of disbelief flashing through his eyes, thinking he was the only one who had traveled through time, but apparently, it was a group. After hesitating for a moment, 40? Palace Jade Liquor, what comes next? 108 per cup. Good brother. The plump man contentedly hugged Chen Qiu's shoulders, then, after packing up his sky-bursting gang flag at his stall, led Chen Qiu to the nearby bamboo grove. Allow me to introduce myself, my name is Fat Long. Back on Blue Star, I was a startup company CEO. How should I address you, brother? My name is Chen Qiu. Back on Blue Star. I was self-employed. Chen Qiu nodded thoughtfully, getting a preliminary hold on this chubby man, an entrepreneurial company, likely one barely afloat. Outsourced all financing, never paid social security. Guaranteed no holidays on Saturdays, no guarantees of holidays on Sundays. Employees would file lawsuits just as the company was about to collapse. But are you sure your name is Fat Long? Does Blue Star even have that surname? No. Fat Long nodded confidently, I picked it myself. When you're away from home, you craft your own identity. It's so hard to recruit disciples these days. If you don't create a prominent name for yourself, who would follow you? The story I made up for myself goes like this. When I was born, a celestial phenomenon appeared in the sky. A fat 5-clawed dragon circled the sky 9 times before entering my body, proving that one day I would rise to greatness. People can find messages in fish, so a birth accompanied by a 5-clawed golden dragon seems reasonable, right? After taking a deep breath, Fat Long casually took the liquor from Chen Qiu's hand, drank it in one gulp, then contentedly burped. It's been a long time since I had such good food and drink. Chen Qiu looked at the now empty porcelain bottle, touched the woodcutter's hatchet he had in his clothes calmly, glanced around without saying a word, and softly asked, aren't you an outer sect elder of the sky-bursting gang? Can't you afford pig's head meat? Didn't I tell you, when you're out, identities are what you make of them, sky-bursting gang is just me. So you mean you have no sect? Nor are you an outer sect elder? No. You recruit disciples without a sect? With disciples, doesn't a sect naturally form? Chen Qiu fell silent again, saying nothing. Most people would think to establish a sect before recruiting disciples. This man's idea was to have disciples first and a sect would naturally exist. He wouldn't judge who was right or wrong but could only say this man had guts. Then you promise to give 100 yen just for joining? Do you have the money? No money, ah. Fat Long nodded seriously, but I always send new disciples into the secret realm. If they survive, they get paid afterward. If they die, no need to pay. And if they survive, the treasures they bring out from the secret realm will be worth far more than 100 yen. Is the mortality rate in the secret realm very high? Very high. What if they survive and refuse to give you the treasures? I'm in the 6th level of chi refinement realm, definitely stronger than the newbies. If they don't give, I can just take it by force. If you're already at the 6th level of chi refinement, why don't you enter the secret realm yourself? Didn't I mention, the mortality rate in secret realm is very high. I'm a bit afraid of dying, aren't you? I am too. Even so, how will you handle your sect's mountain gate? A sect must have a mountain gate, right? Our sect focuses on having outer disciples travel abroad. Only when promoted to an outer sect disciple can one see the mountain gate. The two exchanged glances, and Chen Qiu found himself momentarily at a loss for words. He just knew it, none of these startup CEOs were trustworthy. This isn't recruiting disciples at all, this is just recruiting people to die for you, and you only offer them cakes without any tangible benefits. No wonder no one is joining. If anyone actually joined, it would be a miracle. Chapter 2, Entry Name, Step by Step. Alright. Fat Long took a deep breath and said earnestly, since we are compatriots in this foreign world, we are practically family now. It looks like you don't quite understand this world yet, otherwise, you wouldn't have mentioned cultivation talent. Let me give you a rough idea of what this world is like. This is a cultivation world. But it's not quite the same as the worlds we've seen in cultivation novels. There's no such thing as talent here, anyone can cultivate if they are willing, or it depends on whether their initial entry is suitable for cultivation. Entry? Exactly. Fat Long nodded vigorously. This world is like a massive cultivation game, with secret realms even having fixed opening times, and there are various leaderboards, such as the Heavenly Pride leaderboard, Beauty leaderboard, Cultivation leaderboard, and so on. Every now and then, there are regional announcements indicating when and where opportunities will arise, and countless cultivators will gather at these locations. There are also things like sect establishment order, city building order, country establishment order, and if you're wanted, you'll have a red name displayed above your head. Right now, I am at the 6th layer of the Chi refinement realm, having just broken through. It's been almost 5 months since I came to this world. When I first got my entry, I thought it was my golden finger, but later I found out that everyone has this thing. Everyone who breaks through to the 1st layer of the Chi refinement realm will get an entry, which is totally random. Most of them are the lowest white entries, like logging sacred body, which can chop wood much faster than others. Like medicinal herb saint hand, it significantly increases the survival rate of planting spirit grass. It's not quite suitable for cultivation, but it can also enter the cultivation world to serve alchemists. Basically, the entry you get when you break through to the 1st layer of the Chi refinement realm will determine most mortals' future career path. The entry gained at the 1st layer of the Chi refinement realm is mostly unrelated to combat power, they are basic entries. Only after reaching the foundation establishment stage do you have the chance to get some awesome entries. Many originally unremarkable fellow Taoists, after breaking through to foundation establishment stage, luck out and get an extremely awesome entry, and then suddenly take off. After Chi refinement realm, every time you break through a great realm, you can choose one entry out of 3 random ones, such as the stages of foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, and so on. To survive in this world, you must become an immortal, otherwise, someone with cultivation like mine can easily kill you. Think about it, isn't that dangerous? Chen Qiu nodded, although he did not understand why an immortal at the 6th layer of the Chi refinement realm would be so frail. He did not agree with Fat Long's claim that killing him would be easy. That was what he thought internally, but verbally he did not object. He roughly understood the situation of this world. It was like a game, yet it was reality, a fusion of game and cultivation world. So, what was the entry you got when you broke through to the 1st layer of the Chi refinement realm? This. Fat Long's face suddenly showed a hint of difficulty, and after hesitating for a long time, he sighed deeply. Well, showing you won't hurt. My luck wasn't very good, otherwise, I wouldn't have planned to establish a sect to pave the way for my cultivation. With a wave of his large hand, a semi-transparent panel enveloped in mist suddenly appeared in midair. This sort of technique did indeed seem like something an immortal would use. Entry name, 9 ox power. Entry level, white. Entry effect, possess 9 oxen. Chen Qiu's mouth unconsciously slowly opened, and after a while, he muttered, what does possess 9 oxen mean? It's not literal, is it? Fat Long nodded, a bit irritated. The first entry one got usually dictated a person's career path, yet he had randomly received this one, which irritated him every time he thought about it. If I may ask, can I see it in action? What do you think? Then never mind. Despite his irritation, Fat Long still took a deep breath and said earnestly, reaching the 1st layer of the Chi refinement stage is simple as long as you can perform introspection. All you need to do is concentrate, and if you can see the pathways of your body amidst the darkness, then you're successful. This is for free. Every city lord mansion of different cities offers this kind of free service. They will have you drink a potion, and then help you perform introspection to successfully obtain the first entry. But, as the saying goes, the most expensive things are those that are free. If you happen to randomly get an entry suitable for demon cultivation or evil cultivation, which are somewhat negative, congratulations, you'll be beheaded on the spot. If you happen to randomly get an entry suitable for planting spirit grass or cultivating spirit beasts, congratulations, soon you'll be captured by some cultivation sects like a Palu and spend your whole life doing these tasks in the sect. Of course, if you get some other normal entries, the government will recommend a career path suited for you. These are the paths the destitute take. Many still buy their own potion to test their first entry on their own, so at least there's no danger to their lives. I just happen to have a bottle of potion here. As a compatriot and seeing that you have a sharp mind, I'll give it to you. Afterward, would you recognize me as your boss and follow me without a problem? Chen Qiu remained silent, simply looking at the broken porcelain bottle in Fat Long's hand. After a moment of contemplation, he took the bottle and drank its contents in one gulp. In the span of a moment, he felt his head reel with dizziness, his eyelids involuntarily closing, and his body beginning to weaken. At the same time, a loud shout reached his ears. Sit cross-legged, close your eyes, and calm your heart. Chen Qiu did as instructed, and after a few breaths, he suddenly felt a ray of light appear in the darkness. He focused hard and saw the light growing ever further away, followed by an explosive brightness, and in that moment, he clearly saw the meridians within his body. Simultaneously, a panel enshrouded in clouds and mist, visible only to him, appeared before his eyes. Cultivation has greatly increased, officially entering the 1st layer of the Chi refinement realm. Acquired a random entry for the first time. Randomizing. Randomization successful. Entry name step by step. Entry name, step by step. Entry level, 7 colored. Entry effect. Each time cultivation advances one small realm, one entry will be obtained, and each time 3 random entries will appear, allowing the selection of one. How is it? As Chen Kaiyu slowly opened his eyes, Fat Long couldn't help moving closer with an expectant look, asking, well? Is the entry related to combat power? Typically, the first entry is likely unrelated to combat power. But if you're lucky enough to get an entry related to combat power, it could smoothly transition you to the Foundation Establishment stage. Once you reach the Foundation Establishment stage, you will get to choose from 3 random entries each time, then you can freely select the one that suits you best. As soon as you reach the Foundation Establishment stage, you're a true immortal. Unrelated. After a long silence, Chen Kaiyu shook his head. It's more of a long-term entry, not much use for the early stage. He didn't elaborate. And Fat Long didn't press for details. At this point, Chen Kaiyu also discovered that after breaking through to the first layer of the Chi refinement realm, as long as he introspected, he could see a panel floating above his meridians, also wrapped in clouds and mist, within his body. Name, Chen Kaiyu. Cultivation, Chi refinement realm, first layer, 0%. Entry, step by step. Cultivation technique, none. Spirit beast, none. Force, none. Country, Daizai country. At this time, his physical strength was almost the same as before, and his only means of attack was the somewhat worn cleaver in his arms, which didn't really match his stereotypical impression of cultivation. Just then, a voice from beyond suddenly exploded in their ears. Heavenly Tao decree, in response to the heartfelt calls of the residents, the Heavenly Tao bestows its blessing. A Heavenly Tao secret realm will appear in the bamboo forest 3 miles east of Fufeng City in Daizai country. Only cultivators below the 6th layer of the Chi refinement realm may enter. The entrance opens immediately and will close at sunset. Chapter 3, The Kill-Type Heavenly Tao Secret Realm. The moment the voice fell, Chen Kaiyu instinctively glanced around. Aside from the 2 of them, there was no one else in the bamboo forest, yet the voice seemed to echo directly in his mind, heavy yet carrying a sense of ethereality. It's the Heavenly Tao Secret Realm. Just as Fat Long, who was beside him, was about to continue speaking, he heard the voice and immediately his face lit up with excitement. I can't believe our luck, we've actually encountered the Heavenly Tao Secret Realm. There are many types of secret realms, some are naturally formed by the Heavenly Tao response, and others are set up by predecessors before their death. There are many types, and although the Heavenly Tao Secret Realm isn't the one with the highest rewards, it's the safest. Moreover, everything follows the rules, there's nothing deliberately set to kill you, very suitable for low-level lackeys like us. I've been here for several months and only encountered it once, that time it allowed me to break through from the 4th level of the Chi refinement realm to the 5th level. At the same time, a slowly rotating white vortex, about 2 people tall, abruptly appeared 3 yards away from them. This is the entrance to the secret realm. This so-called voice of the Heavenly Tao is probably what Fat Long mentioned as the regional announcement. Secret realm name, Small World of Beans and Peas. Secret realm restriction, only cultivators at the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm and below may enter. Secret realm type, kill. Secret realm introduction, contains a small world with hidden cultivation techniques, spirit grass, and other treasures. A maximum of 100 cultivators allowed. The survivors by dawn can safely return to the large world. Eager to rush into the white vortex entrance, Fat Long, after seeing the secret realm panel shrouded in mist in front of the vortex, suddenly stopped with an ugly expression and involuntarily took a few steps back. It seems our luck isn't that good after all. It's the rare kill type of Heavenly Tao Secret Realm. This type of Heavenly Tao Secret Realm is essentially like a slaughterhouse, extremely bloody with a high death rate. Standing at the entrance to the secret realm, Chen Kaiyu could already hear a large number of footsteps coming from outside the bamboo forest. Clearly, many cultivators were rapidly converging here, looking at the secret realm panel before them. He had been chopping wood for 30 days in this world and had never thought that such a thing existed. But he quickly accepted everything before him. You seem very scared. Aren't you at the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm? That's the highest allowable cultivation level for this secret realm. Logically, you should be one of those dominating inside, right? Hey. Fat Long forced a smile with a somewhat unpleasant expression. Brother Chen Kaiyu, you think too highly of me. Although I'm at the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm, I basically have no attack methods. Neither cultivation techniques nor spiritual weapons. Just a few talismans I've gathered these days for protecting my life. They are totally insufficient in there. The 6th level of the Chi refinement realm is a threshold. Only by breaking through it can one substantially enhance their physical strength, and by breaking through to the foundation establishment stage, releasing spiritual energy both defensively and offensively, then one truly becomes an immortal. To be honest, the 6th level of the chi refinement realm isn't much stronger than the 1st level. At most, I could take on 3 or 4 at the 1st level in a duel setting. If it's a mob fight, 3 or 4 would overpower me. If we encounter any cultivator in there who has a solid background, possesses cultivation techniques, and owns spiritual weapons at the 6th level of the chi refinement realm, we would all be doomed in this secret realm. Let's not consider this secret realm, let's look for another one. Is that so? Chen Kaiyu glanced at the first batch of people who arrived and casually said, but it seems like we can't avoid entering now. The first batch of people to arrive, all clad in black hemp garments, each holding a chopping knife, with white cloth straps on their legs, appeared swift and powerful. Each of them burly, with faces full of brute strength. The leader of the group, a muscular man with a ferocious and ruthless expression, glared at Chen Kaiyu, grinning maliciously. Kid, didn't expect to catch you here, you vanished after killing one of our brothers. We've been searching for you all day. It really is a case of enemies on a narrow road. Following that, a group of people pressed on even closer with each step. Chen Kaiyu didn't speak, but he reached into his bosom to pull out a chopping axe. He then took a strip of cloth from his bosom and tightly bound the axe handle to his right hand. After this, he moved his body and scanned the local bullies slowly encroaching upon him. He had chopped down a lone bully yesterday. There was only one eyewitness at the scene, a woman who claimed to be 3 months pregnant and a fellow sufferer tormented by the bullies. After begging for a long while, he had felt pity for her. And now, that woman was standing among these people, staring at him with malevolent eyes, holding a chopping axe as well, hardly looking like she was 3 months pregnant. Well, consider it a lesson purchased. If there's a next time, it'll be like a buy one get one free deal. He didn't speak again but directly entered the white vortex beside him, disappearing from the spot. Not entering the secret realm would definitely mean a fierce battle waiting for him, while entering the secret realm still offered a slim chance. The officials of Fufeng City were maintaining order at the city gate and could not attend to this spot in time. Seeing the group closing in, Fat Long unconsciously swallowed, raised both hands, and said with a bitter tone mixed with a crying voice, I said I don't know him, do you believe me? You must not harm innocent people. What do you think? Understood. Seeing that things had came to this point, Fat Long knew he definitely couldn't escape alone. He stiffened his neck and shouted as he stepped boldly into the white vortex in front of him. He was naturally timid and, according to his nature, he would definitely not actively enter a kill-type Heavenly Dao secret realm. But behind him was a pack of wolves. It's a kill-type Heavenly Dao secret realm. Once both men had vanished into the secret realm, one of the underlings, after checking the secret realm panel, hesitated and then jogged to the side of the leading man, saying, Boss, should we chase after them? Chase my ass. The leading man sneered, a kill-type Heavenly Dao secret realm, where if 100 go in, whether even 50 can come out alive is uncertain, it's a complete bloodbath. We'll just wait out here. Even if these two luckily come out, they'll definitely be critically injured. Then we can avenge our fallen brothers. If they die in there, then our brother's revenge is also claimed. Boss is wise. On hearing this, the people behind him also unconsciously relaxed and let out a long breath. They really did not want to enter a kill-type Heavenly Dao secret realm. It wasn't just about threatening others with a knife, it meant genuinely fighting for their lives. They were just local bullies after all. And didn't really want to lay down their lives. I say, Brother Chen Kaiyu, the moment they entered the secret realm, Fat Long saw Chen Kaiyu looking around and said with a hopeless expression, how did you manage to provoke such a group of local bullies? Even if we make it out alive, they're surely waiting at the entrance, and we're bound to die at their hands. Chen Kaiyu didn't speak, merely holding the chopping axe and scanning the small world. There were forests, grasslands, bushes, and even deserts. It wasn't too small. His plan was actually very simple. During his earlier talk with Fat Long had told him quite a few ways to enhance his cultivation, one of which was to kill demon beasts. He just needed to quickly break through to the second level of the Chi refinement realm, which would grant him a new entry. If he could acquire a combat-type entry, it wasn't impossible for him to survive. Chapter 4, Cultivation greatly increases, officially entering the second level of the Chi refinement realm. However, Chen Kaiyu lowered his head to look at his own legs, a slight frown forming on his brow. His legs seemed to be bound by some unknown force, preventing him from moving them no matter how hard he tried. It's useless. Seeing Chen Kaiyu's actions, although Fat Long's complexion wasn't looking too good, he still mustered the strength to speak. Before the entrance to the secret realm is closed, all cultivators who enter the secret realm are unable to move. This is the rule of the heavenly Tao. Furthermore, at this time, one cannot exit either. Only after the entrance to the secret realm closes can cultivators begin to move freely. This ensures that all cultivators start from the same starting line, avoiding situations where those who enter the secret realm first gain a significant advantage. But even so, having an early entry into the secret realm still has its advantages. Look over there. Fat Long extended his hand, pointing towards 4 red lights soaring into the sky in the west. In the heavenly Tao secret realm, red light represents the opportunity of mental methods. If you're more interested in mental methods, you should head west once it starts. There are 3 blue lights to the east, and blue represents cultivation techniques, whether it's defensive, offensive, or various other techniques like flying and beast taming, all are represented by blue. To the north, those 7 purple lights will probably attract the most people. Purple light represents spiritual treasures, which are the favorites of all cultivators. Chen Qiu nodded his head, acknowledging that, although his acquaintance with Fat Long was far from pleasant, this fat-headed idiot had eaten the pig-head meat and liquor he had worked hard to earn. The information was definitely worth the price. This world did not have the internet. Information was relatively closed off. Just as before, he never knew this information, and exchanging a bit of pig-head meat for so much intelligence was a worthwhile trade. From a certain perspective, Fat Long could be considered his benefactor. A benefactor doesn't necessarily mean someone who brings you great wealth and riches. Anyone who can guide your way can also be a benefactor. After pausing for a moment, he pointed to the black light rising into the sky in the south. There is only one black light to the south. What's there? The greatest opportunity? Haha. The corner of Fat Long's mouth twitched slightly. Do you think black and opportunity are compatible? Black often signifies that the location harbors the strongest fierce beast of the secret realm. It would be wiser not to go near it. Understood. Chen Qiu gazed towards the forest in the south where he could faintly see numerous demon beasts moving about, his eyes narrowing slightly. Then he looked up again into the distance. The entire small world is enveloped by a huge white membrane. This membrane won't gradually shrink, will it? You guessed right, it's exactly what you're thinking, similar to the Battle Royale games we used to play. This is also why I'm so averse to the kill type of Heavenly Tao Secret Realm. The death rate is really too high. At this time, quite a few people had already entered the Secret Realm one after another. Most of them were muscular men, some dressed as escort masters, some as peasants, others wearing sect uniforms, clearly disciples of some sect. You could say all sorts of people were present here, and most had rather grim expressions on their faces. Of course. In such a situation, it would be rare for anyone to smile. Upon entering the small world, everyone could only gather around the white vortex, standing still, patiently waiting. By sunset, a full 100 people had filled the secret realm. The entrance to the secret realm closed early. In an instant, everyone suddenly found the inexplicable force finding their legs vanish, and everyone regained their freedom. Immediately afterward, nearly all of them shot off towards the 3 directions of east, west, and north. No one fought. Everyone tacitly reserved their strength for the end, focusing on covering ground as quickly as possible. Those with higher cultivation and possessing spiritual treasures and cultivation techniques ran in the first wave while those with lesser cultivation followed in the second wave. A few clearly with very low cultivation who had came to try their luck stayed in the third wave. Over 40 people went to the desert in the north, evidently attracted by the purple light representing spiritual treasures. What are we waiting for? At this moment, Fat Long looked towards Chen Qiu, who was standing in place without moving, with some urgency, and said hurriedly, "Let's hurry up too. Standing here motionless will make us appear timid. I am, after all, a Chi Refinement Realm 6th layer cultivator. As long as I sound a bit more arrogant, boast about myself a bit, and they can't gauge my strength, they probably won't rashly attack us. Especially since we haven't obtained any treasure yet, they have no reason to fight with us. But if we show weakness now, we are more likely to be used as sacrifices later." It has to be said. In the nearly 5 months that Fat Long had traversed this world, he had also devised a set of survival strategies suited for himself. However, Chen Qiu shook his head, his gaze fixed on the distance. Placing one's life completely in the hands of others, fear and consideration lacks a sense of security. I have a better solution, head south. Only to the south were there demon beasts active. South. In the forest, Fat Long, gasping for air, swung his sword again, severely wounding another demon beast before kicking it in front of Chen Qiu. Only then did he look up uneasily toward the colorful lights dissipating non-stop in the distance. With each light fading, it meant a treasure had been taken. And with that, a fight was bound to ensue. Squandering so much energy now would only lower the chances of survival later. Anxiously he turned his head again and spoke to Chen Qiu in a hurried and uneasy voice. "Brother Chen Qiu, Are you sure the entry you obtained when your cultivation broke through to the first level of Chi Refinement Realm was just that your strength would increase as soon as you reached the second level of Chi Refinement Realm? It sounds too vague. Can it be stronger than the sixth level of Chi Refinement Realm? At this moment, he already had several wounds on his body inflicted in the dying struggles of the demon beasts. They were not serious nor fatal, but they absolutely affected his combat power, as well as others' assessment of his strength. Chen Kaiyu nodded without going into detail but took a deep breath, gripped the hilt of his sword tightly with both hands, bent his knee slightly, and stared unblinkingly at the hungry wolf in front of him that was staring straight back with a menacing glint in its eyes. To respond to every change with constancy. Finally, the hungry wolf could no longer restrain itself and with a growl charged straight at him. Chen Kaiyu moved his feet slightly to dodge the attack, then concentrated all the strength of his body in his arms and swung his sword in a fluid motion. Blood splattered everywhere. With one stroke, the wolf was killed, and he also chopped down the demon beast that Fat Long had kicked over as it was on the brink of death. At this point, more than an hour had passed since the beginning of the secret realm. He had spent roughly half the time fighting in this forest and was already utterly exhausted. From the clumsy fighting at the beginning, he now had some combat experience. He had killed no fewer than 20 Chi Refinement Realm Level 1 fierce beasts. The fierce beasts here were all hungry wolves, with cultivation levels mostly at the first level of the Chi Refinement Realm, otherwise, they wouldn't be so easy to kill. Finally, in front of him emerged once again that familiar panel enveloped by clouds and mist. Cultivation greatly increased, formally entering the second layer of the Chi Refinement Realm. Due to the step-by-step entry, you may obtain another entry upon this cultivation breakthrough. Please choose from the 3 random entries below within 10 breaths. 1. Entry name, take the initiative. Entry level, green. Entry effect, when entering the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm, you can break through the binding restrictions and move freely before the entrance to the secret realm is closed. 2. Entry name, alchemy posture. Entry level, white. Entry effect, your success rate in alchemy will be slightly increased. 3. Entry name, foundation establishment delay. Entry level, green. Entry effect, your Chi refinement phase will be extended from the normal 9 layers to 11 layers. Thereafter, during foundation establishment, the spiritual energy in your Danshan will be more abundant and pure compared to other cultivators at the same phase, and your success rate for foundation establishment will also be higher. Chen Kaiyu took a few deep breaths, thrust the blood-covered wood-cutting knife into the earth beside him, and the piece of cloth that had once tied the knife handle to his right hand had long since disappeared in the fight. Looking at the 3 entry choices on the panel enveloped by clouds and mist exuding a mysterious charm, he fell silent for a long while before finally turning to look at the anxious and restless Fat Long and spoke softly. The strength has increased a bit. But it's still not enough. If I could break through to the 3rd level of the Chi refinement realm, then there would definitely be no problem. Are you joking, my good brother? Fat Long couldn't restrain himself and roared in anger. Do you think cultivation breakthroughs are that simple? To break through from the 1st level to the 3rd level of Chi refinement realm within 1 day? Do you think cultivation breakthrough is as easy as drinking cool water? It's been 5 months since I came to this world, and my cultivation level is only at the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm, alright. To purely rely on killing demon beasts to gain cultivation points for you to break through to the 3rd level of Chi refinement realm, you would need to kill at least 1 demon beast with the cultivation of the 6th level of Chi refinement realm. With all the little demon beasts around here at the 1st level, where can you find a demon beast with such cultivation? Just then, roar. A burst of wild demon energy exploded from the depths of the forest, and at the same time a ferocious roar emitted, accompanied by the shaking of the ground. It was clear that an extremely fierce beast had awakened deep within the forest and was charging straight towards them with an unmistakably clear target. With the intensity of that demon energy, the cultivation level started at least from the 6th layer of Chi refinement realm, if not higher. Fat Long, standing still, bowed his head and remained silent for a while before he suddenly let out a soft sigh, his voice hoarse. Maybe I have the hidden entry with the words spoken, the law follows. Or maybe I shouldn't have grabbed you in the crowd back then. Anyway. We must fight with our lives. Once such a fierce beast has locked onto us, escape is impossible, we can only battle. Hopefully we will win. After all, I am at the 6th level of Chi refinement realm, stronger than you. I'll take the front, you find an opportunity from the side. Chen Kaiyu didn't speak again but just pulled out the wood-cutting knife stuck in the earth and looked towards the colossal silver-furred wolf king that was indistinctly charging towards them from the forest not far away. Chapter 5, Entry Name, The God of Chi Refinement. The wolf king that was about to charge toward them had demon energy so condensed on its body that it almost materialized, its momentum extremely fierce. A normal modern person, facing a wolf king charging head-on, would consider themselves heroic if they could keep their legs from shaking uncontrollably. At least Chen Kaiyu's breathing started to become hurried. His body trembled slightly. A kind of indescribable fear surged in his heart. His mind began to become extremely hazy, feeling as if everything around him was slowing down. Just then, roar. Accompanied by a roar, the Wolf King charged straight at Chen Kaiyu from the forest with astonishing momentum, perhaps targeting Chen Kaiyu directly since he had killed too many wolf demons. Freeze. Fat Long pulled a talisman from his bosom, and as spiritual energy poured into it, the talisman instantly ignited and shot into the Wolf King's body, visibly slowing its movements. Slash. Fat Long drew another talisman, which burned up instantly, and a blade of light formed from spiritual energy materialized and slashed directly at the Wolf King, accompanied by splashing blood. A terrifying, bone-deep wound erupted on the Wolf King's back, blood gushing profusely. Immediately not giving the Wolf King much time to react, Fat Long roared to encourage himself and charged forward with his long sword thrust deep into the wound, intense pain making the Wolf King struggle and howl continuously. Fortunately, it was only a Chi Refinement Realm 6th level demon beast. Apart from having greater physical strength than the two of them, it didn't know any spells. Its fighting style was still like that of a wild beast, relying on physical strength to fight. Chen Kaiyu wasn't idle either. He immediately flanked to the other side, he and Fat Long splitting into two directions to surround the Wolf King and initiate a guerrilla siege. The heavily injured Wolf King already had the intention to retreat, but it was too late. The two of them also did not attack with full force. Preserving their strength this way, no matter whom the Wolf King attacked, the chosen one would immediately pull away, not giving the Wolf King a chance to touch him, and the other would take the opportunity to close in, harassing the Wolf King. A few breaths later. Sizzle. As the Wolf King, increasingly slowed by excessive blood loss, Fat Long stepped back, signaling Chen Kaiyu to move forward. Chen Kaiyu didn't waste any time. Stepping large beside the Wolf King, he struck with full force, a chopping blade plunging straight into the Wolf King's neck. Even after receiving such a deadly blow, the Wolf King still didn't die on the spot but instead struggled even more vigorously, as if revitalized. The blade was stuck in its neck and couldn't be pulled out for a while, so Chen Kaiyu simply pressed his entire weight onto the Wolf King, focusing all his strength on the handle of the blade, stubbornly driving the blade deeper into its neck. Finally, the body of the Wolf King gradually stiffened, coming to a complete halt in its struggle, no longer breathing. A Chi Refinement Realm 6th level demon beast had perished just like that. Damn. The battle over, Fat Long, who had still been brimming with energy, suddenly felt a wave of exhaustion emanating from the depths of his heart, and his legs went soft, causing him to sit down on the ground, gazing at the blood that covered his clothes, some expressions of bewilderment directed toward the body of the Wolf King in front of him. The silvery white fur on the Wolf King's body had already been completely stained red. The demon energy on its body was also slowly dispersing. Even its pupils were beginning to dilate, every sign indicating that this once formidable Wolf King had truly died, killed by them. Am I really that powerful? Fat Long looked down at his hands in a daze, never having imagined that he could himself kill a Chi Refinement Realm 6th level demon beast. Demons of the same cultivation realm were usually stronger than cultivators, especially since he had neither cultivation techniques nor magic treasures. His power was supposed to be somewhat inferior. But now it seemed he might need to reassess his own strength. A Chi Refinement Realm 6th level demon beast was nothing much after all. At that moment, Chen Kaiyu, equally out of breath, was sitting on the grass. The axe he had been using to chop wood for over 30 days was still embedded in the Wolf King's neck. He hadn't pulled it out. He checked his body. There were numerous injuries, but nothing serious. The majority were abrasions. Only on his abdomen was there a claw mark from the wolf, from which blood was still seeping. It stung a bit. After stepping into the second level of the Chi Refinement Realm, among the 3 random entries he had to choose from, he selected the green entry Delay Foundation Establishment. The first 2 entries were of little use to him, and he had never considered alchemy, so he didn't need that entry. Although he quite liked the entry Take the Initiative, as it meant that in future entries into the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm, he could act ahead of others, be it setting traps or grabbing rewards first, which would be extremely beneficial. However, he felt that Delay Foundation Establishment suited him a bit more, effectively providing him with 2 additional entries and also enhancing his Foundation Establishment success rate, which was great. Just then, from the body of the Wolf King, a faint light floated into the air and merged into Chen Kaiyu's body, making him feel suddenly warm, and even the pain somewhat subsided. When he performed introspection again, sure enough, a panel of text enveloped by clouds and mist appeared inside his body once more. Cultivation greatly increased, officially entering the 3rd level of the Chi Refinement Realm. Due to the entry step by step, This cultivation breakthrough grants another entry. Please choose from the following 3 random entries within 10 breaths. 1. Entry name, God of Chi Refinement. Entry level, Gray. Entry effect, you will permanently be unable to achieve foundation establishment, but your lifespan will be extended by 500 years. 2. Entry name, Yama's personal decree. Entry level, Gray. Entry effect, you will definitely die 1 year later, but you are guaranteed to not die within this year. 3. Entry name, Resentful Spirit Summoning. Entry level, Green. Entry effect, creatures killed by you will turn into resentful spirits attached to your body, which you can summon at any time to fight for you with the strength they had at their peak, but once summoned, they can only exist for 1 hour, after which they dissipate into the universe. Chen Kaiyu looked at the 3 random entries in front of him, pondered for a moment, and chose the 3rd entry, Resentful Spirit Summoning. It seemed like there wasn't much need to consider it since the first 2 had rather significant drawbacks. The 3rd entry was precisely the combat ability he urgently needed. And it was a skill type entry. So far, aside from this entry, the other entries he had randomly obtained were mostly support or passive types. This one was an entry that could be actively triggered. Fat Long. After resting for a moment on the ground, Chen Kaiyu turned his head to look at Fat Long beside him and softly said, "Thanks." Honestly, that serving of pig's head meat had been worth it. Not only had Fat Long helped him kill the creature, but he had also let him land the final blow on the Wolf King and had used up his only 2 talismans. Honestly, he felt somewhat embarrassed. If it hadn't been for Fat Long, he wouldn't have been able to advance to the 3rd level of the Chi Refinement realm so quickly. It's nothing. Fat Long thought about the 2 talismans he had painstakingly saved. Although it pained him, he still managed to feign generosity and shook his head. At least our cooperation turned out to be surprisingly well synchronized, which is great. In this dangerous and unfamiliar world, having a teammate like you is really good. What he didn't tell Chen Kaiyu was that, before meeting him, he had also found a few other compatriots who had come through. Those compatriots had all risen to high positions. When he approached them trying to bond, he was met with cold shoulders and ridicule. It was humiliating. It was better to stay with someone of lower cultivation than himself, at least then, he wouldn't be ridiculed. Chapter 6, Wells Do Not Interfere with Rivers. Right. Chen Kaiyu remembered the 3 random entries he had just drawn and hesitated. How are the levels of entries differentiated? Well. Fat Long nodded seriously. The levels of entries from low to high are respectively, white, green, yellow, blue, purple, and above that there are red, golden, pink, 7-colored. A total of 9 levels. They imply the will of the heavenly Tao. All cultivators can only obtain a random entry when they achieve a major breakthrough in their realm, and the level of this random entry is closely related to one's own cultivation realm. The higher the cultivation, the higher the level of entry that one can randomly receive. For example, although a cultivator at the Chi Refinement realm theoretically has a chance to draw a 7-colored term, the actual probability is so low it's pitiful, possibly one lucky individual every 10,000 years. But if you're at the Transcendence Tribulation stage, the probability of randomly getting a 7-colored entry during a major realm breakthrough will be much higher. These 9 levels are all the levels for entries. Fat Long paused, then looked up at the black glow that was slowly dissolving above his head, and continued, aside from that, there are also some special level entries, such as the gray entry. Gray entries don't fall within these 9 levels and can't be ranked. Gray entries often have extremely powerful effects, but also carry extremely serious drawbacks. If you happen to randomly get a gray entry, then whether it's fortune or misfortune is really hard to say. It's all fate. Chen Kaiyu nodded without speaking. To tell the truth, the effects of those 2 gray entries just now were quite good indeed. If it were some specific people, like ordinary mortals without dreams of cultivation, getting an extra 500 years of life for free would be rather nice. It's just a bit torturous, watching your friends and family leave one by one. The second Yama's personal decree would, for some cultivators on the brink of death, be like extending their lifespan by a year, and during this year, they could act unfettered, or for sect supreme elders, they could burn brightly and contribute to their sect during this year. Of course, in most cases, this entry is akin to Yama's death warrant. Just at that moment, behind the 2, a translucent barrier that enveloped the entire small world slowly closed in on them. Let's go, brother Chen Kaiyu, it's shrinking. Fat Long got up from the ground, casually stowed his long sword in his storage bag, and muttered, once I get some money, the first thing I'll do is swap for a saber-type magic treasure. Using this long sword is really awkward. The 2, clad in blood-stained clothes, slowly walked from the forest to the center of the plains. At this moment, almost 10 people were already scattered across the plain, each of them caked with blood as well. At a glance, Many of them didn't have light injuries, and the look they gave Chen Qiu and his companion was tinged with wariness and caution. Fellow Taoists. Just then, a middle-aged man with a scar on his face stepped forward, looking at Chen Qiu and his companion with a solemn voice. According to the rules of Jiang, in the slaying-type Heavenly Tao secret realm, when the last light fades, it means the fight should cease. All treasures, no matter who holds them, are that person's fate. No further plundering is allowed. It's no wonder these people were all full of wariness. Normal people who enter the slaying-type secret realm, aren't they all coming for treasures? Who would go to the black area? As everyone knows, the most powerful fierce beast in the secret realm is in the black area, aside from which there are no treasures at all. And there's only one type of person who would go to such a place, combat enthusiasts. Whether they are Jiang guests, sect disciples, government lackeys, or even the lowest scum, the one type of person they all fear the most are combat enthusiasts. These people tend not to follow any rules and don't care about any benefits. Their life's goal is to fight until death, which is their life's creed. Commonly known as head choppers. At this moment, in the eyes of these people, Chen Qiu and Fat Long were like battle maniacs, and not just ordinary ones, but those with formidable strength. Otherwise, they wouldn't appear to have sustained no serious injuries while they had killed the strongest fierce beast in this secret realm. Chen Qiu didn't speak, only glancing around. As expected, the bright lights that had originally shot into the sky had all disappeared, indicating that all the treasures had found their masters, now in the hands of the crowd. There were only 9 people standing here at this moment. Yet 100 people had entered this small world. Which meant, in just this short period, 89 people had died in the scramble for treasures. He was silent, not saying a word. Although he had not met those 89 people, after all, so many lives had just perished in this small world, it couldn't help but make one sigh. If it hadn't been for Fat Long, maybe he too would have died here? Feigning composure, Fat Long waved his hands. He was just about to bluff his way through when he was preparing to leave the secret realm successfully. Just then, SZZT. Among the 9 people standing on the plain, suddenly 3 people violently drew their swords and lashed out, aiming directly at the person closest to them, giving no time for a reaction. In just 2 or 3 breaths, only 4 people were left standing on the spot. 3 men, clad in different attire and wielding sharp blades, surrounded an ordinary-looking young man in the middle, their cruel and cold gazes tightly fixed on Chen Qiu and Fat Long. Hey. Before Chen Qiu and Fat Long had a chance to speak, the ordinary-looking young man in the center pulled out a fan from nowhere, casually flicking it to and fro, looking at Chen Qiu and the others with a smirk. How is it? Have you never seen such a low-key young master before? Do you know what I hate the most? It's those young masters dressed in fancy clothes with identical uniforms for their lackeys, afraid of not being conspicuous enough. Look, like me, having my subordinates wear different clothes and pretend to be loose cultivators blending into the crowd. Then striking at the critical moment, who can react in time? These days, cultivation isn't just about brute strength, you also need to use your brain. I, Huang Shikai, want all the treasures in this secret realm for myself. As for the 2 of you, how do you wish to die? As he spoke, Huang Shikai had a trace of wariness in his eyes when looking at the 2. His plan was to have everything under control. Since he had came to this small world, all its treasures would undoubtedly be his. But what he hadn't anticipated was the sudden appearance of 2 battle maniacs with unknown prowess, which left him feeling slightly uneasy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have wasted so much talk. Even though the strongest was only at the 6th layer of the Qi refinement realm, there were still differences between those at the same stage of the Qi refinement realm. Young Master Huang. Without any hesitation, Fat Long immediately dropped to his knees, earnestly cupping his fists. Your reputation precedes you. I've long heard of your handsome and dashing bearing, and your achievements at such a young age. Seeing you today, it really is as expected. We don't want any treasures from this small world. Could we possibly not infringe upon each other's territories and part ways here? Hey, what do you think? Huang Shikai instantly felt emboldened upon seeing Fat Long's behavior, and with a cold snicker, he stepped back and gestured with his hand. Kill them all. No witnesses, that way there would be no loose ends. Otherwise, if word of what just happened got out, it would cause some damage to his reputation. Seeing how feeble he was, and appearing to have no backing, it was clear he was a loose cultivator. Dead, he would just die in vain. Chen Qiu, standing off to the side, didn't speak. He simply lowered his head and wiped his machete clean of blood with the corner of his clothes. Then he patted Fat Long on the shoulder and whispered, "Get up, they can't beat us. We're going to have to stake a claim in these waters. I quite want these treasures from the small world." The next instant, thick resentful energy suddenly erupted from Chen Qiu's body, and in the blink of an eye, More than 20 Chi Refinement Realm Stage 1 Wolf Demons and 1 Chi Refinement Realm Stage 6 Wolf King appeared out of nowhere beside him. These resentful spirits looked semi-transparent and somewhat ethereal, but the combined might of their resentful energy and demon energy appeared extremely formidable. Roar. Several roaring cries abruptly rose one after another across the plain. Chapter 7, Full Force Strike, Can't Break Through the Defense? These wolf demons were the resentful spirits of those who had just died by his hand, their wolf bodies now a uniform translucent appearance, looking incredibly ethereal. Naturally, this included the Wolf King. The strength of this Wolf King was unquestionable. If it weren't for Fat Long's 2 talismans, the 2 of them would not have been able to kill the Wolf King. The most important factor in their ability to kill the Wolf King was that this Chi Refinement Realm 6th layer Wolf King only appeared after all its underlings had perished. Otherwise, if they had attacked together, with the Wolf Demon underlings providing support, the outcome would truly be uncertain. Although he did not know the cultivation of these 3, to be able to serve as henchmen for a young master, they must be stronger than average in both cultivation and combat experience. In this battle of life and death, who would stand until the end? He himself felt somewhat lacking in confidence. But in the face of a great battle, one must not show weakness. Chen Kaiyu stood in place, holding a wood-cutting knife, looking calmly towards the 4 people not far away, and said softly, "Kill." As the word fell, the wolf demon resentful spirits behind him seemed to receive the order, roaring angrily as they rushed forward together. What kind of technique is this? Standing aside, Fat Long's eyes lit up at the scene unfolding before him. Brother Chen Kaiyu, is this the entry you gained randomly after breaking through to the Chi Refinement Realm first layer? You can summon resentful spirits. No wonder you said you'd become strong once you break through to the 3rd layer of Chi Refinement, so this is why. This entry's restriction must be that it can only be used starting from the 3rd layer of Chi Refinement, right? And since you, Brother Chen Kaiyu, said it's an entry for later stages, presumably as your realm cultivation progresses, the strength of the summoned resentful spirits will also increase, right? A growth-type active skill entry. Brother Chen Kaiyu, you really do have good luck. A hint of envy flickered in Fat Long's eyes, then he felt a bit irritated. Why was his luck so bad? What use was the 9 ox power to him? Not only was it useless, but it also came with nothing but side effects. Ugly and uncomfortable. There was no helping it, after all, it wasn't like he could shoot down 9 suns like Hui of old, and now. Luckily, the 3 henchmen under the young master, after many battles and with serious injuries, were nearly drained of their strength, and even failed to wait for Chen Kaiyu and his companion to join the battlefield. The battle was over. All 3 were horrifically killed by the Wolf King's sharp fangs. Damn it. Seeing that the Wolf King had now set its sights on him, with its bloodthirsty crimson pupils bursting forth, the young master Huang Shikai couldn't help but let out an angry and cold laugh. Very well, you've got guts. But you're still lacking if you want to kill me. Don't ever think I'm like those pampered young masters, I survive on my wits. The next moment, the young man suddenly emitted a yellow glow from his hands and feet, a sure sign of a cultivation technique being activated. To master a cultivation technique at the Chi Refinement Realm's 6th layer was not something the average person could afford. Yellow-level lower-grade cultivation technique, Iron Sand Palm. Then they saw the young master, the moment the Wolf King charged towards him, suddenly lie down on the spot, his hands and feet plunging straight into the ground, firmly anchoring himself in place, immediately becoming embedded on the surface of the earth. At that moment, the Wolf King had already lunged at the young man, yet strangely, no matter how hard it bit or slashed with its claws, it was unable to inflict even the slightest injury on Huang Shikai's body. Chen Kaiyu noticed something amiss, walked straight up, bent down to look at the young man who was embedded into the ground, and after frowning in puzzlement for a while, he waved his hand to signal the Wolf King to back off. He raised the woodcutter's axe high above his head, aimed at the nape of Huang Shikai's neck, and chopped down with all his might. Clang! A sudden metal-on-metal clash echoed. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and he threw away the woodcutter's axe, its blade fiercely trembling in his hand. He felt as though he had struck steel. The blow left Huang Shikai completely unharmed while his own arm had gone numb. A full-powered strike that couldn't breach the defense? It was at this moment, ha 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 ha. Huang Shikai, with his face pressed against the ground, began to laugh triumphantly. Forgot to tell you, my initial entry is the yellow entry unassailable from behind. Any attack coming from behind or my side cannot harm me. The small world will close in half an hour, you can't do anything to me, I have memorized your faces, the moment I get out, I'll make sure you're killed immediately. Rest assured, I will have a good time with you then. Such good luck. Fat Long, who followed behind Chen Kaiyu, spoke with a complex expression. Sometimes I really resent you lucky ones, The first random entry you get is always such a superior one. He knew well enough. Many entries in this world are interconnected, there aren't any absolutely useless ones, even his 9 ox power can't be considered utterly useless, as many entries can synergize with it. For example, the green entry in numbers, the effect of this entry causes any surplus organs on your body to mutate, gaining an unfathomably powerful force. The more superfluous organs you have, the greater the power of this green entry, which is quite compatible with his 9 ox power. But the main reason for his occasional irritation is that a poor first entry means that, even if there are many other entries related to yours, it's difficult to survive long enough to reach the realm cultivation required to obtain them. And he did not at all want that damn in numbers green entry. Even if it would make him stronger. The biggest downside of such closely related entries is that without the complete set, a single entry is hard to utilize effectively, and there's no guarantee of acquiring the specific entry from the group. The randomness is just too high. It's said that some heavenly Dao secret realms produce certain spiritual treasures, which can grant a cultivator a random entry even without breaking through to a great realm, or offer a chance to re-randomize an entry during a breakthrough. But these treasures are extremely valuable and never seem to fall into his hands. This is also why Fat Long had such a complex expression upon hearing that Huang Shikai's first entry was a yellow one. This kid was just too lucky, starting with a yellow entry, a genuine child of destiny. An initial entry is absolutely irreplaceable and with a cultivator for life. Latter entries obtained from breaking through great realms can indeed be erased and replaced with some spiritual treasures. Initial entries essentially represent a cultivator's innate talent. Chapter 8, Living Long is the real skill. Actually, it's quite good. Chen Kaiyu noticed Fat Long's thoughts and, looking down at Huang Shikai who was embedded in the ground in front of him, he whispered, everyone's initial entry is random, which, in a way, means that the path to ascension has opened up quite a bit. Even mortals now have the opportunity to cultivate. Otherwise, if the path was completely sealed off, the class system of this world would be far too harsh, and people like us, the common folk, would suffer tremendously. He realized that the young master in front of him might not be very smart, for he couldn't understand why the young master would expose his own entry. If he had kept his mouth shut, they would have no idea what the man's entry was. It might take a good while to figure out. Perhaps before the hour in the small world ended, they still wouldn't have understood, and would actually let this young master leave alive. But since the young master had blurted it out himself, they no longer needed to investigate. While signaling the Wolf King to start digging, he walked over to the few corpses nearby and methodically removed their storage bags. Digging a hole wasn't too much trouble at all. Why did this guy think he was invincible? Soon, Chen Kaiyu had sorted out all his gains from the occasion. 3 yellow-level lower-grade mental methods, and 1 yellow-level mid-grade mental method. 3 yellow-level lower-grade cultivation techniques. 7 spiritual treasures emitting faint glimmers. As well as 9 storage bags and a dozen pieces of silver. Struck it rich, this time I've really struck it rich. Fat Long's whole body looked towards the pile of treasures in front with lips trembling from excessive excitement, his voice shaking with extreme agitation. 5 months. All the wealth I've accumulated in these 5 months isn't even close to 1% of what's here. How did I suddenly strike it rich? Let me think this through. Let's start with the prices. Chen Kaiyu glanced at the Wolf King, who was still vigorously digging beside him, and looked towards the pile of treasures. He carelessly placed the wood-cutting knife in his bosom, inwardly alert. Although he had no intention of killing Fat Long and swallowing all the gains for himself, he still had to guard against Fat Long. He felt grateful to Fat Long and had a good impression of him, but when the stakes are too high, people can easily lose their reason. Huff. Fat Long took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the excitement in his heart. A normal cultivation technique can be recorded and, if the owner is willing, can be circulated among countless people. But, Brother Chen Kaiyu, do you know why the cultivation techniques in the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm provoke so many to risk their lives for them? After all, they are just some yellow-level lower-grade techniques. In the markets of the cultivation world, such a technique would cost only 10 pieces of silver, not too expensive. Although they are all common goods, 10 pieces of silver indeed can buy a yellow-level lower-grade technique. Cultivation of a technique requires time and comprehension. The depths of cultivation of a technique reveal greater power, divided into entry, minor achievement, great achievement, advancing and great perfection 5 levels. Normally, to cultivate a yellow-level lower-grade technique to the great achievement realm and unleash almost all the power of the technique, at least an entire year of arduous cultivation is required. However, the techniques produced in the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm come with a Heavenly Dao blessing. Each technique can be learned by only one cultivator, embedded in a jade scroll, burned after reading. Once learned, you start at the Great Achievement Realm. and the speed of cultivating to the Great Perfection realm is also 4 to 5 times faster than those ordinary techniques. Fat Long paused for a moment, his eyes brimming with excitement as he stared intently at the few jade scrolls on the ground. That's why the techniques produced in the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm are extremely rare and priced so high. A yellow level lower grade technique from the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm is priced at 3 spirit stones. A yellow level lower grade mental method, priced at 3 spirit stones. A yellow level mid-grade mental method, priced at 10 spirit stones. All these spiritual treasures are yellow level lower grade, each priced at 5 spirit stones. Storage bags aren't worth much. Excluding the storage bags, all these items together are priced at 63 spirit stones. Chen Kaiyu nodded slightly and whispered, "How much is 1 spirit stone worth in currency?" 1 spirit stone can be exchanged for 100 taels of silver. 1 tael of silver is equal to 1,000 wen, so 1 spirit stone can be exchanged for 100,000 wen. Chen Kaiyu remained silent and didn't speak any further, as he knew little about the prices in this world. He only knew that he could rent a decent cottage within the courtyard for 300 wen and buy a meal of good pig's head meat and burning liquor for less than 100 wen. He had to work hard chopping wood all day just to earn a dozen wen. Even though he had learned how to kill yesterday, he had only gained a little over 2,000 wen. But all the items in front of him added up to a total of 6,300,000 wen. Considering that he earned 20 wen per day from chopping wood, he would need to chop wood non-stop for a full 315,000 days, which amounts to exactly 863 years, to amass that much money. And now, he had merely entered the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm, killed some people, and picked up some treasures. He had bypassed 863 years of taking the wrong path. After a long while, Chen Kaiyu suddenly spoke, "Chopping wood indeed isn't a very promising career. Cutting down people has a much better cost-effectiveness ratio." He. Meanwhile, Fat Long, who had been originally excited, suddenly gave a few dry laughs. "That. Brother Chen Kaiyu, you really shouldn't harbor such thoughts. You must know that those who kill will ultimately die by the sword. We can't just look at the gains before us, we also have to consider those who died because of these treasures. A total of 100 people, and only the 2 of us are left. Think about how terrifying the mortality rate is. This path might lead to quick riches but more likely to a quick death." Just then, "Nonsense, I'm not dead yet." At the side, Huang Shike, who was barely holding up and visibly scared, shouted loudly, "Brothers, I was wrong, please spare my life. I will surely repay you once we get out. We all are people of the Jiang, show some mercy." Considering the digging speed of the Wolf King beside him, he'd be dead before the small world even closed. "Not to worry, you'll be quick too." Fat Long casually rolled his eyes at Huang Shike, then shifted his gaze and seriously looked at Chen Kaiyu, continuing, "Brother Chen Kaiyu, the both of us indeed had our fortune today, and there are some things I still want to tell you. You definitely cannot let today's quick riches cloud your judgment. Honestly, there were more than a dozen people who entered this world with me. The strongest among them even managed to reach foundation establishment in just the 3rd month. But 5 months passed, and I am the only one still alive. In the path of cultivation, speed of cultivation, no matter how fast, is not really power. Only living long enough, that's the true skill." Chen Kaiyu kept silent and didn't speak, but after a pause, he looked up into Fat Long's earnest eyes and couldn't help but shake his head with a smile. "You really are very afraid of dying." "Of course, who isn't? Look." Chen Kaiyu glanced at the corpses not far away and casually said, "They weren't afraid. So they died, and I'm alive. Alright, let's not talk about this anymore." He didn't continue delving deeper into the topic but instead looked at the pile of treasures before them like a small mountain. "Let's divide it, you tell me, how should we split this?" Chapter 9, Is exterminating the 9 tribes a bit too much? After Chen Kaiyu asked that question, he fell silent and just quietly looked at Fat Long, his heart hoping for a 60-30 split. His 30, Fat Long 70. In this way, he would be able to repay the favor he owed Fat Long in the small world, as he disliked the feeling of being in someone's debt. "Let's do 70-30. After pondering for a long while, Fat Long finally spoke, "You 70, I 30. Your combat power is already about to surpass mine. You have better luck than me, having randomly acquired an attack method entry during the Chi refinement realm. With my entry, I'm pretty much done for during the Chi refinement period, unlikely to demonstrate anything outstanding. I guess I'll have to rely on you in the future. This time you take more, and later we'll travel together. That way, in this unfamiliar world, we can watch each other's backs." "Chen Kaiyu, brother, what do you say?" "That works." Chen Kaiyu nodded, and didn't say much else. The last bit of time quickly passed away as well, and Huang Shike, who was next to them, died in despair in the jaws of the Wolf King. Chen Kaiyu had discovered something very interesting. The resentful spirits of the cultivators killed by the Wolf King could also be summoned by him. That is to say, the creatures killed by the spirits he summoned were also considered to have been killed by him. In a sense, it was like a perpetual motion machine. With this, he could, at any time, summon 3 resentful spirits of cultivators at the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm and 1 at the 5th level, which also served as a small trump card, giving him a sense of security. Day broke. The white vortex exit in the small world slowly appeared once more, and the resentful spirit of the Wolf King dispersed into the world forever. Stepping into the white vortex, Chen Kaiyu saw the scenery change in front of his eyes, and when everything calmed down, he was back in the bamboo forest 3 miles east of Fufeng City. Only now, there were many people surrounding him. Over 100 people encircled them, completely cutting off any escape. Many had intense killing intent on their faces, and with their fiercely muscled appearances, they were clearly not to be trifled with. I forgot to say. Fat Long tugged cautiously at Chen Kaiyu's sleeve, his mouth twitching slightly as he whispered, "The Heavenly Dao Secret Realm has one major flaw: you exit from the same place you entered. This often leads to many people liking to wait at the entrances of secret realms, ambushing and killing those who come out to minimize their own risk. It seems we forgot to hire an escort master. If you hired an escort master, they would successfully escort you to safety when you come out of the secret realm alive." Chen Kaiyu looked expressionlessly at the husky men who were eyeing them menacingly and had them surrounded, inadvertently taking a step back, and said calmly, "What if we don't have an escort master? Then you play up your background, your power, which can scare many away. And if we don't have that? Then it's up to fate. Just then, kill." A gang within the crowd, armed with machetes and looking ferocious, took their lead from the husky man who had initially had an encounter with Chen Kaiyu. Only now, his expression appeared quite unsettled as he raised his machete and bellowed, "All the treasures from this secret realm must be on them. Whoever grabs it, keeps it." He hadn't expected this young man to come out of the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm alive, nor had he imagined that, of the 100 people who had entered the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm, there would be only 2 to come out alive. Everyone knows that the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm designed for killing is perilous, but that's mostly hearsay, as no one has actually seen it. Seeing it today, I realize that its degree of danger is rather terrifying indeed. The brawny man leading them had a voice full of malevolence, roaring extremely loud, yet he did not take a single step forward to engage in combat. However, his thunderous roar instantly ignited the desires in the hearts of everyone around. No one wanted to make the first move, to avoid running into a tough opponent. Yet, they were afraid that others would make a move and worried that the treasures would be snatched away by someone else. With the first person rushing in, the entire scene immediately became a chaotic mess. It was dawn by then, and in the bamboo forest, countless brawny men armed with sharp weapons charged towards the 2 young men, one skinny and one fat. The screams, the sound of blades cutting through flesh, the blood splattering in midair. In such circumstances, people quickly lose their sanity. They can't even discern friends from foes, feeling that everyone around them is attacking themselves. A group composed only of Chi refinement realm cultivators at best, their methods of attack were still the most barbaric, like those of village farmers, making the scene look intimidating. Yet, in reality, it wasn't as grand as an all-out brawl involving every villager from 2 villages. At some point, the scene started to calm down. Many were panting with injuries all over their bodies, and the 2 young men were nowhere to be seen. Everyone looked suspiciously at others, wondering who had snatched the treasures. And at this time, Chen Kaiyu was already walking on an official road with Fat Long. Using the earth tunneling technique and blinding spell they had obtained from the secret realm, which they had mastered to the great achievement realm, they had easily tunneled through the ground and escaped during the chaos. Until they reached this official road. Here. Fat Long took out a piece of dry ration from his bosom and handed it to Chen Kaiyu. "Eat something to fill your stomach for now. There's a post station a few miles ahead where you can have something warm to eat. Continue along this official road for 10 miles, and you'll find some cultivator markets. It's called a market, but it's actually more like a city, just that it's not counted among the 365 cities of Dazia country and doesn't pay taxes. The market is mostly cultivators, and those at the foundation establishment stage are not so rare. The owner of this market is a loose cultivator at the mid-golden core stage, known as the Barefoot Immortal. Walking on the official road is safe. According to Dazia law, no one is allowed to attack any living being on the official road, whether they be commoners, cultivators, wanted criminals, or members of the Demon Beast clan. Even if it's just a rabbit, as long as it's on the official road, you can't kill it. This law is implemented very thoroughly in Dazia. No matter how powerful the noble or official, no one is exempted from punishment. Once violated, it's direct extermination of the 9 tribes. Chen Kaiyu nodded, taking the dry ration from Fat Long without disdain, wiped the dust off it with the corner of his clothes, and then began to eat. The importance of transportation to a country goes without saying. If there's no frequent interaction and trade between regions, and even the official roads aren't safe, that indeed has a significant impact. It's evident that Danzō bestows the official roads with a considerable amount of importance. Just. Is exterminating the 9 tribes not a bit excessive? It is a bit. Fat Long silently nodded. Rumor has it that 500 years ago, this law was enforced exactly as such. But not long after its implementation, a prince of Danzō, furious with his father for favoring his younger brother, killed the rabbit on the official road in broad daylight. The act was witnessed by many. According to the law, the entire Danzō royal family could have gone down to meet their ancestors. But a special exemption would diminish the status of the official roads and the law. Chapter 10, Danzō Sect Ranking List. Back in those days, the situation was said to be quite complicated, as it was a time of chaos. Many surrounding countries and races were engaged in life and death battles. Danzō, in order to win over talents from all over the world, extended the official road far and wide, proclaiming that anyone who set foot on the official road, regardless of their status, would be protected by Danzō. No one was allowed to attack. Moreover, after iron-bloodedly executing millions, all the neighboring races and countries remembered the 4 characters Danzō official road. It was due to this national policy that Danzō managed to draw in a great number of talents from other perished countries and races. Even today, on the high seats of the Danzō imperial court, there are quite a few people from foreign lands, and even from the Devil Clan. Many people came forward to pledge their loyalty, and for a time, Danzō's prestige was unparalleled. Back then, Danzō's laws represented a lot of things. They showed Danzō's attitude toward the outside world. The moment there was the slightest sign of softening, other races would find breaches. In the end, left with no choice, the then Holy Emperor of Danzō expelled the 3rd prince from the imperial family. Then, in the very center of the capital, the prince was tortured to death on the execution stage with 1,024 cuts. This was also the first prince since ancient times who was tortured to death for killing a rabbit. Since then, the law underwent a slight change. It was no longer about exterminating 9 tribes but about being slowly sliced to death. 500 years have passed. The reputation of Danzō official road has been imprinted in the hearts of everyone. From young children to the elderly, all understood one thing: once you set foot on Danzō official road, your safety was absolute. Chen Kaiyu nodded in understanding, but he did not speak. Instead, he looked around. The morning sun shone on him, warming his body, and he even felt that the injuries he sustained the night before were much lighter. Perhaps due to the early morning, there weren't many people on the official road. There were villagers with hoes over their shoulders, messengers riding fast horses, and cultivators flying through the air with sword flight. This world seemed to lack purely ordinary people. Basically, every adult male had at least the Chi Refinement Realm Level 1 cultivation. Although this level of cultivation couldn't extend life or strengthen the body, it ensured one had an initial entry. On both sides of the official road, there were numerous spirit fields. At the moment, many villagers stood in the middle of these spirit fields, casting the spring rain technique to precisely irrigate their own fields with spiritually rich rainwater. It all looked rather harmonious and joyful. The official road was very wide enough to accommodate 8 carriages traveling side by side. On both sides of the official road, every 2 steps there was a golden stone embedded in the surface of the road. According to Fat Long's explanation, these golden stones were array stones. Whenever there was a surge of spiritual energy on the official road, the array stones would transmit the nearby scene to the city lord mansion of the closest city. These array stones also formed a formation that covered the entire Danzō country. This, too, was something from 500 years ago. At that time, it was said that it was impossible to set up such a large and complex formation. Generally, a formation is either round or square, used to protect some important industry, like a sect. But, the official road of Danzō country was like a spider web. To set up a formation 100 times more complex than a spider web was considered nearly impossible, until later a master of formations suddenly came up with an extremely perfect solution, and it was accomplished. These array stones not only served the purpose of surveillance, but they also ensured that the official road remained undamaged. Moreover, when under attack, they would raise a protective barrier that enveloped the entire section of the official road, capable of blocking all attacks below the golden core stage. And the array stones buried under the surface of the official road would also activate quickly, causing the wind-walking skill to cover the entire surface of the official road. The speed of travel on it would be 20 times faster than normal, allowing one to quickly escape from danger. It's evident. Chen Kaiyu observed his surroundings. The then Holy Emperor of Dazai truly put a lot of effort into the official road 500 years ago, really wanting to win over talents from all over. However, he slightly furrowed his brows, pointing to the part of the official road ahead that veered nearly 60 degrees to the right in confusion. Why does the official road ahead turn around such a huge distance, about 30 jong? The official road ahead inexplicably veered off to the right and then, after a distance of about 30 jong, it looped back and continued straight ahead. There were no mountains, no villages, no lakes around. What is the point of making such a detour for no reason? I don't know. Fat Long shook his head. Perhaps there's a spirit stone mine hidden under the original path, or maybe there was a village here that has since been relocated. I don't know such detailed information. My understanding of this world comes from rumors in the marketplace. We've arrived. That's the inn right ahead. The inn, like the Dazai official road, is absolutely safe, and stopping for a warm meal won't be a problem. Fat Long let out a long sigh of relief, his eyes brimming with anticipation as he looked at the nearby inn. Just past the inn was the market. As long as he could sell all of his treasures this time, he'd truly strike it rich. Chen Kaiyu touched the storage bag concealed under his clothes and sized up the inn before him, which had a decently large footprint. It was a wooden two-story building with a yard and a stable in the back. The first floor for dining, the second floor for lodging, this was the standard layout for most inns. At a glance, it looked like there were more than 20 rooms available for travelers to stay in, not too small. Fat Long walked into the inn with a face full of expectation. At this early hour, there were only 2 other tables occupied as not many people were about. Autumn was deepening. Even though the sun was quite good today, the autumn wind carried a chill. Shopkeeper. 1 serving of pressed dug, 2 bowls of mutton offal soup, 3 liang of beef, and 2 dry pancakes. After Fat Long confidently ordered, he turned to Chen Kaiyu with a grin and said, "This inn is semi-official. It's funded by civilians and endorsed by the government. Only decrees or appointments travel on the Dazai official road. All secret orders don't take this route. Dazai has its own methods. On ordinary days, it mainly serves for the food and lodging of travelers along the way." Chen Kaiyu didn't speak but instead turned his head to look at the inn's doorway. The shopkeeper's cat was lying on a small wooden stool, basking in the sun. He was contemplating the road ahead. Certainly, he wouldn't return to chopping wood. Since he had encountered an initial 7-colored entry, it meant that even the heavens wanted him to embark on the cultivation path. According to Fat Long, no matter which forces or sects one joins, or even becoming a private guard for a prominent family, one has to undergo spirit communication detection. It is a method that requires full cooperation from the subject and can reveal all the entries they possess. And his entry must not be exposed. The path of joining a sect is now closed to him. As for being a loose cultivator, that's even harder, akin to a hellish start. Apart from anything else, loose cultivators don't receive the monthly heavenly Dao blessings from the Dazai sect ranking. After some thought, there seems to be only one path left, establishing his own sect. But with their current level of cultivation. After a long silence, Chen Kaiyu suddenly turned to look at Fat Long, the plump man voraciously devouring his food in a blur of motion. After another long moment of contemplation, he finally spoke. What are the conditions to establish a sect that is recognized by the heavenly Dao? He planned to establish a proper sect, recognized by the heavenly Dao, one that can enter the Dazai sect ranking and participate in the battle for sect chi fortune, not the kind of sect only known to oneself like Fat Long's. Although he was far from being powerful enough to found a sect, that wasn't important. Just having the status of a nominal sect master was enough. When he broke through the first layer of the chi refinement realm, he found that by focusing internally, he could see many leaderboards enveloped in clouds and mist. One that stood out among them was Dazai sect ranking. Chapter 11, 3 breaths to ascend the mountain, 1 tael of silver per time. Recognized by the heavenly Dao? Fat Long shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly, then the conditions are quite high. For starters, the person who establishes the sect must be at the initial stage of the Golden Core, and that is a strict requirement. I've looked into it, and it can be solved by crossing a bridge, finding someone in the Golden Core stage to help you establish the sect, and then resigning to pass the position of sect master to you. A second-generation sect has no cultivation restrictions, and this would cost about 100 spirit stones. Besides that, you must possess a mountain peak as the base of the sect, and also need at least 5 disciples to establish the sect with you. Among other things, it's extremely complicated, and the total cost would be at least 200 spirit stones. Chen Kaiyu nodded without asking further. 200 spirit stones were quite a lot. Establishing a sect had to be delayed a bit, as they currently did not meet the conditions. He then introspected, gazing at the panel inside his body that was enshrouded by clouds and mist. Name, Chen Kaiyu. Cultivation, Chi Refinement Realm Layer 3, 1%. Entry, step by step, foundation establishment delayed, resentful spirit summoning. Mental method, withered wood blossoms. Cultivation technique, earth tunneling technique, blinding technique. Spirit beast, none. Power, none. Country, Danzō country. So far, his 3 entries were somewhat standalone, lacking interconnectedness. As a group of entries, they clearly weren't the best combination, but fortunately, he still had many opportunities to acquire more entries. As long as he lived long enough. Earth tunneling technique and blinding technique were also techniques he obtained from the Heavenly Tao secret, instantly reaching the Great Achievement realm, proving immensely useful. It was by relying on these 2 techniques that he managed to escape with Fat Long so smoothly. According to what he learned from Fat Long, killing demon beasts could enhance cultivation, but it wasn't a long-term strategy, or rather, it was just an initial trick. At low cultivation levels, killing demon beasts could indeed rapidly enhance cultivation. Typically, on the coming-of-age day, large clan families would prepare heavily injured demon beasts, allowing one to reach great perfection in the chi refinement realm within a day. Does this count as cheating? Of course, it does. It's just a bit irritating. But thereafter, like during the foundation establishment stage or golden core stage, it becomes very difficult to enhance cultivation by killing demon beasts, as such creatures generally possess spiritual wisdom and support each other. It's hard to find a solitary demon beast at the same cultivation level. And the most popular method for enhancing cultivation is swallowing and exhaling spiritual energy. By cycling the mental method, each complete circulation within the body draws external spiritual energy inside, and each cycle of the mental method increases the cultivation progress fractionally, with the absorption rate depending on the grade of the mental method and the richness of the external spiritual energy. His method, Withered Wood Blossoms, being the only mid-grade yellow-level mental method in this small world, was considered quite good. As it is a heavenly Tao heart method produced by the small world, achieving total mastery meant reaching the Great Achievement realm instantly. While on the road, he sat cross-legged and tried cycling his mental method to swallow and exhale spiritual energy, assessing that with his method's level, in an environment with normal levels of spiritual energy richness, it would roughly take 3 days to break through to the 4th layer of the chi refinement realm. It's not slow. Much faster than he anticipated. It seemed like cultivating wasn't all that difficult. As if seeing through Chen Kaiyu's thoughts, Fat Long, sitting opposite him, sighed helplessly, "Brother Chen Kaiyu, it seems you have a bit of a misconception about the path of cultivation. A normal person in the 3rd level of the chi refinement realm would not have the chance to come across a mental method. Not to mention a mental method from the Heavenly Tao secret realm. Once mastered, it directly advances one to the Great Achievement realm. Both of these opportunities are quite rare, and having them naturally makes the cultivation progress much faster. But in reality, the path of cultivation is very difficult. The 2 of them kept some items they could use and planned to sell the rest at the market. He didn't choose the mental method but took a knife-type spiritual treasure instead. He had previously found a mental method by chance, though it was just a low-grade yellow level, and he had only reached the small achievement realm. It definitely wasn't as good as the Heavenly Tao heart method, which could directly break through to the Great Achievement realm upon mastery. But every cultivator has only 3 chances in their life to change mental methods without any cost. After that, changing mental methods requires paying a certain price. The first mental method he practiced used up such an opportunity. The remaining 2 chances were extremely precious, and he didn't plan to exchange them for another mental method of the same level. If he were to change, it should be for an upper-grade yellow-level mental method, right? Nothing unexpected happened at the station. After reading and drinking their fill, they scattered a handful of coins on the table and continued on their way. They rented a horse at the station and set off again, both riding. Chen Kaiyu didn't know how to ride a horse, he had never learned and only had the option of sitting behind Fat Long. Although he felt somewhat uncomfortable inside, he had to embrace Fat Long's waist for safety and look at the scenery whizzing by his ears. When the sun was already halfway up the sky, Fat Long turned around, jumped off the horse, handed the reins to a young station attendant, and then hands on hips, he looked towards the high mountain next to this station, his face full of emotion as he smacked his lips and said, "Here we are, Brother Chen Kaiyu. This is the market I told you about. Built on top of the mountain peak. If you can perform sword flight, you can just fly straight up, or you can climb up along the mountain path. If you can't do either and don't want to climb, you can take the quick path next to it." To one side of the official road, there was a winding path around the mountain, which was the path taken by the poor to ascend the mountain. Besides that, there was a short, middle-aged man with a full beard and exceptionally bushy body hair, holding a sign standing there. "Quick path, reach the top in 3 breaths, 1 silver per trip." 3 breaths to reach the top? Chen Kaiyu looked at the sign skeptically, then raised his head to look towards the mountain peak piercing the clouds not far away. The peak was thousands of feet above the ground, definitely considered a top-notch tall mountain. To reach the top in 3 breaths? Even with sword flight, that seemed impossible. Hey! Fat Long just wrinkled his brows and gave a sly grin. Brother Chen Kaiyu, just try it and you'll know. All I can say is it's absolutely unique. Without saying anything more, Chen Kaiyu took out 2 silvers. That wasn't a lot to him. He had collected plenty of small coins and scattered silvers in the small world, so he wasn't short on petty cash. He casually threw 2 silvers into the hands of the bearded man. Before he could say anything, he saw the bearded man's right hand suddenly thrust out, grabbing his shoulder tightly. Immediately, an intense sensation of weightlessness came from below his feet, and the surrounding scenery turned into countless points of light. In less than a breath, everything returned to normal. When he opened his eyes again, he was already standing on the edge of a cliff on that tall mountain. A wooden platform was laid on the ground, next to which sat a young man cracking sunflower seeds and reading a comic book. There was also a sign on the ground with an arrow pointing out. Wentian Market. Before he could even comprehend the situation, he saw the bearded man by his side release his shoulder. However, after taking a deep breath, the man ran towards the edge of the cliff and plunged directly into the cliff. Chapter 12, Bloodline Entry Among Immediate Family Members. Chen Kaiyu quickly stepped forward and looked towards where the bearded man had been just a moment ago. He was now in midair, falling through the clouds at the speed of a free fall into the abyss. With the height of this mountain, even a cultivator in the Foundation establishment stage would undoubtedly be doomed. However, about a dozen breaths later, the bearded man suddenly appeared out of nowhere beside him, still holding Fat Long. Without speaking to them, he took a running start and jumped into the cliff once again. How about that? Fat Long surveyed the surroundings and said excitedly, feels good, doesn't it? This is also my first time. 1 or 2 silvers each time was too expensive for me before. I never felt like splurging. That bearded guy and the man next to him eating sunflower seeds are brothers. These 2 brothers awakened an extremely special bloodline entry right when they broke through the chi refinement realm. It's an entry that can only awaken between direct blood relatives with an extremely low probability. The entry effect allows their blood separated by water to be one and the same. As long as they are within 100 kilometers of each other, one can instantly teleport to the other side, regardless of the environment. I'm not sure exactly what level the entry is, but it's definitely not low, and that bearded guy, after breaking through to the Foundation establishment stage, gained the rare blue entry, never fall to death, which means no matter how high he falls from, he won't get hurt. Just like that, the 2 guys started a rapid transit business here in Seeking Immortality Gate Market, and it's been over a year now. It has also become a wonderful story around the Seeking Immortality Gate Market. Chen Kaiyu stood there expressionless, silently, somewhat at a loss for words. Bloodline entry. Instant teleportation. Never fall to death. Absolute rule. With these immensely powerful entries, he could conceive countless ideas to maximize their benefits. Wouldn't anything be more lucrative than this rapid transit venture? 1 or 2 silvers each time. In a day, that probably wouldn't amount to more than a few spirit stones, right? What's the difference between that and using an emperor's golden hoe for gardening? At the very least, couldn't you set up some sort of long-distance rapid transit between 2 cities, and definitely earn more than this? He wasn't sure whether you could only take 1 person at a time, but if any physical contact sufficed, or if control was enough for the transport, then taking 17 or 18 people at once shouldn't be a problem. This is just considering its commercial value. If it's strategic, then it's like having a sneak attack squad that can strike anywhere unexpectedly. Such a powerful ability. And you use it for mountain climbing rapid transit? Chen Kaiyu felt somewhat faint. Such wasteful handling of resources made the corners of his mouth twitch involuntarily. Just then, the young man sitting cross-legged on the ground next to him, absorbed in a comic book and idly cracking sunflower seeds, casually said, "The guy who brought you up is my brother. He's a bit shy around strangers and doesn't talk much. You can find me if you need to go back down as well, same price. How much are you earning per day now?" Chen Kaiyu stared at the young man and asked. He truly felt these 2 were squandering their potential. No matter how much you make, work for me, and I'll pay you 3 times as much each day. Although he didn't have that many spirit stones right now, he believed that if he could employ these 2, he would quickly earn a large amount of spirit stones. Oh. The young man, upon hearing the words, lifted his eyelids and glanced at Chen Kaiyu, then couldn't help but laugh. "Brother, you are quite interesting. Many have tried to recruit us, but you're the first to offer such a modest price. In your eyes, do my brother and I only worth 6 spirit stones a day? Or is it that your family can only afford to offer this much? All right. The young man waved his hand somewhat helplessly. Looking at your clothes, it's clear you're not from a wealthy family, and you don't have much backing. Those with even a slight amount of backing would have flown here themselves, not using our fast track. Head over to the market through that way, and if fate allows, we'll meet again and I'll treat you to a drink. Chen Kaiyu, upon hearing this, didn't say much more and simply turned around, taking Fat Long up a small path paved with stone steps. He had thought these two hadn't realized how powerful he was, but now it seemed they were as clear about it as one could be through a mirror. He was merely using the sky market to spread his fame. Then seeking a master he could reliably serve. Indeed. He felt slightly envious of these two brothers. Other powers sending out recruiters would likely be even more numerous. With time, they would probably manage to join a very decent power. This was indeed a good strategy, evidently better than proactively seeking a master to serve, as being actively recruited meant holding a much higher status and confidence within the power. But these two brothers clearly hadn't realized the danger involved. Others shouldn't have what one can't have themselves, a thought not uncommon among many. Regardless of the power they join, they would easily become targets of assassination by other powers afterward. Fame was a double-edged sword, it had its benefits and its drawbacks. Not long after following the stone path, they saw a city. Its walls were even taller than those of Fufeng City and felt much thicker, shocking in appearance. But Chen Kaiyu didn't understand why. A city already perched atop the summit, building such expensive walls seemed like an investment against no one. It somewhat felt like spending money just for appearances. Fat Long, having been there once or twice, now took the lead like a tour guide and began explaining, once you enter those city gates, you are considered to be inside the market, access to which is free, they don't charge a fee. Inside, it's divided into 18 small districts and one central area. This gate we're entering from is Seeking Immortality Gate, the main gate on the western wall of the Sky Market. This market is nearly as large as Fufeng City, obviously it's more than just a trading platform. If you have embarked on the path of cultivation, almost any demand can be met here. The first area you come across after entering this gate is Zone 4, also known as Life Buying Zone. Previously, this place was merely a platform for posting and taking assassination missions, which eventually evolved into countless forms of cooperative trading, though the area is still called Life Buying Zone. Chen Kaiyu nodded to show his understanding and stepped through the city gate, then glanced at the broad main street paved with blue bricks, which was wide enough for 8 carriages to pass side by side. The shops on both sides of the main road were festively adorned and bustling. It all seemed quite positive energy, it was hard to associate it with the posting of assassination missions. Along the sides of the road, numerous cultivators were sitting cross-legged, many with a sign placed in front of them. He looked at the bald man closest to him, topless, hugging a saber with closed eyes, sitting cross-legged on the side of the main road, wearing ragged hemp bands tied at the legs, his exposed body covered with scars from healed wounds. His head was thick with muscles, his face full of pockmarks. He looked fierce, as if he wasn't credited with killing 100 or so people. It would be a disservice to the fearsome image his parents had given him. But the sign in front of this bald man made Chen Kaiyu ponder for a moment before his brows slightly furrowed, and then he suddenly smiled. Quite good. Chapter 13, Spirit Stones are meant to be spent. 2 Spirit Stones, selling life for 1 month. Assume all risk for life and death, with no complaints or regrets. Fat Long stepped forward and whispered in explanation, there are many people selling their lives in this area. Generally, they are in some kind of trouble, in urgent need of money, and with no other options, they can only come here to sell their lives. But it's hard to distinguish the real from the fake. There are quite a few people who run away with the Spirit Stones or who just phone it in. 2 Spirit Stones are not a small sum. For a normal mortal family of 3, the total annual income is only about 60 silver, less than 1 Spirit Stone. 2 Spirit Stones are enough for a mortal family to struggle for 3 years. But in the cultivation world, 2 Spirit Stones aren't so out of reach. This man's cultivation is at the Chi Refinement Realm's 6th level, and that's about what he's worth. Chen Kaiyu took his gaze away from the man in front of him and continued walking straight along the main road. Every time they passed through a new area, or came across something novel, Fat Long was able to explain it to him like a tour guide, and he also realized that although Fat Long might be a bit cowardly, his ability to gather information was not to be underestimated. In less than 5 months since arriving in this world, he had almost fully understood it. And soon, they sold all their treasures and some unnecessary storage bags in Zone 7 trader area. The prices were all transparent, and these cultivation techniques and mental methods from the Heavenly Dao secret realm had no trouble selling, without any trickery in price. He kept 1 spiritual treasure for himself and gave 1 to Fat Long. He kept for himself 2 yellow-level lower-grade cultivation techniques and 1 yellow-level mid-grade mental method, leaving 2 yellow-level lower-grade cultivation techniques for Fat Long. The rest of the items, along with some assorted things scavenged from Huang Shike, and the spirit stones in Huang Shikai's storage bag amounted to a total of 50 spirit stones this time. Following the previously agreed upon 70 to 30 split, Chen Qiu kept 35 spirit stones for himself and stuffed the remaining 15 into a storage bag, handing it over to Fat Long, just as they were preparing to leave the shop. "Please wait, the two of you." The shopkeeper, smiling all over his face, blocked their way out. "Just a friendly reminder, a big incident happened today in Fufeng City. It is said that last night a heaven-slaying type of heavenly Dao secret realm appeared. 100 people went in, and in the end, only 2 came out alive. One's identity is unknown, and the other is said to be just a refugee, who normally lives by chopping wood in the mountain. When the secret realm closed, there were quite a few people outside, but these 2 managed to escape from the chaos using some method. Even young master of the Huang family died inside. I heard that the Huang family is quite angry and has gathered family members to meet at Ask Heaven Marketplace waiting for the other side to fall into their net. After all, if you want to take out the loot from the secret realm within 100 miles, you definitely need to pass through Ask Heaven Marketplace. When you entered this shop, there were already people watching you. Fighting is not allowed within the marketplace, but outside the city gates of the marketplace, it's burial ground chaos. It's better to be careful." Chen Qiu looked calmly at the shopkeeper with a smiling face in front of him. After a pause, he took a few pieces of silver from his sleeve and placed them on the table. "Thank you, shopkeeper. We'll meet again if fate allows." Without lingering, he walked straight out of the shop, completely ignoring the few burly men with somber expressions who clearly had bad intentions, and continued walking along the main road. The Huang family would seek revenge, and he understood that very well. If his own son had died, he would definitely seek revenge too. But Huang Shikai had wanted to kill him, and he couldn't just sit and wait for death. Still, it was after all a troublesome matter. He'd have to find a way to send a family reunion on its way. "Hey!" Distracted, Fat Long looked toward Chen Qiu, who was walking briskly ahead, and couldn't help but step forward to stop him with an urgent expression. "I say, brother Chen Qiu, why do you seem so unconcerned? We're being hunted by the Huang family. What are you shocked about?" Chen Qiu glanced at Fat Long and said indifferently, "The sky rains, a mother marries off her daughter, a son is killed and revenge is sought. Isn't that the natural order of things? Why do you look so surprised? What I mean is that as soon as we leave Wenshanping Market, we'll be attacked by Huang family members. They're on guard this time, and it probably won't be so easy to escape using the earth tunneling technique and blinding magic again." Chen Qiu nodded slightly, finally stopping in front of a shop in the Demon Beast area. "Section 8, I'm aware. I'll rent a room in the inn opposite this shop later, and you go gather some information. Find out the extent of the Huang family's power and how strong the people they've sent after us this time are. As long as we don't leave the market, we're temporarily safe. We'll meet again in an hour." Although Fat Long was a bit uneasy, he felt that what Chen Qiu said made some sense, so he nodded in a fluster and hurriedly left the place. Watching Fat Long's retreating figure, Chen Qiu didn't speak again and simply walked straight into the shop in front of him. "Shopkeeper, how much for a mature demon beast at the Chi Refinement Realm?" 30 minutes later, Chen Qiu had already appeared in a guest room of the inn across from that shop. The shopkeeper, with a beaming face, was bringing one after another the injured demon beasts in cages, collapsed on the ground, into the guest room. And the innkeeper was also busily attending to everything with a cheerful smile. Everyone seemed very amiable. As a rule, innkeepers don't allow guests to engage in mass slaughter in their rooms. After all, this is an inn, not a slaughterhouse. But they couldn't resist this guest, who had offered 5 times the regular price. After everyone else had left, Chen Qiu looked at the dozens of heavily injured demon beasts locked in cages, gasping for breath and continuously baring their fangs and hissing angrily at him, and slowly drew the long blade from his bosom. This was a spiritual treasure he had acquired from the heavenly Dao secret realm. Yellow level, low grade. Named Heaven's Laying. The name was quite domineering. Once his cultivation broke through to the foundation establishment stage and he could channel spiritual energy outside his body, he could pour spiritual energy into the spiritual treasure and unleash its full power. But at the Chi Refinement Realm, holding this weapon served only as a blade sharp enough to slice through iron like mud. But it was certainly much more useful than his wood-cutting knife. He had spent 32 spirit stones, almost all of his fortune, to buy this batch of mature demon beasts in front of him. 27 red-eyed wolves at the Chi Refinement Realm 4th and 5th levels. 4 tailless monkeys at the Chi Refinement Realm 6th level. 3 armored crocodiles at the Chi Refinement Realm 7th level. 1 hedgehog pig at the Chi Refinement Realm 8th level. 32 spirit stones, a sum that most foundation establishment stage cultivators didn't possess. It was not a small amount, otherwise, the shopkeeper selling the demon beasts, A cultivator at the mid-stage of foundation establishment wouldn't have greeted him, a minor chi refinement realm individual, with such a welcoming smile. He even offered a free service, beating them until they were severely injured. Spirit stones are meant to be spent, after all. Although using them all for cultivating the Mendel method would certainly enhance cultivation more, it would also take a long time. Compared to spirit stones, he was more short on time. Chapter 14, Pink Entry, Heaven-Reaching Giant. Phew. Chen Kaiyu took a deep breath, and then, holding a sharp blade, he passed it through the gaps in the steel cage, sending each of the gravely injured demon beasts off, aiming for a kill with a single strike. At the same time, when he performed introspection, several panels wrapped in clouds and mist also continuously popped up inside his body. Cultivation significantly increased, officially entering the 4th level of the Chi refinement realm. Please choose one of the 3 random entries below within 10 breaths. All 3 random entries were fairly ordinary. In the end, he chose entry name, Person of Heaven's Deficiency. Entry level, White. Entry effect, when you close your eyes, your other senses will be doubled in sharpness. If you were born blind, then other senses will be enhanced tenfold. If blinded later in life, physical senses will be enhanced 5-fold. Humans have 5 senses: hearing, smell, sight, taste, touch. With the loss of sight, the other 4 senses can be enhanced tenfold. If this entry were obtained by someone born blind, it would be equivalent to obtaining a blue entry. In some respects, it could be considered a unique entry. Of course, if blinded later in life, you can also gain 5-fold enhancement by gouging out your own eyes, but he only needed a 2-fold enhancement, albeit the effect was somewhat reduced, but after all, it had the least side effects. The cleaver continued to be swung, and his cultivation also continued to rise. Cultivation significantly increased, officially entering the 5th level of the Chi refinement realm. Please choose one of the 3 random entries below within 10 breaths. Huh? Chen Kaiyu looked at the 3 options on the panel wrapped in clouds and mist within his body, a hint of disbelief flashing through his eyes. It seemed like he had stumbled upon an exceptional entry. 1. Entry name, Surrounded. Entry level, White. Entry effect, when your abdomen is attacked, your back is injured. When your back is attacked, your abdomen is injured. 2. Entry name, 7-foot man. Entry level, White. Entry effect, for every inch over 7 feet in height, your body strength increases slightly. 3. Entry name, Unknown. Entry level, Unknown. Entry effect, this entry remains unknown until chosen. Once confirmed, its true nature will be revealed, and this entry cannot be discarded by any means. The talent of a 7-foot man was actually somewhat useful to him, suitable for body refining. In this world, 7 feet was comparable to about 1.7 meters in his previous life, and 1 foot equaled 10 inches. He wasn't very tall, 1.78 meters, but he could still gain a considerable enhancement. But that was about it. The effect was very limited. He chose the 3rd entry almost without any thought, regardless of what level or effect the 3rd entry held. The words unique entry were enough to convince him of its strength. Soon, another panel wrapped in clouds and mist emerged within his body. Entry name, Danshan Expansion, Unique. Entry level, Pink. Entry effect, every time you kill a demon beast, your Tao foundation will expand by 1 millimeter, with no upper limit. Looking at the effect of this entry, Chen Kaiyu couldn't help but open his mouth slightly, the shock in his eyes difficult to conceal. Wasn't this entry effect a bit too powerful? The Danshan is the place where spiritual energy is stored. Later on, foundation establishment involves constructing a platform on the Danshan, much like building a house. Typically, for cultivators at the foundation establishment stage, the Tao foundation built up is only about 100 millimeters wide and 100 millimeters high. An inch equals 100 millimeters. The width determines how much spiritual energy can be stored in your Danshan. The wider the Tao foundation, the more spiritual energy it can store, meaning you have ample spiritual energy to continuously release Taoist skills and various spells. The height of the Tao foundation determines the concentration of the spiritual energy within your Danshan. The shorter the foundation, the more compressed the spiritual energy, resulting in a richer concentration, which in turn enhances the power unleashed by the spells. Many sect disciples and children of wealthy families often prepare numerous heavenly materials and earthly treasures by the time they reach the great perfection of the Chi refinement realm, to ensure building a perfect high platform, laying an impeccable foundation for their cultivation journey. The entry Danshan expansion signifies that, as long as he kills 100 demon beasts, his future Tao foundation's width will be twice that of others. Killing 1,000 demon beasts, the width of the Tao foundation will be 10 times that of others. If killing millions of demon beasts, then his internal spiritual energy will be nearly infinite and never run out. As long as he was willing, he could even become a spell machine gun, unleashing thousands of fireballs with a mere wave of his hand while an enemy had only triggered one fireball technique. And the spiritual energy consumed would be less than 1,000th of his Danshan's capacity. Although the power is average, the sheer quantity makes up for it. Awesome. Chen Qiu took a deep breath and gave the entry the fairest evaluation he could imagine. Unfortunately, it was an entry that would only take effect after reaching the foundation establishment stage. Before establishing his foundation, the spiritual energy in his body was not sealed but flowed freely within. Only after establishing the foundation would the spiritual energy be completely sealed within the Danshan, allowing this entry to fully demonstrate its power. Afterwards, his eyes filled with vigor as he looked towards the remaining demon beasts. Following several swift cuts, the panel wrapped in clouds and mist appeared again above the Danshan within his body. Cultivation surged, officially entering the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm. Please choose one of the 3 random entries below within 10 breaths. 1. Entry name, Heaven-Reaching Giant. Entry level, Pink. Entry effect, for every demon beast killed, increase height by 1 mm. 2. Entry name, Audience. Entry level, White. Entry effect, when you are in a crowd, your presence significantly decreases. 3. Entry name, Spiritual Energy Intimidating. Entry level, White. Entry effect, once your Tao Foundation's width surpasses 100 mm, each additional millimeter increases the power of your spell slightly. What a pity. Chen Qiu sat in a trance on the bed in his guest room, thinking that the most painful thing in the world is making a choice between 2 indistinguishable options. If there's anything more painful, it's having a fantastic opportunity right before your eyes and missing it. When he broke through to the 5th level of the Chi refinement realm, there was a white entry. 7-foot man, the taller the body, the stronger the physique, a rather mundane white entry he hadn't paid much attention to. But had he chosen that entry then, he could have chosen the pink entry Heaven-Reaching Giant now. For every demon beast killed, the height would increase by 1 mm. He dared not contemplate it. The top-tier body refining entry set, he dared not picture himself after slaughtering a million fierce beasts, possibly standing tall like Kuafu, with his head touching the sky and his feet on the ground. Sadly. Who could have predicted the random drawing of the pink entry Heaven-Reaching Giant later on? After a long sigh, he still chose the 3rd entry, Spiritual Energy Intimidating. He could gamble that he might draw the Spiritual Energy Intimidating entry again in the future, but it was too risky. Although the entry was only a white level, combined with Danshan expansion, it could make him an extremely violent spell machine gun. Not only terrifying in casting frequency but also frighteningly powerful. Now, he had no doubt about making a name for himself in the cultivation world in the future. The only concern was that these were all long-term entries. He needed to strive to survive first. At least. He needed to establish his foundation as quickly as possible. Chapter 15, Are You Fucking Cheating? After he had felled the remaining demon beasts with swift strikes of his blade, Chen Qiu's cultivation also just barely broke through to the 7th layer of the Chi refinement realm. 32 spirit stones. For an ordinary mortal, it was a fortune they couldn't earn in several lifetimes combined, yet Chen Qiu squandered it all in the span of a few breaths. This wealth was truly substantial, enough to drive countless people to risk their lives for it, but when it came to spending, it somehow didn't seem to go very far. Just like that secret realm. Even many cultivators at the 3rd level of the Chi refinement realm entered, and when they set foot into this secret realm, they surely thought about the presence of existences at the 6th layer of the Chi refinement realm, and they probably considered the likelihood of encountering young masters from prominent families. They even contemplated the high chance of dying in this small world. But still, they resolutely stepped into the entrance of the small world. Perhaps they felt lucky enough, or perhaps the rare emergence of the heavenly Dao secret realm in their vicinity made them feel that missing it would lead to regret. Regardless of the reason, it didn't matter anymore. These people all ended up dying in the secret realm. But all of this had nothing to do with Chen Qiu. At this moment, Chen Qiu was sitting cross-legged on the bed, his eyes tightly closed and hands spread flat in front of his chest. This breakthrough in realm was very different from the previous ones, as he could clearly feel a warm current continuously flowing along the meridians inside his body. Time passed, and he knew not how long it had been. When he opened his eyes again, he only felt a foul stench emanating from his body. Looking down, he saw a great deal of black sludge had been expelled from his body and was now adhering to the inside of his clothes. His brows slightly furrowed, he hurriedly got up and walked to the private bath in the adjacent guest room. He stripped off his clothes and carefully cleaned himself. After he had finished washing and stepped out of the bath, standing in front of the copper mirror in the guest room and looking at his reflection, a slight shock flickered in his eyes. There had been no change in his body, but for some reason, his bearing seemed a bit different. If he had to pinpoint one change, it would be that his spine was a bit straighter. At this time, he felt that with just the strength of his body alone, he should have no problem taking on 2 cultivators at the 6th layer of the Chi refinement realm, which might be what Fat Long referred to as the dividing line at the 6th layer of the Chi refinement realm. Only by breaking through the 6th layer of the Chi refinement realm could one's physical strength be greatly enhanced, gradually setting oneself completely apart from mortals. Just then, he suddenly felt a stirring in his heart and practiced introspection. Sure enough, that extremely familiar panel shrouded in mist once again quietly appeared above his donjon. Cultivation has surged, officially entering the 7th layer of the Chi refinement realm. Please choose from the 3 random entries below within 10 breaths. 1. Entry name, self-destruction term. Entry level, white. Entry effect, you may self-destruct any entry to unleash an attack with the full force of a realm cultivation 1 level higher than your current cultivation. 2. Entry name, unsettled spirit. Entry level, white. Entry effect, when you are in a state of fear, your 5 senses will be slightly enhanced. 3. Entry name, banding together. Entry level, green. Entry effect, the extra organs that have emerged on your body will mutate and possess power that is unfathomable by gods and ghosts. The specific power depends on the number of extra organs. Perhaps his luck had run out in the previous few promotions, as this time, the luck for advancement was fairly average with only 2 white entries and 1 green entry. According to Fat Long's explanation, the random entries obtained when breaking through the Chi refinement realm were likely to be white entries, with a small chance for green entries or higher. This time was the normal scenario. It's just that there had been too many abnormal times previously, and he had gotten somewhat used to that abnormality. Without much overthinking, he chose the first entry. Compared to the other 2, only this self-destruction term was slightly stronger for him. Even though he didn't currently have any needless entries, he would gain an entry with every realm advancement. In the future, there will certainly be times when all 3 randomly obtained entries during a promotion are useless. In such cases, there won't be a situation where they are completely without use. However, could this self-destruction term self-destruct the term itself? And, he had an entry previously that absolutely could not be removed. Could the self-destruction term self-destruct that entry? Although he was curious, he wouldn't conduct such an experiment just to satisfy his curiosity. Huff. Standing naked in front of a bronze mirror, Chen Kaiyu waved the long saber in his hand. After feeling the burst of power ready to be unleashed from his body, he felt somewhat safer, even harboring a desire to find someone to spar with. Only then did he look towards the 4 storage bags piled up next to his clothes, falling silent. He had acquired quite a few storage bags in the small world, most of which he had sold, leaving only 4 for himself. These storage bags contain many things, including dry food, spirit stones, and silver tails. The only thing missing was a change of clothes. Fortunately, his distress didn't last long, as a knocking on the door and Fat Long's slightly anxious voice soon came from outside the guest room. "Brother Chen Kaiyu, hurry and open the door, something big has happened." 3 breaths later, Fat Long pushed the door open, while Chen Kaiyu was standing in place, shielding his vital body parts with the blade and interrupted, "First go buy me a set of clothes. No matter how big the issue, I'm not in the mood to listen right now." Fat Long was momentarily stunned. He casually pulled out a clean set of clothes from his bosom and handed them to Chen Kaiyu, saying, "I have a clean set of clothes here that I change into usually. You can wear them for now, though they might be a bit large. But that's not a problem, in a while." Before he could finish his sentence, he suddenly caught the strong smell of blood in the guest room. His eyes swept over to the cage almost filling half the room with demon beast carcasses and a pile of clothes on the bed oozing with black muck, and he slowly opened his mouth in disbelief, trembling with shock. "Brother Chen Kaiyu, you didn't break through to the 7th level of the Chi refinement realm, did you?" It can't be. You really reached the 7th level of the Chi refinement realm? How is that possible?" Although Chen Kaiyu hadn't replied yet, Fat Long was exceedingly familiar with the changes that accompanied breaking through to the 7th level of the Chi refinement realm, the most obvious of which was a transformation of the body, like shedding an old skin. While it wouldn't extend one's life, it would greatly enhance one's physical constitution. It could be said that after breaking through to the 7th level of the Chi refinement realm, one was no longer an ordinary person. At this moment, Fat Long, standing in place, was filled with disbelief and resentment. How was that fair? He had been in this world for 5 months, doing all sorts of devious things, everything except risking his life. He had done everything that he could. Despite all his efforts, he had only cultivated to the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm. And yesterday, when he first met Chen Kaiyu, he wasn't even at the 1st level of the Chi refinement realm. In the small world, he had advanced to the 3rd level, and now after just stepping out to gather some information, he had reached the 7th level when he came back. You're cheating, aren't you? Chapter 16, Isn't she a geisha? Chen Kaiyu nodded his head, took the opportunity while Fat Long was standing there, dazed, to change his clothes, using a cloth to tie tightly around his waist, making his outfit fit a bit better, and then casually said, I've almost spent all of my spirit stones, only 3 left now. If you spend all your spirit stones, you might have been able to break through to the 8th level of the Chi refinement realm. What's there to be surprised about? But that's more than 30 spirit stones. Fat Long couldn't help but feel a twinge of pain as he said, Brother Chen Kaiyu, didn't you wage an internal struggle before spending them? You spent them so decisively. You should have hesitated for a while. Hesitate? After tidying up his clothes, Chen Kaiyu walked to the red table, poured himself a cup of cold tea, and drank it in one gulp. Still not quite satisfied, he brought the spout of the teapot to his mouth, drank an entire teapot of cold tea, then contentedly wiped his mouth and set the teapot aside. The Huang family has sent people to block the city gates, so now is not the time to hesitate. Do you plan to let the spirit stones be your funeral objects? Let's not talk about this for now, you just said something big has happened, what is it? Phew. Speaking of the matter, Fat Long took a deep breath, sat next to the red table, dipped his finger in some tea from the teapot, and began to write on the table. The Huang family is quite a well-known power in Fufeng City. Their family business is centered around the mining industry. The family head is a 6th-layer foundation establishment stage cultivator, and this time the Huang family's 7th elder, who is an 8th-level Chi refinement cultivation, led the team, along with 6 or 7 thugs around the 5th or 6th level of the Chi refinement realm. With grandeur, they have publicly declared that they will kill us to avenge young Master Huang. However, the insider news I've obtained states that this 7th elder at the 8th level of the Chi refinement realm does not plan to take immediate action against us. The Huang family's main goal this time is to eliminate these 6 or 7 thugs with our help. These thugs joined the Huang family years ago but spent all their stipends on providing for their families, stubbornly refusing to invest a penny in their cultivation. Over the years, they haven't made any progress in strength at all, have aged gradually, and their physical condition has deteriorated significantly, with their fighting power greatly diminished compared to their younger days. This means that while they are paid the stipend that a 6th-level Chi refinement cultivator should get, they cannot give the Huang family the power that a 6th-level Chi refinement cultivator should have. But it's not easy to just expel them. After all, these people have dedicated nearly half a lifetime to the Huang family. If they were all expelled, it would cool the hearts of many underneath. Hence, the Huang family plans to take this opportunity to let this group of people all die at our hands, and then for the 7th elder to take our heads back. The Huang family does not have any pension funds. After taking another deep breath, Fat Long continued, at the same time, I have uncovered a shocking secret. The Huang family actually didn't want to seek revenge at all because they are at a crucial moment. One of the mines in the Huang family's mining areas is about to reveal a great opportunity. It is said to be a random heavenly Dao entry. And the main reason the Huang family had to come for revenge is, if the Huang family did nothing, it would easily arouse suspicion, so they had no choice but to make a trip to the Ask the Heavens market, and they brought the weakest bunch of their thugs to achieve 2 objectives with 1 action. Other than that, there is another purpose for the Huang family sending people here. The Ask the Heavens market is the largest marketplace within 100 miles and the most powerful force near Fufeng City. By pretending to seek revenge, they hired quite a few people to watch the city gates, to probe whether Ask the Heavens market was aware of this news. After all, the leader of Ask the Heavens market is at the Golden Core stage, and if they wanted this heavenly Dao entry, then the Huang family would certainly have no choice but to hand it over. But, Fat Long paused for a moment, a serious expression on his face. Actually, there are already quite a few powers that have secretly received the news and have sent people to Fufeng City. Remember the troop that entered the city last night from the capital? It's the one with a geisha who wouldn't sell herself for 3 spirit stones from a big shot in the capital. This geisha belongs to the flower offering sect. That day, with a massive crowd gathered at the east gate of Fufeng City, the scene was extremely chaotic. Even the Huang family did not realize that quite a few people slipped into Fufeng City under the radar. And last night's sudden opening of the Heavenly Dao secret realm in the vicinity of Fufeng City was no coincidence, but rather influenced by the Heavenly Dao entry. Brother Chen Kaiyu, do you understand what I'm saying? Sooner or later, maybe even today, there will be a great battle in Fufeng City, and it seems we have been unwittingly drawn into it. Sitting in front of the red table, Chen Kaiyu went from being confused at first to silently emotionless after Fat Long finished speaking. After a brief pause, he softly asked, Brother Fat Long, are you serious when you tell me this intelligence could be gathered from a tavern or a tea house? He knew Fat Long had a talent for gathering intelligence. But he had not realized that Fat Long's ability to gather intelligence could rival that of the secret Imperial Police. Of course not. Fat Long shook his head. I used various methods, including going to the World Pavilion shop that specializes in selling intelligence, purchasing information, and then observing which powers people come to buy information from World Pavilion, and where these people went afterwards. Additionally, I used rumors about Fufeng City and what has changed these days compared to the past, and various other methods, to synthesize this information. The accuracy rate is 80%. Did it cost spirit stones? Chen Kaiyu nodded in understanding. It did. How much did it cost? All gone. Chen Kaiyu fell silent again, his mouth twitched slightly. Don't you have 15 spirit stones in your pocket? You just said why I spent them so readily, at least you should hesitate a bit. It seems you didn't hesitate much either. Nonsense. Fat Long's face turned unpleasant. The Huang family is blocking the city gates. At this time if you hesitate, do you expect the spirit stones to accompany you in death? Pretty good. Chen Kaiyu nodded. Then after a moment of contemplation, he softly said, this is good news for us, it at least gives us a period of respite. What he needed most now was this respite, as long as he had time to cultivate to the foundation establishment stage and learn a few spells, wiping out the Huang family would be a matter of blinking an eye. But it seemed that the heavens did not plan on obliging him. Bang, bang, boom. With two clear knocks followed by a loud crash, the door was kicked open. A tall woman dressed in a carmine long dress, holding a round fan and wearing a red veil, walked leisurely into the room with two strong men, just as Fat Long, who was about to stand up to open the door, froze on the spot. You are the external elder of the sky-bursting gang, right? The woman casually played with the round fan in her hand, looking at the frozen Fat Long with a hint of mirth in her eyes and letting out a silvery laugh. Meeting again, you've become an elder, haven't you? I wonder if your sect is still recruiting? Can I come? After a long silence, Fat Long finally turned his head to look at Chen Kaiyu. This is the geisha from the capital's theater troupe that I just mentioned to you. You know each other? Yeah, I called on her once. Isn't she a geisha? That's a lie, to sell at a higher price. The rumor spread through the capital that a certain important person offered 3 spirit stones and she still wouldn't sell herself was also an idea I once gave her. Chapter 17, Creating One's Own Cultivation Technique. 9 Dragons Chasing the Sunday He Lied to You. The woman clad in carmine long dress waved her round fan gently, and 2 brawny men stepped out of the doorway, standing like door gods on both sides of the guest room door. Subsequently, a faint blue light screen appeared out of nowhere. Not too big or too small, it enclosed the entire guest room within it, leaving the 2 strong men isolated outside. It was clearly some sort of soundproofing array. Since he's talked to you about me, he must have also told you that I'm the heavenly girl who represents the flower offering sect, right? The main cultivation technique of the flower offering sect is the dual cultivation technique. Yes, it's what you think it is. Rampant pleasure, beauties like clouds, wine pools, and meat forests. Every day's cultivation consists of a mix of gyrations and banana munching. He has a unique constitution. He was captured by the flower offering sect and used as a tonic for 3 months, so he shouldn't just know me, but be very familiar with me, after all. I favored him the most. Chen Kaiyu looked expressionlessly towards Fat Long at his side, not speaking, just quietly sitting on the chair. He was judging the situation, which was a bit chaotic at the moment, so it was wise to remain silent for now. Why are you looking at me? Since his cover was already blown, Fat Long was somewhat annoyed and shouted loudly. Brother Chen Kaiyu, please think about it seriously. Isn't it reasonable for someone like me, with no significant background, who unfortunately landed on the 9 Ox power entry, to be captured by such a dual cultivation sect to be used as a tonic? Think about it, is there a problem with this logic? What could I do? I thought about resisting, but the sect is full of experts. Who could I defeat? I didn't want to die, so what could I do? It was with great difficulty that I escaped after 3 months, only to run into her here again. This woman was the heavenly girl of the flower offering sect, not often in the sect. After learning that the sect had captured me, an exotic tonic, she specifically rushed back to torment me a dozen times, until finally, I came up with a strategy for her. It helped her earn more spirit stones, which I used to negotiate my escape from the flower offering sect. Chen Kaiyu nodded in understanding. It seemed normal to think about it. If he were in charge of the flower offering sect, he would certainly capture Fat Long as a tonic as well, but... He furrowed his brows and pondered for a moment before looking gently at the woman before him and said, Miss, although I'm not very familiar with dual cultivation technique, I have heard a bit about it. I presume your level is much higher than that of my brother here, isn't it? Is dual cultivation useful? It seems that you really don't understand dual cultivation. The woman shook her head, laughing with a tinkling sound. covering her mouth with her fan. Dual cultivation is not a cultivation technique, it's a mental method. But you are right about one thing, if the cultivation levels are too disparate, it is indeed useless. If it's useless, then why? Even if it's useless, it's still pleasurable. Chen Kaiyu once again fell silent, and after a long while, tapped the table lightly with his index finger. Let's not beat around the bush, since we're all clear-eyed people here. What brings you to my brother today? Do you wish to take him back as a tonic again? Not at all. The young lady shook her head again and then became serious, the smile on her face receding as she said, this fellow might not be very decent, but he has done me a favor. I am here to urge him to leave this place as quickly as possible. Although I don't know why, after escaping from the flower offering sect, he would come to Fufeng City, hundreds of miles away. But one thing is very important. Fufeng City will soon erupt in a bloody conflict among several factions, resulting in widespread slaughter, affecting countless ordinary people. The market square will not be safe either, it's best to flee early. I cannot reveal the specifics to you. Consider this a word of warning. Lastly, the young lady suddenly giggled again, her provocative and flirtatious demeanor shone as she covered her mouth with her fan and gazed at Fat Long, her eyes bright with reluctance. She said softly, if we meet again next time, I would still like to try that 9 dragons chasing the sun move you came up with. It's very unique, I've never seen anything like it in my life. You must survive, okay? As the words fell, the light screen dissipated. The girl turned and walked out of the guest room, and the brawny men standing at the doorway quickly followed suit, while the guest room's shopkeeper had already been at the door with a nod and a beaming smile, evidently having received a handsome compensation. After the sudden intrusion by the woman, the previously harmonious atmosphere in the room gradually turned eerie. After a long silence, Chen Kaiyu was the first to speak and break the tension. So the reason you were so frail when we met yesterday was because you were tortured by the flower offering sect for 3 months? It wasn't because cultivators at the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm are naturally that frail? Fat Long nodded with a mix of sadness and anger. Huh, no wonder. Chen Kaiyu nodded in understanding. Fat Long had originally told him that all cultivators at the 6th level of the Chi refinement realm were that frail, and only by breaking through to the 7th level would their physical condition significantly improve. But neither the cultivators he had met in the secret realm last night at the 6th level, nor himself when he had just broken through to the 6th level, felt as weak as Fat Long did. He had been somewhat puzzled, but now it made sense. May I venture to ask again, what is the 9 dragons chasing the sun technique? Hey, you're being even more presumptuous than last time. Fat Long said somewhat indignantly, stop asking, that experience is my shame. When I was captured by the flower offering sect, how many people did I ask for help along the way? Did even one person help me? There are thousands of tonic cultivators in the flower offering sect, and every so often they weed out those who have been drained. What could I do to avoid being drained and eliminated? I had to rack my brains to develop a series of techniques, so that when those witches indulged in them with me, they would become addicted. Thus thinking of indulging once more, and because they couldn't bear to, they would control the intensity of the technique and not drain me. Let me tell you, Chen Kaiyu, I will never forget these memories in my lifetime. The day I gain power, everyone from the flower offering sect who humiliated me will not escape. I'll have them flayed and sliced 1,000 times. Why do you think I changed my name to Fat Long? Every moment, I remind myself that every disgrace I face is a necessary part of the journey to success. A person who is determined to reach the peak will never feel ashamed of yesterday's kneeling. This name is to tell the world, to remind myself. I, Fat Long, am a fucking dragon lying in wait. One day, I will disperse these clouds, like a dragon emerging from the sea, and let the world see what a hero is. At this moment, Fat Long's neck veins bulged, his face flushed with anger, and his tone was forceful, filled with intense fury and defiance. In that instant, Chen Kaiyu was slightly stunned. It seemed like he saw in Fat Long the image of someone who, for the sake of their aspirations, silently endured and bore the brunt of setbacks and hardships. Fat Long didn't seem as afraid of death as he had imagined. Instead, he was unwilling to die a worthless death. Murmuring as if in a trance, if that's the case, why call yourself Fat Long, instead of something like Flood Dragon or Heroic Dragon? Those names sound too arrogant. Fat Long suddenly softened his tone again, muttering under his breath, I'm afraid that someone might get annoyed by such a name and casually kill me. I'm a bit afraid of dying. Aren't you? Chapter 18, Fortune favors the bold, you have to take a gamble. Chen Kaiyu suddenly fell silent again, standing motionless. The 2 sentences felt eerily familiar, as if he had heard the exact same ones last night. After organizing his thoughts, he shook his head and said, since you knew she was entering the city last night, Why were you at the east gate of Fufeng City last night recruiting disciples under the banner of the Sky-Bursting Gang? How would I know it was her? Fat Long scratched his head irritably. I just received news early that a troop from the capital was heading to Fufeng City. The locals here don't have much entertainment, and bustling events are a must-see. I arrived in Fufeng City yesterday morning, planning to recruit disciples while many people were gathered at the city gate, guaranteeing a great harvest. Only in the morning did I find out that it was actually her. At that moment, I thought of running, but I couldn't bear to miss this opportunity. Thinking I was already there and amidst so many people, she shouldn't possibly notice me. But just as she entered the city, she looked in my direction. My heart skipped a beat, and all I could do was turn around and hastily find someone to run towards, showing her a back view. That person was you. Originally, I just thought of striking up a casual conversation with you, just waiting for her to enter the city and not see my face. But unexpectedly, within a few exchanges, I found out that you two had traveled across time, and you know what happened afterward. Chen Kaiyu's mouth twitched slightly as he raised his hand wanting to pour himself a cup of tea, only to find that the teapot was somehow empty. He stopped his action and touched his nose. Now it seems, this girl also counts as somewhat of a benefactor to him. If it were not for this girl, Fat Long would not have stopped him. He wouldn't have known about such a thing as an entry, nor would he have entered the Heavenly Dao secret realm, nor would he have had the opportunities that followed. Not quite right. If looking further back, this girl came because of the Huang family's Heavenly Dao entry manifesting in this world. If it weren't for the Huang family, both this girl and Fat Long would not have come to Fufeng City, meaning the Huang family also counts as somewhat of a benefactor to him. And it seems the young master of the Huang family has already died by his hand. Would killing a benefactor bring heavenly retribution? He shook his head and thought no more of this, but brought the conversation to the crucial point. What exactly is that so-called Heavenly Dao entry? It's a special type of entry. Fat Long's expression turned serious, and he spoke solemnly. As I mentioned before, aside from white and green entries which signify levels, there are many special entries, such as Gray entry, Bloodline entry, and Heavenly Dao entry. Heavenly Dao entries happen randomly, some are very strong and some are weak, but they all share one commonality, that is, Heavenly Dao entries can be inherited. They can be directly passed on to your direct descendants. That alone is enough. Once a Heavenly Dao entry appears, countless forces will come scrambling, as long as they seize it and ensure their family can continue its lineage. Then with the passage of time, the family's heritage will grow stronger and stronger. Daizia country has not seen a change of dynasty for nearly 1,000 years. A long time ago, the current royal family of Daizia was just a little Xia family. Why has it prospered for so long? Naturally, there are many reasons, but one of them is that the ancestors of Daizia obtained a total of 11 Heavenly Dao entries. All direct descendants of the Xia family are born possessing these 11 entries. Now, on the Heavenly Pride leaderboard of Daizia, out of the top 100, 37 are from the Xia family. Truly a strict selection by the Xia family. Oh? Chen Kaiyu's eyes narrowed slightly at this. Upon hearing Fat Long, he knew many people would die this time. The effect of the Heavenly Dao entry was somewhat perverse, since so many powers are already aware of this Heavenly Dao entry. Can the royal family of Daizia not know? Wouldn't they send someone? They won't. Fat Long shook his head. The Heavenly Dao entry is both inheritance and a curse. No matter what entry is randomly obtained, it will definitely be passed on to your descendants, and some entries have rather severe negative effects. Adding one more Heavenly Dao entry to the royal family of Daizia won't make their descendants' foundations much stronger, given they already have 11. But if a Heavenly Dao entry with strong negative effects is randomly obtained, then it's purely a loss. There's little to gain but so much to lose. No one would sit at such a gambling table. Some major families either have already won the gamble by possessing several Heavenly Dao entries, no longer needing to gamble, or are currently doing well enough not to gamble, hence their interest in this isn't great. But for a small family like the Huang family, it presents a fatal attraction. And the royal family wouldn't do something like sending people to snatch the Heavenly Dao entry and then exchange it for spirit stones. That would be too beneath them, you see. If Daizia were to do that, do you think these sects would still stay within Daizia's borders? The world is vast, there's always a place for lords. Sects and countries have a mutual relationship, not a hierarchical one. How much is a Heavenly Dao entry worth in spirit stones? This thing is basically not sold on the market, and doesn't have a fixed market price, but it should be at least 1,000 spirit stones, I guess. Of course, that price is my estimate. I'm not clear on the specific amount, but it should only be higher, not lower, given it's a Heavenly Dao entry. Chen Kaiyu nodded his head, as he had already understood the situation. What is the cultivation level of that girl? Foundation Establishment Stage Level 1. It doesn't sound very high. Enough to kill the two of us for sure. You're too afraid of death. Nonsense, aren't you afraid? Let's go. Chen Kaiyu didn't speak further but rather stood up and walked straight towards the outside of the guest room. After reaching the first floor, he casually took 2 spirit stones from the shopkeeper's hand, then proceeded to walk out the city gate along the main road. This had been arranged with the shopkeeper beforehand. The demon beast corpses in the guest room, whether fur or flesh, were valuable goods that could fetch around 5 to 6 spirit stones. He didn't have time to deal with them, so he sold them to the shopkeeper for 2 spirit stones. The shopkeeper earned spirit stones, and he saved time. Are you really going to Fufeng City to wade into these troubled waters? Have you gone mad? Even though you're in the Chi Refinement Realm level 7 now, but there are many from the Foundation Establishment stage going there, it's just not enough. Isn't this just courting death? On the main road of Area 4 in Kainshan Market, Fat Long, who was hurriedly following behind Chen Kaiyu, incessantly urged, "Brother Chen Kaiyu, don't think that just one realm higher in Foundation Establishment than Chi Refinement is small, but in fact, it's a world of difference. Going like this, it really isn't any different from sending ourselves to death." Chen Kaiyu, with a calm face, led at the front and softly said, "You see the nature of this world as well. If you can't boost your strength at all costs, what would you do if you end up captured by the flower offering sect for use as nourishment like you? With such an opportunity right before us, how could we possibly miss it? Absolutely not. Your body isn't robust nor do you have the might of 9 oxen, and your cultivation level isn't high, they wouldn't choose you for nourishment. Just yesterday you told me if I don't become stronger, someone like you could easily kill me. But now I can't beat you anymore. Still no good." Chen Kaiyu walked to the city gate of Kainshan Market, stopped in place, and looked toward a few men outside the gate who seemed somewhat astonished when they saw him, softly saying, "If these 1,000 spirit stones come into hand, I can take you to the flower offering sect tomorrow and kill those who have humiliated you. Fortune favors the bold, sometimes we have to take the risk. But life is also lost in risks, we shouldn't gamble if we don't have to. Don't worry." Chen Kaiyu patted Fat Long on the shoulder, paused for a moment and then chuckled softly, "Mists don't scatter on their own, they must be cleared away by hand, and if you want the dragon to leap to the sea and ascend to the heavens to claim its rightful place, you must take the plunge. I have a way, and I will win." Chapter 19, If you can fight, fight, if you can't, die. Perhaps it was Chen Kaiyu's confidence that had infected him, or maybe it was because he remembered his own bold words just now he didn't want to appear timid. In any case, after his expression changed several times between clear and cloudy, Fat Long still struggled to nod his head. "Alright, let's make a bet." In his life, he rarely went all in. His entrepreneurial peers who had fallen in his previous life taught him a lesson: how much profit a project made was not the deciding factor in whether a company lasted long enough. The real deciding factor was, if the company lost on this project, how much would it lose? He never thought about making his company bigger, he just wanted to make it last a bit longer. Compared to the profit target, he spent more of his life considering the stop-loss point. Survive long enough, and you might just witness a miracle. Whether in his previous life or here. Chen Kaiyu nodded and smiled, then walked straight toward the city gate. The several men outside the city gate looking at him with astonishment were the ones sent by the Huang family. At this moment, as soon as they saw him stepping through the city gate, they tore off their black robes and pulled out long swords from their bosoms, surrounding Chen Kaiyu and Fat Long. Their eyes, like those of hungry wolves, were fixed on them, cutting off their escape route back to Ask the Sky Market. These hired thugs seemed rather old, some even had age spots on the backs of their hands, but their aura was not weak in the slightest. The Huang family is handling affairs. Bystanders, step aside. Please, grant us some convenience. An old man wearing a standard Huang family robe, hands behind his back, walked out from the crowd with a sullen face. Standing in front of Chen Kaiyu and the others, he paused for a long time before speaking in a smile that wasn't quite a smile. "You killed our young master Huang and still strut around so openly, not even wearing a cloak. Impressive. You really think the Huang family has no temper?" Very soon, 3 or 4 more Huang family thugs arrived, tearing off their black robes and holding long swords. They joined the encirclement, staring straight at Chen Kaiyu and his companions, ready to swing their swords at any command. These men must be the ones from Fat Long's intelligence report, the Huang family's 7th elder at the 8th level of the Chi Refinement Realm, and the thugs the Huang family was prepared to deal with. And the people around seemed to be used to this, dispersing to both sides without even a hint of surprise. As long as the fight wasn't in Ask the Sky Market, no one would care even if they turned the world outside upside down. What do you say? Fat Long glanced at the Huang family thugs surrounding them with long swords and leaned in close to Chen Kaiyu, surveying their surroundings and lowering his voice. "Whatever the plan is, it's about time you said it, right?" He probably already guessed Chen Kaiyu's plan. Like last time, they would escape from here using the earth tunneling technique and blinding technique. However, both techniques required the scene to be sufficiently chaotic for them to slip away unnoticed. So what they should do next was create confusion, for example, by scattering some spirit stones on the ground to pull in the onlookers. The temptation of a few spirit stones was not small. There should be many who couldn't resist this temptation. When the chaos of Fufeng City's heavenly downturns broke out, Chen Kaiyu and his brother probably planned to use these two techniques to slip away amid the chaos. Although the risk was high, the reward, if successful, would be quite astonishing. Just as he was ready to cooperate with Chen Kaiyu's plan, he suddenly felt a chill on his back. Fat Long turned around instinctively, only to see that a resentful spirit had appeared behind him at some point, floating in midair and carrying an aura of death that made people shiver. And the appearance of this resentful spirit was all too familiar. It was none other than young Master Huang Shikai, who had died in the secret realm the night before. Ah! Fat Long couldn't help but slowly open his mouth in a mix of confusion and disbelief as he looked at this scene before him. He had trouble imagining that Chen Kaiyu's plan was just to kill their way out directly. Was that mad? This, a plan? If you can beat them, fight. If you can't, die, right? Then, the next moment, kill. Chen Kaiyu roared angrily, suddenly drawing his yellow-level lower-grade spiritual treasure heaven-slaying broadsword from his bosom and grabbing Huang Shikai's collar before charging forward. At the same time, the Huang family's seventh elder also shouted kill with an extremely ugly expression on his face. He naturally recognized that the resentful spirit in Chen Kaiyu's hand was their young master Huang. Originally, 100 people had entered the secret realm last night, and in the end, only 2 came out alive. They didn't know who had killed the young master and could only vent their resentment on these 2 survivors. But they never expected the young master was actually killed by these 2 beasts. Once the order was given, the blade was drawn from its sheath. The Huang family's henchmen surrounding Chen Kaiyu shouted in unison with determined and cold faces, showing no mercy as they chopped at Chen Kaiyu. Although they were older and their condition had declined, their years of combat experience were not lacking. They were most experienced in bullying the few with the many. However, clang! A series of sounds like chopping on steel suddenly erupted. It really worked. Chen Kaiyu's mouth curved into a sly smile as he held onto Huang Shikai's collar with his left hand, while his right hand gripped the hilt of his sword, charging into the crowd and slashing wildly. He didn't understand any sword skill. But he knew that a blade cutting on a neck would kill a person. The entry effect of Huang Shikai's yellow entry unassailable from behind made him completely immune to attacks from the back and sides, which wasn't very useful when he was alive, as it had quite a few drawbacks. But after becoming a resentful spirit, this entry turned out to be extremely useful, like a shield possessing absolute defense. Especially since a resentful spirit is a divine soul entity, it almost has no weight, not affecting movement when held in hand. In a matter of seconds, the 6 to 7 Chi Refinement Realm 5th and 6th level henchmen of the Huang family fell powerless into pools of blood. The gap between the 6th level of Chi Refinement and the 7th level was not as vast as heaven and earth. But it was not small either. Already overpowering in realm, and even more so with a large shield possessing absolute defense, there was no pressure in killing. Before Fat Long could even react, Chen Kaiyu had already charged towards the Huang family's 7th elder at the rear, holding Huang Shikai in his left hand and brandishing his broadsword with his right. Come. By this time, Chen Kaiyu had somewhat become bloodthirsty, and the murderous aura he carried made the bystanders, who were watching the fight, subconsciously retreat a few steps. A few moments later, Fat Long looked bewilderedly at Chen Kaiyu's retreating figure, not having had the chance to draw his sword and join the battle, only to see Chen Kaiyu already beginning to dismember the 7th elder of the Huang family's corpse. Arms, thighs, heads. He dismembered them with ease as if he were a skilled butcher, then adeptly searched inside Elder Huang's robe and after a while, pulled out 3 storage bags and stuffed them into his bosom with satisfaction. Then, he ran over to the other henchman and rummaged for a while before turning his head to look at him. Are you here to watch the show? Shall I sing you another tune? Is it that simple and crude? Otherwise? Chen Kaiyu nodded, gave Fat Long an annoyed roll of his eyes, contentedly patted his now bulging waist pack, and casually tossed a few pieces of silver into the hands of the guard commander at the entrance to Heaven asking Marketplace City Gate, thanks for your hard work cleaning up this mess later. A little tip for tea. Chapter 20, The world is vast, yet it can be crossed in 3 breaths. Afterward, Chen Kaiyu did not delay even for a moment. With his left hand clutching Huang Shikai's collar, he strode towards the cliff from which they had come. The resentful spirit he had summoned could only exist for an hour, after which it would dissipate automatically. It could not be paused midway. The invulnerable front and back entry for Huang Shikai was more useful than he had anticipated, so he had to make the most of Huang Shikai's residual effectiveness during the remaining time. Brother Chen Kaiyu. Fat Long had also recovered by now and hurriedly followed Chen Kaiyu's quick steps, saying anxiously, by openly summoning Huang Shikai's resentful spirit, everyone will know that you possess the ability to turn the creatures you kill into resentful spirits. With so many onlookers here, it won't be long before the news leaks out. Your trump card is gone. What use is a trump card that everyone knows about? Chen Kaiyu walked briskly toward the cliff from which they had come, slightly quickening his pace. Who said this was my trump card? Hurry, time waits for no one. Hey! At the Seeking Immortality gate on the western city wall, the guard commander, clad in armor, watched the departing figures of Chen Kaiyu and his companion. Weighing the handful of silver Chen Kaiyu had tossed to him, he chuckled. This fella sure knows how to conduct himself. Interesting. Subsequently, he tucked the few pieces of silver in his breast, turned around to his guards who were eagerly watching him and scolded with a laugh, "What are you looking at me for? You think I can pocket all this silver myself? Get to work. After we're off duty tonight, I'll treat you to drinks in Fufeng City. Just to make it clear in advance, we're only ordering one geisha, it's all on me unless you get touchy. Anyone who wants more, pays their own way. At night, the Wenshan market doesn't keep anyone, only inns do. Once the inns are full, others must leave the market. These are the rules of the Wenshan market. In the Wenshan market, there is a rule prohibiting fighting, yet daily, a great number of people come here seeking vengeance. It's one thing if it's just one power, but with the multitudes that come seeking revenge, even the Wenshan market, with golden core cultivators in place, cannot withstand the pressure. However, those seeking vengeance from the Wenshan market often are quite generous. After contemplating, the Wenshan market has set these rules. They ensure that not too many powers are offended while also securing decent revenue. Not far from the Wenshan market, atop the same mountain ridge, lies a small auxiliary city filled with inns, taverns, brothels, etc., serving as lodging for those who either don't want to descend the mountain or are merchants in the market. In this auxiliary city, the no-fighting rule does not apply. The guards of the Wenshan market work in shifts, a day on, a day off. It just so happens they are off tomorrow, so the commander plans to take his men to Fufeng City for a good time and to see the geisha from the capital, who reputedly won't perform even for 3 spirit stones. To give his men a feast for their eyes. The guard commander had a smile plastered across his face thinking about the night's prospects, working even harder than usual. As a guard of Wenshan market, cleaning up the remnants of fights around the market was his duty after all. There was no need for him to get a tip. But the sudden extra money still made it hard for him to hide his grin. Can you fly? Chen Kaiyu walked briskly to the edge of the cliff to the young man he had met earlier. Take me somewhere quickly, name your price. Where to? This young man, dressed as a scholar, lifted his head to glance indifferently at Chen Kaiyu and then lowered it again, speaking casually, the times change so quickly. Is it now fashionable to walk around with a resentful spirit in tow? For cooling off? Chen Kaiyu squatted down to meet the scholar's gaze, calmly stating, no specific location. Within 100 miles, where is there a place with plenty of fierce beasts, but not too many? Ideally, it should be demon beasts that don't act in groups and have a strong territorial consciousness. Also, the strongest fierce beast should not surpass the chi refinement realm. And this place must also be ownerless, not belonging to any force, so hunting there would not violate the laws of Daizai, and no one would obstruct. TSK. The scholar sitting cross-legged on the ground closed his comic book, looked meaningfully at Chen Kaiyu in front of him, and suddenly smiled. There is, naturally, a place just like you described 20 miles to the west. It has no name. In a stone cave at the bottom of a cliff created by a natural crevice in the ground, about several hundred feet from the surface, there's only one kind of demon beast, called human face spider. This is a type of demon beast that cannot break through the foundation establishment stage in its lifetime and doesn't develop spiritual wisdom. It loves a cold and moist environment. Yet, it is a clan of fierce beasts. They reproduce quickly, generally move in groups and never alone, and have an extremely strong sense of avenging their companions. Do you want to go? After a moment of contemplation, Chen Kaiyu nodded seriously. Let's go. How long will it take to get there? 3 breaths. 3 breaths again? Hey. The scholar laughed. In this vast world, everything can be reached in 3 breaths. Fine, but you need to wait for me there and take me back after an hour. Then give me a spirit stone. The scholar then slowly closed the comic book in his arms, carefully stuffed it into his bosom, and as he did so, the bearded strong man whom they had already met once at the base of the mountain appeared beside them without waiting for them to speak again. He saw the scholar raise his right hand in front of him, his thumb and index finger slightly touching, the other 3 fingers naturally stretched out, pinching a Taoist technique and whispering, "Knock." The next second, a green blade longsword quivering continuously violently burst out from the sleeve of the scholar's robe, transforming into a streak of green light and disappearing into the clouds in the blink of an eye. 3 breaths later, the scholar, as if sensing something, his lips moved slightly, and his body instantly vanished from the spot, leaving only a mat made of dried grasses. Before Chen Qiu and the others could react, the bearded strong man standing beside them grabbed their arms, and immediately the surrounding scenery started spinning wildly again. Within less than a breath's time, when the scenery stabilized, they were already standing on a barren plain where the ground was desiccated and full of cracks. Chen Qiu incredulously surveyed his surroundings, not a spirit field in sight, no official road, not a trace of human activity. The area looked as if it had been abandoned and faced severe droughts for 3 years. Looking far to the east, one could faintly see a mountain range enveloped by clouds and mist. That was the Wenshan mountain range, and the market town of Wenshan was thus named after it. Due to its location on the plains with a vast field of view, although he couldn't estimate if the distance to Wenshan mountain range was 20 miles, it certainly wasn't short. This meant they had teleported 20 miles in just 3 breaths. And he also roughly guessed that this scholar's technique, or his cultivation technique, should allow him to teleport to wherever his flying sword could reach, though it's unclear if there were any distance limitations. First, let the flying sword reach the destination, the scholar teleports there, and then the scholar's brother brings them to teleport next to the scholar. With such a method, in this vast world, everything being reachable in 3 breaths isn't an exaggeration. He had wanted to ask Fat Long if the speed of a normal Foundation establishment cultivator's flying sword could be this fast. But seeing the incredulous look on Fat Long, whose jaw was virtually dropping to the ground, he roughly guessed the answer. "We've arrived." The scholar, still sitting cross-legged on the ground, looked towards Chen Qiu and Fat Long with a somewhat gentle smile and said, "The bottom of this crack is where the human face spider cave is." Meanwhile, Fat Long, who had just snapped back to reality, noticed for the first time that this young man dressed as a scholar appeared to have some disability that prevented him from standing normally. Chapter 21. People call him the #1 sword cultivator of Daizai. "Let my brother escort you down." The scholar seated cross-legged on the ground spoke softly. The robust man with the beard standing beside walked directly to the crack on the ground without any hesitation, took a step forward, and soon a thud resounded. The bearded man, who was, in fact, the scholar's brother, wasn't tall. About 6 feet or so. He could even be described as short, but his stature was excessively robust, and he was adorned with beast armor amidst his hemp clothes, complete with a full face beard and extremely abundant body hair. It made one unable to resist calling him a stout man. Immediately after, the scholar seated at the edge of the cliff gestured with a wave of his hand for Chen Qiu and his companion to come to him, reached out, grasped the corner of their clothes, and in the blink of an eye, he had already brought them to the bottom of the cliff. Chen Qiu stood still, surveying his surroundings. The valley floor here was hundreds of feet away from the surface, covered in dead grass and gray stones, the bare rock walls on either side marked with trails from the rainwater. Looking up, the sky appeared extremely narrow. This part of the valley, with neither end visible, was extremely long yet narrow, barely wide enough for 8 people to stand shoulder to shoulder, feeling rather cramped. On both sides of the rock walls, there were honeycomb-like caves. From time to time, a sound like that of a baby crying could be heard, carried by the wind and drifting deep into the valley. "We've arrived. In an hour, my brother will come down to fetch you. Listen for the sound and look up, don't get crushed." The scholar once again formed that familiar Taoist technique gesture and softly said, "Knock." A 3-foot green blade shot out from his sleeve towards the sky, and soon after, the scholar seated on the rock disappeared from sight, and the bearded robust man beside him vanished just as quickly. After the two left, Chen Qiu took a deep breath, his expression somewhat vigilant as he held Huang Shikai's resentful spirit in his left hand, examining his surroundings, prepare for the enemy. His plan was simple. If killing a demon beast in the Qi refinement realm could yield a substantial advancement in cultivation, why should he waste too much time in the Qi refinement stage? Although he didn't have many spirit stones to buy severely injured demon beasts, it would be the same if he killed them himself, just riskier. Moreover, as long as he broke through to the Foundation establishment stage, his pink entry would be able to fully utilize its function. Accelerating his cultivation to reach Foundation establishment as soon as possible was the proper path. Pretty good. Fat Long breathed a sigh of relief, taking out his own life-bound spirit treasure, a long saber called Dragon's Lair, and firmly gripped it in his hand, standing behind Chen Qiu ready to face the enemy together. He and Chen Qiu had known each other for only a day. But the experiences of this day were more thrilling than the 5 months since he arrived in this world. Meanwhile, on the cliff above the valley, The young man dressed as a scholar sat cross-legged in the same spot, looking at the clouds on the horizon with a somewhat absent-minded expression, neither reading nor cracking sunflower seeds, seemingly lost in thought or daydreaming. "Brother." At that moment, the silent bearded robust man suddenly spoke in a deep voice. He was the first to squat down and speak with you. "Why not follow him?" "Him?" The scholar only then reacted, and after pondering for a while, he couldn't help but shake his head and chuckle. "He won't do, he's too weak, and he has no power. He's of no use to us." Long ago, he had been searching for an appropriate master. But he hadn't found a single suitable one yet. He told his younger brother that he needed his master to respect him, at least to squat down to talk to him when recruiting him, instead of making him look up. His younger brother, who had always been slow-witted and extremely trusting of him, naturally believed him. However, none of the forces that came to recruit him did squat down to talk to him, not to mention that none of the family heads or sect masters came to recruit him personally. It was always their subordinates. Those family heads and even the great elders couldn't even be bothered to personally make a trip, as if coming in person for the two brothers would be beneath their dignity. But the bearded, muscular man's voice grew weaker. "Brother, you don't have long to live. You once were Dazaya's #1 sword cultivator, but now your cultivation has fallen to the third layer of foundation establishment. If you don't find a good master, you will die." The scholar sitting cross-legged on the ground summoned a miniature version of a 3-foot green blade, looking at his life-bound spirit treasure which quivered and seemed to possess a spirit of its own in front of him with a complex expression, silently without speaking. He started cultivating at the age of 13, achieved perfect foundation establishment recognized by the Heavenly Tao at 15, and stepped into the Golden Core realm at 24. The initial entry and the entries obtained from subsequent great realms were extremely compatible with sword cultivators. He obtained various entries and cultivation techniques fit for him in several secret realms and grotto heavens. At the age of 27, he single-handedly battled the top 3 ranks of the Heavenly Pride leaderboard of Dazaya, holding his ground, and after 3 hours of fierce fighting, he slew all 3 and sealed their throats with one sword, thereby making a name for himself throughout the world. The world called him the #1 sword cultivator of Dazaya. They called him a young achiever. Being successful at a young age, he naturally thought he was as high as the sky. Afterward, his actions became increasingly willful, even believing that a sword cultivator ought to act on impulse, and those who hesitated didn't deserve to be called sword cultivators. Eliminate displeasing affairs, kill detestable people. He believed there was nothing in the world he couldn't settle, no one he couldn't kill. He offended countless people, yet no one could hold him. The world only knew him as Beiyi, Dazaya's #1 sword cultivator, yet no one knew he had a brother, nor did he know about their shared bloodline entry. Wherever he went, his younger brother was always within 10,000 miles waiting for him. If he met with a mishap, he would immediately teleport to escape. Yes, their bloodline entry for teleportation wasn't limited to 100 miles, but 10,000 miles. As long as he wanted to leave, no one in the world could stop him. His younger brother was somewhat dim-witted. Whenever he came home and told his younger brother about the glory he had outside, his brother always felt puzzled and uninterested, merely advising him to be cautious. He didn't know what caution was. He only knew that he was happy when everyone discussed him, when everyone called him the #1 sword cultivator of Dazaya. He would even deliberately pause and stealthily listen to those admiring discussions about him. But later on, he still fell. There are no eternal legends in Jianghu. His fame in Dazaya was once known to nearly every household, but now no one speaks of him. As if Dazaya had never had a #1 sword cultivator. Or perhaps there was already a new #1 sword cultivator. Just 4 years had passed, and he was dead in the Jianghu. No one discussed him anymore. No storyteller spoke with emphasis and modulation about his deeds. In that battle, he was severely wounded by 3 late-stage Golden Core experts, escaped death through faking it with his entries, his cultivation severely declined, and with bone-devouring poison planted in his body, he had no choice but to change his appearance and name. Taking his younger brother with him, they hid away in a corner of Fufeng City in Dazaya. The only condition for recruiting him was to give him a Heavenly Tao Jade. It cost 3,000 spirit stones. With a Heavenly Tao Jade, he couldn't recover to the Golden Core stage, but he could resolve the bone-devouring poison within him, suffer less daily, not face imminent death, and live a few more decades. In those decades, he could once again protect his younger brother. Though not as glorious as in the past, at least they would not have to worry about food and clothing. But that price not a single force could offer it, nor were any willing to, and he certainly couldn't claim his former title as Dazaya's #1 sword cultivator to justify the price. Chapter 22, Heavenly Tao Talisman, Heavenly Tao Retrospective Talisman. He didn't tell his younger brother the true conditions for recognizing him as master, because he knew his brother too well. If his brother knew, he would definitely sneak into the secret realm on his own or find other ways to earn spirit stones for him. But his brother was naturally simple-minded and of average strength, unable to compete with those who saw deception as a common practice. Since he had fled with serious injuries, he had been afflicted with the bone-devouring poison and was completely devoid of combat ability, possessing only a few cunning tricks. The scholar remained silent, not speaking. He just continued to sit cross-legged, gazing at the clouds rolling by in the sky. He used to have a few good friends. If he approached them using his influence, perhaps he could borrow 3,000 spirit stones. But first, the risk was too high. He wasn't sure whether his former friends would report him, and the bounty on his head was not low. Secondly, he was once the #1 sword cultivator in Danzō after all. He had his own pride. He was unwilling to let those who once knew him well see such a desolate scene of himself. If it weren't for his brother, he would rather die standing than be confined to a seat like a cripple on the edge of a cliff in the Ask the Heavens market, surrounded and gawked at by passers-by like a piece of garbage. And bargain with those forces that were trying to recruit him. All right. The scholar glanced at his brother beside him, whose face was anxious and mouth kept opening and closing without uttering a word, and said softly, "I have a plan in mind, don't worry." His brother was a bit dull and had no real concept of the value of spirit stones, thinking that most people could easily produce the amount he wanted as long as they were willing to stoop down and talk to him, and then he would recognize them as master. But in reality, 3,000 spirit stones, many forces within 100 miles could not produce that amount. Those who could afford it did not regard him highly. He didn't dare to say outwardly that his teleportation range was 200 miles. A golden core cultivator specializing in movement technique could cover 100 miles within 10 breaths, hence 100 miles was often considered the immediate striking range for golden core cultivators. Going beyond 200 miles meant he had surpassed the immediate striking range of 2 golden core cultivators. Then the forces attracted would not be small, those forces knew him. Even if he had changed his appearance, certain subconscious habits that couldn't be changed would always expose him and thereby put his brother in danger as well. If he says 10,000 miles, it might be the Danzō royal family that comes for him. Unfortunately, when he fled heavily injured that day, all the spiritual treasures and the storage ring on him were stolen, leaving only this life-bound spirit treasure that had been with him for a long time. Along with his fallen cultivation realm, it had also become an ordinary yellow-level mid-grade spiritual treasure. Not worth much. Back in the day, when the King Feng's sword was unsheathed, who did not recognize his white-clothed figure? In 3 breaths' time, there was no place in the world he could not reach. Were these merely child's play? Were these just empty words? Yet now, all those past glories only stayed preserved in the comic books tucked in his bosom, drawn by a scholar when his name was known far and wide, depicting his various imposing feats. The title of the book was White-Clothed Sword Cultivator. The book did not chronicle his entire life, but it did capture his life as fleeting as the blossom of the magic flower. Meanwhile, Chen Kaiyu, who was at the bottom of the canyon, was attracting the attention of the human-faced spiders in the cave by continuously striking the ground with his knife blade. The stone caves in the rock walls were extremely cramped, and it was impossible for him to crawl in and fight, as that would be very disadvantageous to him. Soon, in the stone caves on the rock walls, numerous pairs of pale blue eyes slowly appeared at the entrances. Soon after, the first human-faced spider crawled out of its cave and up onto a transparent spider web in the sky. Its eyes were fixated on him, the pupils constantly rolling. The sight was incredibly creepy. This spider was at least 3 feet wide, and its head was embedded with a baby's face, emitting cries like that of a baby within the depths of the canyon, driving them away as if rebuking them. Then the second and third human-faced spiders also emerged. At this point, Chen Kaiyu realized that the stone caves in the rock walls were surrounded by transparent spider webs that were nearly impossible to detect with the naked eye even under the sunlight. Huff. Chen Kaiyu took a deep breath, swung his right hand, and released all the resentful spirits he had stored. Instantly, the surrounding area grew colder, with 10 Chi Refinement Realm 6th layer and 1 Chi Refinement Realm 8th layer resentful spirits, along with the demon beast resentful spirits he had slain in the Ask the Heavens market, rushing toward the stone caves all at once. They wreaked havoc on the spider webs and provoked the human-faced spiders. The cultivation of these human-faced spiders was not low, and they liked to swarm and attack. He couldn't afford to be careless. Resentful spirit summoning was only a green entry, but it was particularly useful. Any creatures killed by his resentful spirits could also be transformed into his own resentful spirits. He didn't understand why such a handy entry was only green. He felt it should be at least yellow. But at that moment, he had no time to think further about this. Provoked by the resentful spirits, The human face spiders were already lunging towards them with cries as sharp as those of a baby. Excellent. Chen Kaiyu, gripping the collar of Huang Shikai's clothes with his left hand, brandished the knife in his right, slightly bent his legs. As the first human face spider approached, he let out a fierce shout, using Huang Shikai to block the mid-air lunge of the spider, then brought his long knife slicing down. With just this one strike, the human face spider was severely wounded and fell to the ground. He took another step forward and landed another blow, as a flurry of white light floated up from the corpse of the human face spider and burrowed into his body. He had no time to celebrate this minor gain, however, as more human face spiders screeched and charged towards him. Die. Just as Chen Kaiyu, drenched in blood, once again cut down a human face spider that had lunged at him, his right hand holding the sword instinctively scanned his surroundings for the next target. However, there were no other living creatures standing in the entire canyon apart from him. The ground was littered with the corpses of human face spiders, their scarlet blood splattered deep within the canyon. Fat Long was also lying exhausted nearby, panting heavily. For him, the intensity of the battle had been rather extreme. Neither of them was seriously hurt, and most of the blood on Huang Shikai came from the human face spiders. And it was as he killed this last human face spider that he suddenly felt a surge of warmth coursing through his body. Sensing something, he used introspection and saw a panel enveloped in clouds and mist appear above his donjon. Cultivation has greatly increased, officially entered the 8th level of the Chi Refinement Realm. Please choose one of the 3 random entries below within 10 breaths. 1. Entry name, every plant and tree. Entry level, white. Entry effect, each time you break through a small realm, you will receive 3 spirit stones. 2. Entry name, start from scratch. Entry level, white. Entry effect, the quality of your foundation establishment will slightly increase, but each time you fail at foundation establishment, your cultivation realm will fall back to the 1st level of the Chi Refinement Realm. 3. Entry name, never discouraged. Entry level, white. Entry effect, when you fail at foundation establishment and your cultivation falls, the cultivation progress you gain from killing demon beasts in the Chi Refinement Realm will increase 100-fold. Chen Kaiyu looked at the 3 entries that had popped up in front of him, his mouth slightly agape, a flash of agony in his eyes, his face distorting slightly, and the hand gripping the sword also bulged with veins. Individually, these 3 white entries were rather mundane. They were the kind that were somewhat useful, but not all that impactful. The first entry would be considered a 7-colored term for ordinary people with no great ambitions for cultivation. 3 spirit stones for each small realm breakthrough could ensure a wealthy life for the commoner. The second entry could only slightly increase the quality of foundation establishment, but if you failed at foundation establishment, you would have to start from scratch at the 1st level of the Chi Refinement Realm. As for the third entry, it was basically next to nothing. Even if your cultivation fell back to the early stages of the 9th level of the Chi Refinement Realm after a failed foundation establishment, only a little was needed to reach great perfection. Even if the progress from killing demon beasts during this time was 100 times faster, it would just mean returning a few days sooner to Chi Refinement Great Perfection and then preparing for foundation establishment again. But if he could own all 3 entries simultaneously, with just a bit of startup capital, it was unthinkable. As long as he had enough time, and if there was no limit to the number of times he could attempt foundation establishment, the number of spirit stones he could produce daily might surpass even the output of a spirit stone mine. If after his cultivation fell he could reselect previously discarded entries, that would be an absolute takeoff, but this thought seemed impractical upon reflection. But why? Why? Why could he only make a selection of 1 out of the 3 entries, rather than choose them all? He did not immediately make a choice within 10 breaths, but instead, his expression twisted in pain as he turned his head with the last bit of hope toward Fat Long. Fat Long, is there any heavenly or earthly treasure that allows one to select previously discarded entries? In this world, when everyone first reached the 1st level of the Chi Refinement Realm, they had no choice but to use whatever entry they were given, and if they were unlucky, they just had to suck it up. From the foundation establishment stage onward, every time you broke through a great realm, you had to choose 1 out of 3 entries. There was sufficient choice, allowing cultivators to compile the most suitable combination of entries for themselves. Seems like there is. Fat Long, although not understanding why Chen Kaiyu suddenly looked like this, furrowed his brow and thought before quickly responding, definitely, I've seen it on an auction list at the Asking Heaven Market. There's a talisman that can only be produced in the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm, called the Heavenly Dao Retrospective Talisman. It allows cultivators to reselect previously discarded entries. But the price isn't low, nothing from the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm comes cheap. And also, it can only select an entry discarded during the last 3 choices. Like if you are a nascent soul cultivator, Then you can only choose from the remaining 2 entries that were discarded when you broke through to the Nascent Soul stage. You can't choose discarded entries from the Golden Core stage breakthrough. If you had other opportunities during the period after your ascension to the Nascent Soul stage, acquiring an additional 3-choice entry, you couldn't even choose the discarded entries from the Nascent Soul breakthrough, only the last discarded entry from the most recent 3-choice opportunity. As for below Foundation Establishment, in the Chi Refinement realm, there's no choice, you use what you're given. At most, you can choose 1 discarded entry. If you want both discarded entries, then you'd need to buy 2. What's up? Fat Long looked at Chen Kaiyu with some confusion. Brother Chen Kaiyu, why did you suddenly ask about this? Chapter 23, how about a raise of 500 yuan every year? It's fine. Chen Kaiyu suppressed the excitement in his heart, took a deep breath, and forcefully pushed down the emotions inside him. After all, there was hope at last. He immediately chose the first white entry. Every plant and tree. Almost at the same time, he saw a large amount of spiritual energy suddenly begin to condense in front of him, and in the blink of an eye, it formed into 3 low-grade spirit stones that fell to the ground. The entry he selected awarded 3 spirit stones for every breakthrough in a small realm, and this breakthrough was included as well. Ah! Fat Long looked befuddled as he gazed at the 3 spirit stones that had condensed out of thin air, somewhat unable to react. Could the spiritual energy in the air really gather into spirit stones? What kind of operation was this? Chen Kaiyu did not address Fat Long's confusion, but instead tilted his head and asked, how much does that Heavenly Dao Talisman, the Heavenly Dao Retrospective Talisman, you mentioned just now sell for at Wenshan Pavilion Market? It depends on the grade. Fat Long patiently explained, the Heavenly Dao Retrospective Talisman is divided into 4 grades, low, mid, high, and top grade. Among them, a low-grade retrospection charm can only be used on cultivators below the Foundation Establishment. In other words, you can only reselect the discarded entry from the 3 choices you had during the Chi Refinement realm. But there are no 3 choices for entry levels in the Chi Refinement realm, so the low-grade charm sells for the cheapest, just 50 spirit stones each. And the higher you go, the more expensive it gets. A mid-grade retrospection charm starts at 500 spirit stones and up, and that is only for the discarded entries from the 3 choices during the Foundation Establishment stage. After all, think about it, the higher your cultivation, the higher the entry level you can randomly access. By the time, a high or top grade Heavenly Dao Retrospective Talisman might be equivalent to a golden or pink entry, and no matter how expensive it is, people will scramble to get it. Moreover, it must be said that Fat Long's intelligence sources are indeed very rich, and he is naturally suited for exploring new worlds, but Chen Kaiyu already lacked the patience to listen any further. All he heard was one thing, that a low-grade Heavenly Dao Retrospective Talisman cost only 50 spirit stones. Ordinary people had no use for it, but he happened to be able to use it. Even so, the price was already comparable to 10 low-grade yellow-level spiritual treasures from the Heavenly Dao Secret Realm. Just then, the resentful spirit of Huang Shikai in Chen Kaiyu's hand had completely vanished between heaven and earth, and at the same time, he gained almost 30 more resentful spirits of human face spiders around the 7th or 8th layer of the Chi Refinement Realm. This was another crucial method to use at a key moment. This green entry was really useful. Before the two could further converse, they suddenly heard a piercing sound of something tearing through the sky. They looked up instinctively, only to see a bearded, burly man plummeting straight from the sky. The two of them hurriedly dodged out of the way. Boom. This was the first time the two had seen the bearded, burly man fall from the high sky before them and smash into the ground, creating a sizable crater. He got up from the ground as if nothing had happened, patted his buttocks, grabbed their arms, and then the 3 of them vanished on the spot, leaving only a mess behind. All right. The scholar sitting cross-legged on the ground, upon seeing that Chen Kaiyu and his companion had hardly any injuries, flashed a hint of surprise in his eyes but still smiled and said, "Next, I should send the 2 of you back to Wenshan Pavilion Market. We'll meet again if fate allows it." Wait a moment. Chen Kaiyu looked serious as he stared at the scholar seated on the ground and said earnestly, "Didn't you say this morning that my offer was too low? Work for me, I'll give you 3,000 spirit stones in one go. And 500 spirit stones every month from here on out. And to increase the monthly payment by 500 spirit stones every year, how does that sound?" The scholar, who had been subconsciously preparing to refuse, found his mouth gradually gaping open upon hearing the price. A one-time payment of 3,000 spirit stones? And then a monthly salary of 500 spirit stones? That was far more than he had expected. His expectation was a one-time payment of 3,000 spirit stones as a fee for risking his life, after which he wouldn't need a monthly salary, as long as he had food and shelter. As long as he had enough to buy a heavenly Dao Jade to remove the bone-devouring poison from his body and live a few more years, he would be content. But the young man before him was offering him 3,000 spirit stones straight up. This was the most anyone had ever offered him. Honestly, it was hard to refuse. It's just that. The scholar quickly came to his senses, sizing up Chen Kaiyu's clothes and appearance with an indescribable twist in his expression. Sir, are you sure you can come up with that many spirit stones? Or are you promising now to then go back and apply to your family for the funds? Honestly, this man in front of him didn't look like he had that many spirit stones to his name, nor did he seem like the scion of a great family. No matter how low profile a scion might be, they wouldn't wear these plain linen clothes. Positive. Chen Kaiyu squatted down with a serious expression, looked the scholar in the eyes, and said quietly, "It's not just anyone offering you this, it's me. I have no family backing me, I'm alone in the Jianghu. My power might not be great, but the treatment I offer you will not be low. However, I need you to give me 5 days. I can give you the spirit stones in 5 days. During these 5 days, you will need to work for me. Even if I go back on my word after 5 days, you wouldn't have lost much by doing 5 days less work. How about it?" Phew. The scholar silently stood in his spot, looking up at his younger brother beside him, who was looking back at him with anticipation. After a long time, he hoarsely said, "Fine, but let me clarify in advance that my brother and I were injured years ago and have almost no combat ability. Our only skill lies in our ability to travel quickly. You can't expect us to defend you. Understood? That's enough. How should I address you, sir?" "Chen Kaiyu." "All right." The scholar sitting cross-legged on the ground struggled to sit up straight, then leaned forward slightly and said in a quiet voice, "I am known in the Jianghu as Scholar, having lost my own name years ago." Scholar has met Mr. Chen. The bearded strong man standing by signaled his presence with the same seriousness, straightening his posture and formally bowing to Chen Kaiyu. "Good." Chen Kaiyu responded with equal delight, "Good." With these two joining his service, many of his plans could be significantly accelerated. It was good they had no combat ability, otherwise, with his current limited strength, he wouldn't have been able to control two such capable fighters. This was much better. He had encountered these two earlier this morning and thought they would command a much higher price. It turned out that 3,000 spirit stones were enough. At this moment, Chen Kaiyu clearly didn't realize that if he were to earn 3,000 spirit stones by chopping wood, Danzō would have fallen 3 or 4 times over before he had amassed that sum. If it were such a small amount, these two brothers wouldn't have spent several years in the Qishanfeng market unable to find a good master. With both of you joining, I believe we will soon make a name for ourselves in Danzō. But there's a small issue at the moment. Chapter 24, Heavenly Dao Blessing, Secret Realm re-emerges. Chen Kaiyu coughed lightly with some lack of confidence, and then he spoke softly, "Actually, I'm not an ordinary person. I am the current young master of a major family from outside of Danzō, who unexpectedly fell into Danzō and lost all my cultivation. This led to the problem that I can't open my life-bound storage ring hidden inside my danshan, as there's no spiritual energy to activate it. I must use a secret technique to extract the spiritual energy from spirit stones to barely crack open a slit in the life-bound storage ring within my danshan, thereby retrieving my former wealth. Not much, just 100 spirit stones. You two have been doing business here in Wenchu's market for quite some time, haven't you? Have you earned 100 spirit stones? I wonder if you can lend them to me first? Within 7 days, I will return them along with the agreed-upon 3,000 spirit stones." As his words fell, the three of them, including Fat Long, all stood in stunned silence, their faces a mix of confusion and embarrassment. Even Fat Long, who was known for his thick skin, felt a bit ashamed as he awkwardly twitched the corners of his mouth. "Mr. Chen." After a long silence, the scholar finally spoke in a complex tone, "You guys even scam disabled people, huh? If you're going to scam, can't you at least refine your methods a bit? You should at least try to dress it up. Such a lowly scam makes me feel insulted. I'm serious." Chen Kaiyu knew his words sounded absurd and could hardly offer any good explanations, so he could only say as sincerely as possible, "I can't provide a more convincing argument. You'll have to judge based on your own experiences." He really needed those 100 spirit stones. With those stones, he could buy 2 Heavenly Dao retrospective talismans, then find a corner to hide away, and then reselect the 2 Heavenly Dao terms he had previously discarded. By rapidly increasing his cultivation and then quickly dropping it back to the Qi Refinement Realm first level, he could acquire a large number of spirit stones. From the first level to the 11th level of the Qi Refinement Realm, there are 10 realms, and each realm could grant him 3 spirit stones, making a total of 30 spirit stones. As long as he kept repeating the process of failing foundation establishment and starting from scratch, he could obtain an infinite supply of spirit stones. With an initial investment of 100 spirit stones, he could earn 1,000, 10,000, or even 100,000 spirit stones. Just like that. The four of them stood silently at the edge of the cliff, gazing at each other, and the atmosphere gradually became awkward. Fat Long started to look around in utter despair. It was apparent that the negotiation would collapse soon, and under such circumstances, the others would likely just leave without helping them. They were a full 20 li from Wenjing Market. There were no roads in sight. It was a god-forsaken place where not even birds would relieve themselves. It would be a significant challenge for them just to get to a populated place without starving to death in this wilderness. All right. Just then, the seated scholar suddenly nodded. Mr. Chen, I believe you. I'll lend you the 100 spirit stones. He did not know why, but something suddenly possessed him to take a gamble that the two people before him were not swindlers. Perhaps it was because after waiting in Wenjing Market for several years without hope, he had become somewhat desperate. Suddenly, a lifeline had appeared, and even though he knew it could break at any moment, he wanted to grasp it. At that moment, Heavenly Dao blessing, responding to the sincere call of the residents, the Heavenly Dao bestows a blessing. 3 li west of Fufeng City, beside a stream, a Heavenly Dao secret realm will appear, only accessible to cultivators at the Foundation Establishment Stage 6th level and below. The type of secret realm is Assault. It will open in 5 days. An announcement from above the 9 heavens reached the ears of the few. Is there actually an Assault-type Heavenly Dao secret realm appearing near Fufeng City? A look of surprise crossed the scholar's eyes, then he calmed down and thoughtfully said, no wonder I've felt recently that quite a number of forces are sending people to Wenjing. But that's not right. Does that mean someone can now predict in advance where the Heavenly Dao secret realm will appear? It's the Heavenly Dao terms. Chen Kaiyu was also in a good mood at this point and said with a smile, we received news that the Huang family of Fufeng City will soon bring into the open a Heavenly Dao term. Now it seems it's likely within this Heavenly Dao secret realm. But such a big commotion has probably made the Huang family's secret-keeping efforts over these days completely futile. Heavenly Dao terms? The scholar shook his head and denied, no. This is a Heavenly Dao secret realm that only cultivators below the 6th layer of the Foundation Establishment stage can enter. It is indeed possible for Heavenly Dao terms to appear there, but such a low-level Heavenly Dao secret realm definitely contains not only Heavenly Dao terms but other valuable treasures as well. Moreover, where the Heavenly Dao secret realm will materialize is absolutely unpredictable in advance, only heaven knows. The value of Heavenly Dao terms is very high, with a price of at least 1,000 spirit stones. It's an entry that can be passed down through bloodline relations. Passed to sons, not daughters, only male direct descendants can inherit it while females cannot, which ensures that generally, a family's Heavenly Dao terms are rather stable, without the risk of birthing a daughter who marries off and then the family's Heavenly Dao terms become another's. The effects of Heavenly Dao terms are completely random, they can be both a curse and an inheritance. For instance, there might be an entry that increases the speed of cultivating movement techniques by 30%. Or there might be one that doubles the sword control speed. Or possibly one that slows down the sword flight speed by 10%, and so on. And so on? Fat Long opened his mouth in confusion. Are all Heavenly Dao terms like this? There are no other effects? Like having 3 heads? None, said the scholar, his expression calm as he explained. Heavenly Dao terms all relate to the cultivation speed and effectiveness of a cultivation technique, either enhancing or reducing them. How much they increase or decrease by is completely random. There are advantages and disadvantages, all depending on luck. Moreover, Heavenly Dao terms are individual, they almost have no synergistic effects with other terms. Just like there's an ancient city about 300 miles away with a family known as the Kaiyu family. Their ancestors managed to obtain several Heavenly Dao terms in the past, including one that reduced their sword flight speed by 90%. Heavenly Dao terms are deeply ingrained in one's bloodline and cannot be removed, forcing the members of the Kaiyu family to rely entirely on flying demon beasts and official roads for travel. Nobody cultivates sword flight as it is barely faster than running a few steps. And not one sword cultivator has emerged from them in a century. Most families' inherited Heavenly Dao terms have both benefits and drawbacks. The battle style and cultivation direction become fixed, and most of the direct descendants can only follow the preset path. The advantage is that the family has walked this path countless times and is very smooth at it. The downside is that the weaknesses are too obvious. I remember that in Danzō, there is only one great family whose Heavenly Dao terms are all positive without a single negative term. That family is the Zaya family, also the current Danzō imperial family. That the Zaya family's ancestors managed to continually obtain positive effects from over a dozen Heavenly Dao terms, without a single negative one, can only mean they were favored by the heavenly Tao. No other explanation can be found. Some small families are very envious of these heavenly Tao terms. Selling for around 1,000 spirit stones is not a problem. Especially for families like the Huang family of Fufeng City, who are at the foundation establishment stage, this counts as a great opportunity. The Huang family probably doesn't earn 1,000 spirit stones in a year, so whether they use it themselves or exchange it for spirit stones, it's a good deal. But the scholar paused for a moment before speaking softly. If the news you mentioned is true, then this involves two separate matters. It's indeed the case that the Huang family has found an imminent heavenly Tao term opportunity, but the arrival of heavenly Tao terms causes no disturbance whatsoever. Fortune favors those who find it. And this trial type of heavenly Tao secret realm just happens to be blessed upon Fufeng City. Having two heavenly Tao secret realms blessing Fufeng City within just a few days, and with the added arrival of a heavenly Tao term, truly is a strange occurrence. Could something big be happening in Fufeng City soon? He pondered with some confusion for a good while without reaching any conclusion, then he continued. Trial-type heavenly Tao secret realms are about completing challenges. With each successful challenge, a participant receives a substantial reward, and the risk of death is very low. Such realms can often accommodate a large number of participants. Within these 5 days, various powers within a few hundred miles will likely send people here to let their disciples undergo trials while competing for the opportunity. The next 5 days will be quite lively. Chen Kaiyu nodded his head, took the storage bag handed to him by the scholar, took a deep breath, and then looked towards the horizon and spoke softly. First, take me back to Wenshan Market. With his current strength, he wasn't yet capable of fighting for opportunities in this heavenly Tao secret realm. However, the secret realm wouldn't open for another 5 days. What the scene would be like in 5 days was hard to predict. Chapter 25, The Divination Dares Not Exhaust, Fearing Heaven, Earth, and Ghosts. With the addition of the two scholars, short journeys had already lost their meaning for Chen Kaiyu. Teleportation out of thin air was possible as long as they didn't encounter a powerful being who restricted space, basically making the whole world accessible. In the blink of an eye, he had returned to the Wenshan Market and arrived at the auction house Fat Long had mentioned. Zhao's Commerce. It was said to be a fairly influential family business, primarily generating income through trading and auctions. The low-grade heavenly Tao retrospective talisman he needed was here, not as an auction item but sold separately in the shop. Can't it be a bit cheaper? Fat Long stood in Zhao's Commerce, gazing at the shopkeeper and earnestly haggled. How about 10 spirit stones each? Hardly anyone needs these, as you know, and no one will buy them if they're too expensive. The shopkeeper glanced at Fat Long with a strange expression and said, if no one needs them, why are you buying it? If no one buys it, how can it have a price? Of course, if someone buys, then it has a price. 90% of people in the Qi refinement realm don't even get a chance for 3 choices on the entry level, but there are opportunities in this world, and this item is prepared for these people. Since you came to buy, it means you need it. 50 spirit stones is really a fair price, it can't go any lower. Fat Long was momentarily at a loss for words, his argument seemed logical, and he couldn't refute it. Let it be at that price. Chen Kaiyu did not want to delay any further, as time was of the essence to him. He paid and took the 2 low-grade heavenly Tao retrospective talismans, slipping them into his storage bag, and then walked out of the shop. Chen Kaiyu didn't stop as he walked out of the shop, heading straight towards the outskirts of Wenshan Market along the main path, with the 2 scholars waiting for him at the old spot. He had killed the 7th elder of the Huang family, but the Huang family either hadn't received the news yet or was too preoccupied to seek him out, at least for now. No further news had come. At that moment, young friend, please wait. An elderly man with silver hair sat by the street, holding a tattered black flag, stopping his way and saying, I see many wandering ghosts and heavy resentful energy on you, your brow is darkened, I fear there may be a bloody disaster soon. 1 spirit stone, and I can calculate for you, perhaps saving your life. And on that black flag, 2 rows of somewhat crooked letters were embroidered with white thread. Fate dare not be fully told, fearing the heavens and the spirits. Words cannot be fully expressed, fearing the world falls into chaos. Chen Kaiyu glanced briefly at the fortune teller without stopping, merely nodding slightly to show he was aware, and continued walking forward. It was unclear whether the old man was speaking offhand or had truly perceived something. Indeed, many wandering ghosts adorned him, but they were just resentful spirits. He knew his own affairs, these were all his methods, not some specter possession. He soon left Wenshan Market and arrived at the cliff's edge. Just as he was about to speak, he saw 2 scholars on the edge of the cliff, gazing far into the horizon, seemingly observing something unknown. Chen Kaiyu followed the scholar's gaze, his eyelids twitching slightly, a trace of shock flashing in his pupils. In the distant clouds just below the cliff, a middle-aged man about 40 yards tall, with a giant sword over 30 yards long on his shoulder, was calmly stepping on blossoming lotuses in the air, approaching the Ask Heaven market under the watchful eyes of countless people. Goodness! Fat Long couldn't help but slightly open his mouth in disbelief, stunned on the spot. With a smash of that sword, even if it weren't sharpened, merely the blade itself could kill a large group of people. Was this a cultivator? This wasn't much different from the giant clan, was it? Meanwhile, the seated scholar softly said, "This person is called Zhao Yishi, ranked 107 on the Dazaya Heavenly Pride leaderboard, with a cultivation at the 6th level of the Foundation establishment stage and no family backing him. In his early years, he was an ordinary loose cultivator, who later supposedly had some great fortune and subsequently joined the Kashin sect. He possesses a pink entry heaven-reaching giant. With each demon beast he kills, he grows taller by about an inch, and his physique also enlarges. It's a strong body cultivation pink entry, and he has only become a known heavenly pride in recent years." "That doesn't sound right." Fat Long, standing to the side, looked at the robust man approaching them, stepping on blue lotuses, and said in confusion, "Killing one demon beast increases his height by an inch. After all these years, he's only 40 yards tall? Shouldn't he also be over 100 yards tall by now? With his strength, he could specifically target weak but numerous demon beast groups to kill. It should be easy, right?" The scholar nodded and explained softly, "The pink entry level is extremely high, something that ordinary people could never possess in their lifetime, but most pink entries don't directly convert to combat power. Take the heaven-reaching giant pink entry, for instance. Pink entries only have one effect, which is to allow some aspect of you to increase boundlessly, like the heaven-reaching giant's height and physique, just like I know a pink entry called I Have a Sword, which makes your flying sword speed increase by a minute amount with every demon beast you kill. And in the cultivation world, where talented and powerful individuals abound, having a body over 40 yards tall has almost no use, becoming more of a sitting target, the focal point in a crowd. Only by gathering some compatible entries, like entries that increase bodily strength with size, or certain matching cultivation techniques, can the full power of a pink entry be unleashed. Otherwise, a single pink entry isn't very strong. The power of pink entries lies in their rarity and their boundless growth potential. To truly bring out the strength of pink entries, however, you must possess other entries that match well with them. It's just. In this world, there are countless entries, and aside from those obtained by breakthroughs in great realms, acquiring additional entries through other means is incredibly difficult. Without these matching entries, his stature, no matter how tall or large it becomes, is meaningless. And with this appearance in the heavenly Dao secret realm, his cultivation precisely meets the entry conditions. Such a level of secret realm could potentially grant him additional entries. This sudden arrival here likely means he is preparing to enter the heavenly Dao secret realm, taking a gamble. Chen Kaiyu stood in place, looking at the robust man in the sky who, despite being quite far, appeared as though he was only an arm's length away. His expression was complex, and he remained silent. He also possessed a pink entry. Danshan expansion, unique. Moreover, it was the only pink entry, and he had already matched it with a compatible white entry, just waiting to break through the foundation establishment stage and master a spell. Then, his combat power would greatly increase. Only then would he truly have a voice in this strange world. "Let's go." Without saying more, he gestured to the scholar to get ready to move. The scholar nodded in understanding, and as the green peak shot into the clouds, the four people quickly vanished from the spot. Chapter 26, Cultivation Soars, advancing to the 11th level of Chi Refinement Realm. When he reappeared, he found himself back in the familiar desolate wilderness, only at a different fissure deep within the canyon, which was similarly infested with human-face spiders. "Let's get to work." Deep in the canyon, Chen Kaiyu took a deep breath and summoned all the accumulated resentful spirits of the human-face spiders, repeating the previous tasks. With these resentful spirits fighting for him, the overwhelming number of human-face spiders in this location didn't put too much pressure on him. He didn't feel too stressed. Of course, before that, he used 2 Heavenly Dao retrospective talismans to reselect the 2 discarded entries from the 8th level of the Chi Refinement Realm, start from scratch and never discouraged. Fat Long sighed lightly, moved his slightly sore body, and muttered softly, then joined the battlefield wielding his long sword. He was responsible for drawing the monsters, while Chen Kaiyu handled the killing. He knew one thing for sure, Chen Kaiyu had the opportunity to make 3 choices at the Chi Refinement Realm, and although he didn't know the specifics, he was certain that none who had such an opportunity were insignificant. Being with Chen Kaiyu was much safer than venturing alone, at least they could watch each other's backs. At the edge of a cliff over the canyon, the bearded strong man spoke with a hoarse voice, Brother, do you believe Mr. Chen is the young master of a great family from outside the Asia country? Of course not. The scholar sitting cross-legged on the ground couldn't help but laugh. Even you have doubts, how could I believe it? Mr. Chen didn't expect us to believe him when he said that, he just made up an excuse. If I'm not mistaken, there must be some opportunity he finds inconvenient to reveal. But what does that have to do with us? As long as he's willing and able to pay the price, we'll just work with him. Even if we are deceived, then so be it. In this world, no choice comes without a cost. This world is too vast, immensely so. Every moment, a large number of people encounter opportunities. It's quite normal for those who cultivated past the golden core stage to have experienced opportunities. Opportunities aren't rare, surviving long enough is what's rare. The dense mass of human face spiders kept dying, and countless crying sounds of infants drifted through the deep canyon. It was incredibly shrill. The number of human face spiders here far exceeded those they encountered in the previous canyon. Meanwhile, Chen Kaiyu's cultivation was continuously improving. Cultivation greatly increased, officially advancing to the 9th level of the Chi refinement realm. Please choose one of the 3 random entries below within 10 breaths. There weren't any good entries this time. He quickly glanced and chose one white entry. Entry name, Timber Chopping Sacred Body. Entry level, white entry. Entry effect, when you chop wood, it will be more efficient and you won't feel tired. All 3 random entries for this realm breakthrough were useless white entries, but he didn't mind and chose one casually, perfect for using in an entry self-detonation as a trump card. The effect of the entry self-detonation allows for a strike that crosses one great realm of cultivation by self-detonating an entry. If he self-detonated an entry at the first level of the Foundation Establishment stage, the power released would be that of the first level of the Golden Core stage. It's simple and brutal, yet effective. The only downside is that it's somewhat a waste of entries, but he was not short on entries. Soon, the sky had gradually darkened, the stars shifted, and the moon began to emerge above the dark clouds. The canyon was constantly swept by the night wind. Something's off with this weather. Fat Long, visibly exhausted, gasped heavily for breath, hand on his waist as he looked up, noticing the sky had unexpectedly filled with dark clouds, creating a rather oppressive atmosphere. Looks like there's a storm coming. He was now at the 7th level of the Chi refinement realm. Although he mostly drew monsters for Chen Kaiyu to handle, the scattered kills over this extended period had also allowed him to break through to the 7th level of the Chi refinement realm. Damn. Killing these creatures really boosts one's cultivation quickly. On Chen Kaiyu's side, his cultivation was once again undergoing a breakthrough. Cultivation greatly increased, officially advancing to the 10th level of the Chi refinement realm. Please choose one of the 3 random entries below within 10 breaths. Yet again, 3 useless entries. He quickly glanced and once again selected a white entry. Entry name, Alchemy Posture. Entry level, white. Entry effect, your success rate in producing pills will slightly increase. He wondered if this white entry had appeared before. Was the chance of randomly getting this white entry so high? He also didn't know how many types of white entries there were in total. He would look in the markets later to see if there was any information about an entry database for sale. While pondering over these trivial matters, Chen Kaiyu, feeling somewhat fatigued, sat on the ground taking deep breaths and took out a leather water bag from his storage bag, gulping down its contents. Meanwhile, at his side, there were about 50 to 60 resentful spirits of human face spiders fighting for him. If resentful spirits could endure longer than an hour, there would have been even more human face spider resentful spirits fighting for him. Continue. After catching his breath briefly, Chen Kaiyu stood up from the ground again, gripping the handle of his knife with a determined look as he once again charged towards the countless human face spiders surging toward him. This task was definitely more exhausting than chopping wood. But it brought much more positive feedback than chopping wood. Normally, a mortal could earn more than 100 yen in gains from chopping wood each day, but since he had crossed over as an unregistered resident, he could only sell the wood he chopped at low prices to others, earning a meager profit, not even enough to cover his meals. Finally, after chopping for an unknown duration, Chen Kaiyu felt his whole body sore and a black cloud had formed overhead, seemingly about to bring a rainstorm and gusting winds at any moment. And he had finally broken through to the Chi refinement realm, level 11. Cultivation greatly increased, formally stepping into the Chi refinement realm, level 11. Please make a choice among the following 3 random entries within 10 breaths. 1. Entry name, Flawless Body. Entry level, white. Entry effect, after you turn 18, for every additional 10 years you maintain a flawless body, you gain a random entry. 2. Entry name, Stealing Jade and Flowers. Entry level, white. Entry effect, after you turn 18, for every person with a flawless body entry you break, you gain a random entry. 3. Entry name, all in. Entry level? White. Entry effect, all entries you own will be forcibly cleared. Thereafter you cannot obtain or keep any permanent entries, but you will gain 10 temporary entries every day. Chen Qiu looked at the panel in front of him, sighed lightly, and this was already the third realm breakthrough without getting an entry suitable for him. All 3 entries were of little use to him. Especially the third entry, not only was it useless, but its side effects were also very severe. His livelihood relied on entries, and to have them all forcibly cleared would be utterly nonsensical. Without thinking further, he casually selected the flawless body entry. So far, including this entry, he now had 3 completely useless entries that could be discarded at will, forming a not-so-small trump card. If the situation turned critical, the heavenly deficiency entry that enhanced his 5 senses could also be discarded. Having many entries was always good, even if useless, just consider them as fireworks for fun. Chen Qiu stood in the canyon, looking upward at the black clouds above, as the gusty wind gradually swept through the canyon, chilling his hemp garments. After a night of struggle, the surrounding area was littered with the corpses of human-faced spiders. And his cultivation had now reached the 11th level of the Qi refinement realm. He only needed to fill the progress of the 11th level of the Qi refinement realm to reach great perfection, and then he could begin foundation establishment. The progress was much faster than he had anticipated. Chapter 27. From now on, I, Chen Qiu, will be your benefactor. The sky grew darker and darker, with not a sliver of light visible, as boundless and endless black clouds spread across the wilderness overhead, and the howling wind in the ravine sounded like ghosts and deities roaring, capturing one's soul. Though no raindrops were seen, the sense of impending rain could be felt. This weather. Fat Long, who was panting a bit, looked up at the sky and couldn't help but mutter softly, "This weather doesn't seem like it's about to storm normally." Under normal circumstances, if the black clouds have been accumulating for so long, it should have rained by now. Couldn't be some ancient demon emerging, could it? Fat Long's face changed slightly as he realized something and quickly spat 3 times in succession. Tui, tui, tui. Chen Qiu glanced up, ignored Fat Long, and instead tightened his grip on the knife at the remaining human-faced spiders around him, which he had frightened quite a bit. But being mindless fierce beasts, even though they clearly were facing death, they still charged towards him in the cold wind after letting out several sharp screams. The slaughter began once again. The cultivation progress from the 11th level of Qi refinement to great perfection wasn't much, and after about half an hour, Chen Qiu sensed something and practiced introspection. Plenty of spiritual energy surged through the meridians in his body. At this moment, his physical strength was far greater than when he was at the 7th level of the Qi refinement realm. He could probably beat 10 Fat Longs at the same time. If the Huang family's 7th elder appeared before him again, he wouldn't even need to summon a resentful spirit, he himself could defeat the elder. Only, he could faintly feel that the spiritual energy in his meridians was somewhat insufficient. He had broken through several small realms continuously tonight, and his meridians had indeed widened a lot, but he had not absorbed spiritual energy, which meant that although the container had expanded, nothing had been put inside. He had to fill his meridians with spiritual energy, which would greatly increase his chance of successfully reaching foundation establishment. With insufficient spiritual energy in the body, the failure rate of foundation establishment was very high. But he was seeking failure. Ho! After taking a deep breath, Chen Qiu sat down cross-legged on the spot, focusing all his attention inward, and started to operate his mental method to slowly gather the spiritual energy in his meridians toward his danshan. With the gathering of spiritual energy, the Tao Foundation platform gradually took shape above his danshan, shifting from illusory to solid, and the name of his entry was slowly appearing upon the Tao Foundation. Seeing that the foundation establishment process was already half done but the spiritual energy in his meridians was not enough to complete it, the Tao Foundation platform, which was about to solidify, instantly collapsed when no more spiritual energy flowed in. Almost in an instant, the aura of cultivation on Chen Qiu's body began to plummet swiftly. Qi Refinement Realm 9th level. Qi Refinement Realm 6th level. Qi Refinement Realm 3rd level. In merely the blink of an eye, Chen Qiu's cultivation had fallen to the 1st level of the Qi Refinement Realm. The backlash from the failed foundation establishment caused Chen Qiu to spit out a mouthful of bright red blood with a taste of rust, splashing onto the gray-yellow rock ground in front of him. "Brother Chen Qiu, are you alright?" Fat Long, who was sitting by Chen Qiu's side to protect his cultivation path, saw this and was suddenly shocked, becoming somewhat panicked. "You weren't forcing your way into foundation establishment, were you? I thought you were just operating your mental method to recover your spiritual energy. Brother, what's the rush? You were immortal just yesterday, and now you want to force your way into foundation establishment? There's no need to push yourself so hard." And how did you suddenly drop to the first level of chi refinement? Even if foundation establishment failed, you shouldn't have dropped back to the first level of chi refinement realm so quickly. I'm fine. Chen Qiu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and carefully sensed his body's condition. There wasn't too much of an impact. The spurt of fresh blood was sudden due to a sudden decrease in physical strength, which his body wasn't quite accustomed to, causing some capillaries to rupture as a result. Afterward, he raised his head to look around. Dozens of badly injured human face spiders remained in the vicinity, all that was left of the local canyon's population. Originally, there must have been a group of them, now reduced to so few by his hand. And these few dozen severely injured human face spiders were deliberately spared by him, precisely for this moment. He casually waved his hand, indicating for a resentful spirit of a human face spider protecting his vicinity to rush forward and kill a badly wounded human face spider. At the moment of the spider's death, Chen Qiu's Danshin overhead continuously burgeoned with panels enveloped in clouds and mist. Cultivation greatly increased. Cultivation greatly increased. Apostrophe. Merely by killing a chi refinement realm level 7 human face spider, his cultivation soared like it was riding a rocket, instantly reaching the 7th level of the chi refinement realm. At the same time, spiritual energy began to gather abruptly in front of him, eventually forming 18 spirit stones that fell from midair onto the ground. Not bad. Sitting cross-legged on the spot, Chen Qiu looked sincerely happy as he watched the scene before him unfold, laughing more heartily than ever since his arrival. It meant that all his conjectures had succeeded, just give him enough time. He could earn enough spirit stones to buy the entire cultivation world. And because of the white entry never discouraged, the cultivation progress he gained from killing demon beasts after a failed foundation establishment was 100 times faster. It was for this reason that he could reach the 7th level of the chi refinement realm in an instant by killing a level 7 demon beast while at the first level of the chi refinement realm. It's just that each small realm breakthrough only yielded spirit stones and did not offer him another chance to choose one of 3 entries. That seemed normal, however, or else these entries should not simply be white entries. What is this? Fat Long looked on with a dumbfounded and incredulous expression at the dozen or so spirit stones appearing out of nowhere, as well as Chen Qiu's cultivation aura suddenly returning to 7th level of the chi refinement realm in a flash, completely at a loss and feeling somewhat dazed. Just a little trick. Chen Qiu was in quite a good mood and patted Fat Long's shoulder, laughing. To me, you are a benefactor. Without you, I could not have embarked on the cultivation path yesterday. But from now on, I, Chen Qiu, will be your benefactor. As long as I live, you will never be captured by the flower offering sect as a supplement like before. Unless I create my own flower offering sect. After making a casual jest at Fat Long, Chen Qiu was unwilling to dawdle further. The cultivation progress required for subsequent small realm advancements was much higher. He had to kill 2 more human face spiders at the 8th level of the chi refinement realm before he smoothly advanced to the great perfection of the chi refinement realm. Again, he obtained 12 spirit stones. Thus, in less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, 30 spirit stones easily fell into his hands. And the well-practiced Chen Qiu once again quickly attempted foundation establishment and failed swiftly again, plummeting back down to the 1st level of the chi refinement realm before rapidly returning to the great perfection of the chi refinement realm. In Fat Long's view, Chen Qiu's cultivation was like a roller coaster, dropping to the 1st level of the chi refinement realm in the blink of an eye, then just as quickly returning to the great perfection of the chi refinement realm, with an accompanying shower of spirit stones appearing all around him. Spirit stones kept materializing out of thin air, falling to the ground. Thud, thud, thud. Another 30 spirit stones appeared scattered out of nowhere and fell to the ground, with Fat Long who had already been waiting nearby swiftly pocketing these spirit stones into his storage bag, then looking up somewhat sheepishly at the sky above the canyon. He was a little afraid of being discovered by those 2 brothers. Although he did not understand what kind of trick Chen Qiu was pulling, one thing was certain. If Chen Qiu's method of endlessly creating spirit stones out of thin air spread, the 2 of them wouldn't live past 3 days. Chapter 28, Heavenly Tao Imperial Decree, bestowing the Heavenly Tao Foundation Establishment. I didn't know how much time had passed. By all accounts, it should have been daylight already, but the dark clouds in the sky showed no sign of dispersing. Instead, they thickened, and the perpetual twilight left Fat Long gradually losing his sense of time. Yet, there was only the promise of rain without a single drop falling. By this point, Fat Long's legs were already shaking. Motherfucker. Fat Long's eyes were red-rimmed and tearful, his face a picture of despair, with a deep unease in his eyes as he continuously stuffed spirit stones into the storage bag he held. He had lost count of how many he had put in. All he knew was that his storage bags were all filled up, and he even had to take a few more from Chen Qiu's brother's embrace, otherwise, there wouldn't be enough storage bags. At first, he was excited. So many spirit stones, enough for them to make a name for themselves in this strange world. But as the number of spirit stones grew, so did his fear. Once word got out, the two of them would probably become public enemies in an instant. There was such a thing as too much, his appetite couldn't handle so many. Meanwhile, Chen Qiu remained sitting cross-legged, maintaining the same posture for who knows how long. He had already killed all the human face spiders around him and had no demon beasts left to kill to improve his cultivation progress. He was ready to move to another location. But who could have expected? Perhaps due to the drastic changes in the sky, a large number of human face spiders from deep within the gorge suddenly surged towards him, fleeing for their lives. These spiders were like fuel to his fire, providing him a tremendous boost. Thanks to this, he could stay in the same place without having to move. From initially vomiting blood after every failed foundation establishment due to discomfort, to later adapting so that failure no longer necessitated vomiting blood. Perhaps due to failing too many times, he felt somewhat dizzy. Just when his cultivation reached the peak of the chi refinement great perfection and he was ready to go through the motions of another failed foundation establishment attempt, a wispy, ethereal voice suddenly reached his ears. Heavenly Dao decree, the Heavenly Dao has sensed, within 100 miles of Fufeng City in Dazia country, that Immortal of Iron Will has persistently failed at foundation establishment 999 times yet continues his relentless efforts. Such perseverance is commendable. He is bestowed with Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment in the hope that all may follow his example. This ephemeral voice from beyond the heavens echoed across the skies of Dazia, causing countless people to look upward, listening intently to the Heavenly Dao decree with puzzled faces, visibly shocked. Clearly, they had a hard time believing it. However, these people were not admiring the mortal's determination. They were somewhat baffled, wondering is foundation establishment so difficult to break through that one could fail 999 times in succession? Logically, the more one fails at foundation establishment, the narrower the Tao Foundation becomes, signifying that it can hold less spiritual energy. They didn't dare imagine what a Tao Foundation would look like after failing more than 900 times, if it weren't for the timely Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment, probably, just using a low-grade yellow-level spell would completely deplete the spiritual energy in the Tao Foundation, if it could be released at all. It was unexpected that by a stroke of misfortune, one would gain Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment. Seeing these four characters, many in the Azia country cast envious glances toward Fufeng City. If they had known that failing at foundation establishment 999 times would grant them Heavenly Dao Foundation, they would have tried it sooner. Now, some Chi refinement realm cultivators were also getting ideas, wondering if they too could receive this reward after 999 failed attempts. Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment, as the name implies, is a Tao Foundation built on the principles of the Heavenly Dao. It's only obtainable under extremely rare and special circumstances and can only be acquired during the breakthrough to the foundation establishment stage. Since the founding of Dazia country, very few had the Heavenly Dao Foundation. Without exception, those who had it were the anomalies among prodigies. The last famous cultivator to receive it was a sword cultivator, but he is already dead. The benefits of the Heavenly Dao Foundation are simple and brutal. The foundations are extremely stable. Whether it's the speed of absorbing spiritual energy or the sturdiness of the Tao Foundation during battle, it's several times stronger than a regular foundation. Moreover, if one can later break through to the Golden Core stage, the Golden Core formed on the Heavenly Dao Foundation will be far superior to a regular Golden Core. There's another immensely powerful benefit. The Heavenly Dao Foundation doesn't require one to run a mental method, it can rotate on its own to absorb spiritual energy. Although it's slower than running a mental method, this means that even while you're sleeping, relieving yourself, or eating, your Tao Foundation is rotating to absorb spiritual energy and improve your cultivation progress. It's essentially a means of production. When the Heavenly Dao Imperial Decree reached his ears, Chen Qiu discovered that the surrounding spiritual energy began to rush into his body uncontrollably. He wasn't even running a mental method, but the spiritual energy rapidly filled his meridians. In the blink of an eye, they were full, and under his introspection, his Tao Foundation solidified quickly. In the blink of an eye, foundation establishment was successful. A Tao Foundation that was 110 centimeters wide and 100 centimeters tall rooted itself atop his donjon. The whole Tao Foundation was white jade in appearance, with faint golden liuguang flowing over its surface. It was this unremarkable golden liuguang that made the entire Tao Foundation look extraordinary. The names of the entries he possessed were neatly engraved on the surface of the Tao Foundation. He hadn't prepared any foundation establishment pills that could enhance the quality and success rate of foundation establishment, nor had he prepared any heavenly materials or earthly treasures. Logically speaking, his should have been a standard centimeter Tao Foundation. but because he possessed an entry that could slightly enhance foundation establishment quality, his Tau Foundation's width reached 110 centimeters. At this moment, the Tau Foundation was slowly rotating, trying to draw in the spiritual energy from the outside world. But, after turning for quite a while, it didn't draw in a trace of spiritual energy. Mr. Chen, whose cultivation had reached the foundation establishment stage, was already able to release spiritual energy from his body. He could now fully utilize the power of a yellow-level low-grade spiritual treasure, use spells, and also sense the richness of the spiritual energy in the outside world. However, under his senses, the deep valley at this moment seemed to be completely devoid of spiritual energy. It was like a desert of spiritual energy, and an extremely barren one at that. When Mr. Chen slowly opened his eyes, he saw Fat Long standing anxiously nearby, fidgeting restlessly. "My goodness, you're finally awake." Fat Long's voice trembled slightly, his hands shaking as he handed over 7 or 8 storage bags to Mr. Chen. "The spirit stones are all here. I didn't count them carefully, but there must be more than 20,000. What should we do next? If people find out about this, both our divine souls could be extracted by others. This is the first time I've seen someone think spirit stones are hot potatoes." Mr. Chen took the storage bags and tucked them all into his bosom. He got up and stretched his limbs to feel the strength brought by the first level of the foundation establishment stage. For the first time in this world, he felt a slight sense of security and then couldn't help but smile. Although he didn't count them carefully, he was clear about how many spirit stones there were. 29,970 spirit stones, if nothing unexpected happened. At this moment, he could now channel spiritual energy into the heaven-slaying spiritual treasure long saber in his hand, unleashing the full power of this spiritual treasure. The width of his Tau Foundation currently stood at 110 centimeters. The demon beasts he had killed before foundation establishment weren't included, otherwise, it would have been at least several thousand centimeters by now. Next, he only needed to do 2 things: buy a spell to maximize his power, preferably one produced from the Heavenly Dao secret realm so that mastering it would be instantly successful. Then, purchase more supplementary items like talismans, sound transmission stones, pills, and so forth that could save his life and enhance his combat strength. Secondly, he needed to expand the width of his Tau Foundation as much as possible, to allow his Tau Foundation to contain more spiritual energy. In that way, he would genuinely possess a certain degree of influence in this world, or in other words, the right to live standing up. The thunder summoning technique could only summon a bolt of thunder from the 9 heavens to attack the enemy. Using this mid-grade yellow-level spell at the first level of foundation establishment would often nearly deplete more than half of the spiritual energy in the body. But, if the spiritual energy in his Tau Foundation was abundant enough, then it wouldn't just be any thunder summoning technique. It would be 100-mile thunder punishment, 0-frame strike, instant kill on exposure. Having settled his mind, Mr. Chen, as previously agreed, took out a low-level talisman from his bosom. Upon channeling spiritual energy into it, a streak of red light shot from the depths of the valley straight into the sky. He had purchased this low-level talisman in the market at Heaven's Inquiry Town. It was very cheap, costing only 1 tael of silver. He had casually bought 10 of them at Zhao's shop when he couldn't afford a sound transmission stone, and under those circumstances, it was a better choice for communicating information. When the 2 of them were retrieved by the bearded burly man and brought back to the edge of the crevice above the valley, the scholar sitting cross-legged on the ground looked at the 2 with a complex expression and after a long while, asked hoarsely, "Mr. Chen, what were you doing down there? Is Mr. Chen the same person mentioned in the Heavenly Dao Decree, the mortal near Fufeng City who failed foundation establishment 999 times? The spiritual energy here is already sparse, and all the spiritual energy within tens of miles has been absorbed by the valley below you. The commotion you've caused is no smaller than someone breaking through to the golden core stage." He suddenly felt that Mr. Chen's claim to be the young master of some hidden clan outside of Dazai country might not have been a lie. To cause such a commotion, one must either be breaking through to the golden core stage or must be using a mental method to draw in spiritual energy. A mental method capable of causing such a scene would have to be at least of the high-grade Zhuan level. He had never heard of anyone in Dazai country possessing such a method. They were the stuff of legends recorded in history books. Such an existence isn't something a mere mortal could come across by chance. If it wasn't for the deep heritage passed down by a great family, the chances of a Chi refinement realm mortal possessing such a thing would be hardly better than the chance of getting a 7-colored entry on the first random entry in the Chi refinement realm. Oh, he's not a Chi refinement realm mortal. Mr. Chen is now at the first level of the foundation establishment stage. Chapter 29, Entry Name, Late Bloomer. It's nothing. Chen Kaiyu didn't explain much, just smiled and shook his head. "I must have been out for over a day. Let's head back to Winshan Market first." "A day?" The scholar shook his head. 2 days have passed already, and there are less than 3 days left until the challenge-type secret realm in Fufeng City opens. The weather has been like this for several days now, with no sign of the sun rising. Soon, the group quickly returned to Wenshan Market. The scholar and his brother stayed at the old place, while Chen Kaiyu took Fat Long and the other person into the city alone. Has it been 2 days already? Chen Kaiyu furrowed his brow in confusion. To tell the truth, he really had lost his sense of time. These past 2 days, he felt like an assembly line robot continuously attempting foundation establishment and failing consistently, barely ever stopping. But did this process take 2 days? Moreover, he originally didn't feel tired or hungry, but when he found out he hadn't closed his eyes for 2 days and nights, he suddenly felt somewhat tired, although not too intensely, but the sense of hunger. I'm already at the foundation establishment stage and still feeling hungry. Of course. Fat Long said somewhat helplessly, the foundation establishment stage only extends lifespan. Compared to ordinary people, one has a full 200 years of life, enough to support a family. Many families with a foundation establishment just have one person at the foundation establishment stage. But it only extends life. It doesn't break the need for worldly sustenance. With the sky being this way for days, I also didn't realize 2 days had passed. I only felt very tired. I didn't expect it to have been so long. He looked up at the sky above Wenshan Market. The market was built atop the highest point of Wenshan mountain range, thousands of meters above the ground, where the spread of thousands of miles of dark clouds seemed to hang right above one's head. Speaking of the weather, it truly is bizarre. It gives a sense of security as if disaster could strike at any moment. These past 2 days, he was essentially doing one thing, stuffing the endless spirit stones into his storage bag, his expressions fluctuating between excitement and fear throughout, leaving him no time to even think about sleep. Let's go. Chen Kaiyu shook his head, planning to come out again tomorrow to spend. Let's find a restaurant to fill up our stomachs, then get some sleep. We'll talk tomorrow upon waking. Alright, Brother Kaiyu, aren't the 2 brothers coming? The scholar said he doesn't like to enter Wenshan Market. Probably has his reasons to avoid it, no need to worry about them. Right. He looked at Fat Long with a somewhat peculiar expression. Didn't you used to call me Brother Chen Kaiyu? Why suddenly call me Brother Kaiyu? Cough. Fat Long's expression turned slightly serious and sincere. Among 2 persons walking, the more proficient one becomes the master. Once one is your master, he is like a father for life, and an elder brother is akin to a father. Now that you have reached the cultivator status of the foundation establishment stage, it's only natural to call you Brother Kaiyu. Sounds good. After casually finding an inn to eat something, Chen Kaiyu and the other found a nearby guest house and booked 2 rooms. Chen Kaiyu, though weary, simply washed up and then sat at the desk and poured himself a cup of hot tea to warm his stomach. His eyes closed tight as he went into introspection. A panel enshrouded in cloud and mist was slowly floating above his foundation establishment. Although the panel insisted on making a choice within 10 breaths, as long one didn't perform introspection to view it, it wouldn't count towards the 10-breath time limit. This prevented the occurrence of a critical battle breakthrough where one didn't have the time to introspect within and would miss the 10-breath window. Cultivation has greatly increased, officially stepping into the first layer of foundation establishment phase. Please choose one of the 3 random entries below within 10 breaths. 1. Entry name, Power of the 9 Yins. Entry level, White. Entry effect, has 9 yin. 2. Entry name, Late Bloomer. Entry level, Green. Entry effect, when you have less than 10 years of life remaining, you will gain 3 random entries. 3. Entry name, Focus Power. Entry level, Green. Entry effect, if you learn the Thunder Summoning Technique spell, the power of this spell will be increased by 50%. Looking at the familiar panel inside him, Chen Kaiyu, who sat on the chair, was quite moved. Who could have imagined that just a few days ago, he was a young and robust lad toiling away at chopping wood, not even at the Chi Refinement Realm first layer. A mere mortal among mortals. And yet, a mere few days later, he had become a cultivator at the foundation establishment stage. In this somewhat chaotic world, he finally had a bit of confidence to call his own. Without much thought, he had chosen the 3rd entry from the 3 before him. The first entry was purely a waste of one of his chances to choose. He was not a woman, so why would he randomly get this entry? Or could men also have this entry? What would that make him then? 9 yin 1 beef. He couldn't even imagine what that situation would look like. Better keep that away from him. He actually quite liked the 2nd entry. He liked any entry that could give him more entries, but the conditions to activate it were too tough. After his breakthrough to foundation establishment, he had a lifespan of 200 years, with over 170 years left. That meant to wait for this entry to be activated, at least another 160 years would have to pass, by which time the chrysanthemums would have long wilted. The third entry suited him best. It was his first time seeing an entry that provided an amplification bonus for a specific spell. Choosing this entry meant that you had to follow the path of a magic practitioner, otherwise, the entry would be in vain. This was perfect for him, as he was intending to follow the path of a magic practitioner. After all, with a pink entry like Danshan expansion in hand, it would be a pure waste if he didn't choose the path of a magic practitioner. Time to sleep. Even if the sky were falling down, that would be a problem for tomorrow after waking up. Exhausted to the limit, Chen Qiu stuffed the storage bag full of spirit stones under his pillow before he fell into a slumber, his right hand still clutching the handle of his knife. Dawn broke. Chen Qiu stumbled to the window of the guest room, slightly dazed. Dawn had finally arrived, the dark clouds overhead had dissipated in the night. Looking out of the window, the stone pavement was wet, indicating there must have been a heavy rain last night. After a simple wash, he got dressed and walked out of the guest room, only to find Fat Long already awake, standing outside the door waiting for him, with dark circles under his eyes that clearly showed a lack of sleep. Didn't sleep well? On the main road of the trade area in District 7 of the Wenshan Market, Chen Qiu and Fat Long began their shopping spree for the day. After 999 consecutive failures at Foundation establishment, they had amassed a total of 29,970 spirit stones. This was an incredibly exaggerated number. One should understand that the vast majority of loose cultivators in the Foundation establishment stage didn't have 20 or 30 spirit stones in their pockets. Some disciples from major sects or big families might have a few hundred spirit stones, and those with more might possess a couple of thousand spirit stones. But surely, no cultivator at the Foundation establishment stage walked around with tens of thousands of spirit stones in their pocket. Chapter 30, Entry Name, Self-Extinguishing Root. If the Heavenly Tao hadn't interrupted him by forcefully gifting him the Heavenly Tao Foundation, he definitely wouldn't have stopped after earning just that small amount. After all, something like the Heavenly Tao Foundation can't be bought with spirit stones. It's hard to say whether he made a profit or a loss. For instance, right now, as he was strolling on the main road, the Heavenly Tao Foundation within him was slowly rotating, automatically absorbing the spiritual energy from the air around him to gradually improve his cultivation progress. Although the speed was indeed a bit slow, it didn't require him to close his eyes and meditate on his mental method, effectively allowing him to cultivate on autopilot. The concentration of spiritual energy in the Wenshan mountain range wasn't particularly rich, which should actually be considered common knowledge in the cultivation world. Generally, places with rich spiritual energy were either forbidden lands or had already been claimed by major families and sects. It was unlikely for a marketplace to be situated in a place with rich spiritual energy. First, I'll change clothes. Chen Qiu had wanted to change out of the clothes that Fat Long had given him, which didn't fit at all. They were too loose, giving him a somewhat sloppy appearance. When the two of them walked out of a shop, they were completely transformed. They bought 8 sets. All of them were made from high-quality material. One set cost 2 spirit stones, totaling 16 spirit stones spent. Each of them took 2 sets, and they also brought along 2 sets for the Scholar brothers. In reality, even the best materials were still mere mortal items and weren't worth this price. However, each garment had a mini dust prevention array embroidered with golden silk thread. The function was very simple, it prevented the clothes from getting dusty. Beyond that, they had no other use. Without this dust prevention array, these clothes would be worth at most 10 silver. Fat Long looked down and cautiously stroked the fabric of his new clothes, grumbling discontentedly, but the corners of his mouth couldn't help but turn up. He really liked the material and workmanship. The design of the black and red robe suited his aesthetic very well, making even his big belly look imposing. The only issue was the excessive price. And it wasn't very convenient for fighting. The damn shopkeeper even told him that people who buy this kind of clothes usually don't get involved in fights themselves. But he couldn't deny. It did look good. Chen Qiu chuckled softly without saying a word. He had picked out a green robe for himself and, walking around the ancient town after the rain, he felt as though he had stepped out of an ink painting. He found the dust prevention quite necessary, it could keep blood from staining his clothes. He also bought for himself a quite expensive jade feather fan, worth a whole spirit stone. With a flick of his hand. TSK, it felt really good, much more comfortable than chopping wood. Continue to the next shop. Shopkeeper, come out and serve your customers. Do you have any sound transmission talismans? What's the price? Fat Long strode into Zhao's Commerce, the shop they had visited a few days before, and called out confidently. It had to be said, though the clothes were a bit overpriced, wearing them somehow boosted his confidence significantly. Having crossed over 5 months ago, He hadn't felt this arrogant in a long time. TSK, this feeling is really satisfying, much better than being a supplement in the flower offering set. The shopkeeper who attended to them was the same one as last time. Hearing the loud calls, he hurriedly came out from behind the counter, slightly stunned when he saw Fat Long and the others, recognizing them as the two who had bought the mid-grade Heavenly Dao retrospective talisman a few days ago. Although he was somewhat surprised, he still maintained a warm smile. Of course we have them. Zhao's Commerce has stores throughout the whole Dazai country, and a must-have item like the sound transmission talisman is certainly available. Come this way, please. The shopkeeper led them to a corner of the shop. These are low-grade sound transmission talismans, one mother talisman with 7 child talismans, for use within 10 miles. It costs 1 spirit stone and the spiritual energy within the talisman lasts for 1 year. Next to it is the mid-grade sound transmission talisman, one mother talisman with 50 child talismans, for use within 100 miles. The price is 50 spirit stones. This is generally for families or smaller sects. The one on the top is the high-grade sound transmission talisman, one mother talisman with 300 child talismans, for use within 300 miles. The price is 300 spirit stones. The shopkeeper with slightly graying temples paused for a moment before tentatively saying, high-grade sound transmission talismans are usually used by sects with significant power to recall disciples who are traveling outside or to issue tasks. All these sound transmission talismans can be used for 1 year, after which you need to purchase them again. Which type would the sirs like? How about that one? How much is it sold for? Chen Kaiyu's eyes turned toward the ring displayed at the top shelf of the stand, carefully placed in a half-open jade box. Next to the box was an information card displaying the name of the ring. Sound transmission ring. This. The shopkeeper carefully took down the box and presented it to the two, explaining, this is the sound transmission ring, which is more convenient to use than the sound transmission talisman, whether in terms of transmission speed or distance, it far surpasses the talisman. It's made by dividing a piece of extremely rare material, the mother-child stone, into several pieces, 1 mother ring and 10 child rings. Moreover, it can not only transmit sound but also images. It's generally used by the core true disciples of the major sects or the legitimate offspring of major families. The price for a set is 1,000 spirit stones. There's no limit to its use. As long as it's not destroyed in battle or lost, it can be used indefinitely. Chen Kaiyu nodded slightly. Although he didn't speak, it was clear that he favored the sound transmission ring. Not to mention anything else, but in the midst of battle, speaking into a ring would definitely be much more convenient and faster than fishing out a sound transmission talisman from one's bosom. The price was a bit expensive, but since it could be used permanently, it was worth it. Wrap this up for me, we'll settle the bill together later. He glanced around. Do you have any talismans or the like? Ones for preserving life, attacking, or perhaps for accelerating cultivation? Yes, of course. Even though the shopkeeper, who had white hair at his temples, had seen much of the world and was very knowledgeable, his cloudy eyes nevertheless shone with a keen light. Anyone who could afford the sound transmission ring was surely the son of some major power, and the fact that he had came to buy it himself, without any family accompanying him, indicated that his authority was already considerable, capable of standing on his own. The power behind him must be significant. The sound transmission ring had been on display in this shop for over a decade and wasn't really intended to be sold because no local force within 100 miles could afford such a thing. It was displayed here simply to demonstrate the strength of Zhao's commerce and to show that the price of the few sound transmission talismans below was actually not expensive. He had encountered such sons of privilege in the capital before, buying up talismans as if they were ordering wholesale for a business. It could be a big deal. Right, suddenly, something occurred to the shopkeeper. He pulled out 2 invitations and a list of auction items and handed them over. There's an annual auction event tonight at Wenshan Marketplace. Many items are prepared for this year, and here are 2 reserved invitations. Would you be interested? Oh? Chen Kaiyu took the list of auction items, and initially, he just skimmed it, but his gaze was quickly captured by an entry. You're actually auctioning off an entry at your auction event? Entry name, self-extinguishing root. Entry level, green. Entry effect, self-extinguish 1 bull to acquire random white or green entry. The more you have, the more random entries you'll receive. Of course. Pride written all over his face, the shopkeeper said, after all, it's the annual auction event of Wenshan Marketplace. Many of the items indeed come from Zhao's commerce. This entry is also from Zhao's commerce. We have branches all over Dazai country. Chen Kaiyu had a rather strange look as he turned his head to glance at Fat Long. Brother Kaiyu. With an expressionless face, Fat Long spoke word by word, there are strangers here, save me some face. If it's private, we'll talk later. The shopkeeper, who was about to continue introducing his wares, suddenly looked cloudy-eyed and walked to a set of shelves, muttering, "How come there's dust here that hasn't been cleaned? I'll wipe it off." After the shopkeeper left, with a serious expression, Fat Long turned to Chen Caillou. "Brother Caillou, you once said I was your benefactor. I don't think this behavior quite matches repaying a drop of kindness with a gush of gratitude. What do you think? Don't overthink it." After a slight cough, Chen Caillou spoke in a low voice, "I know, I just thought you might want it. Since you don't, then forget it. But aren't you going to think about it? There are 9 random entries there. Not everybody has this opportunity like you do. Why not buy it first, and if you need it later, we can use it then."